Come on. Save the destination.
Seriously, the beard? I thought the beard had come a long way.
Oh yeah, no, the beard came.
I grew that shit out during the depression of my last breakup.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. This thing is
depression beard. It's come a long way than just the scruff of that meme. The guy who can't grow a beard meme.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those.
Is it a piece of shit, Tim? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
It may or may not be. Hold on, I think I might have got it to work. It says we're online on everything right now.
We're online?
What it says. I'm trying to verify. Somebody say something.
Testing.
It says live.
And we are live.
We finally figured it out, people.
What it do?
Yeah, if you're in the chat, just let us know.
Yeah, Jose Galison is in the chat. What up, man?
We live?
Thanks for testing it out for us. Yeah, we were having trouble trying to figure this restream shit out. We paid $200 a year for this crap, and it doesn't work out well. Soren Dillinger, what up? What up? I see fugly meatcocks. Hey, screw you. we were just talking about how great Mitch looks for his age.
I said he doesn't age. He's got some Benjamin Button shit going on.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna watch the Timcast IRL thing with Michael Heise and Davey Smith on there. It's gonna be fun. We're probably gonna talk over it and stuff. So if you want to watch it raw or whatever, watch it later. Okay, this is a drinking stream. We're gonna hang out. Yeah. And we're still expecting Mara to show up, and who else is going to show up? Rich and Duke are not going to be here tonight. Duke says he has to work, and Rich, I can't remember what his excuse was. Josh is in an affiliate meeting right now. People are doing things. All right, they're too busy for us, but they will be on ASAP. So tonight, the plan. We're starting early because Tim's show starts at 8. We're just going to hang out and, maybe try to come up with a drinking game because this is a 2-drink minimum show. And because Rob isn't drinking and he's actually here right now, he's going to have to double down again.
No, I'm popping in with drinks. I can promise you that.
Okay, there we go.
Right, we're holding you to that.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm popping some champagne tonight because I got my grades back. Your boy has passed all the classes in law school, officially done. So that's
but not a lawyer.
Hallelujah.
Not a lawyer because you got to take the state exam, but that's okay. Or the bar.
Still our legal counsel.
Yeah.
Unofficial. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not responsible for anything that Mara says.
I can give you not legal advice.
There we go.
Yeah.
So what are you drinking, Mitch? What do you actually have?
I have Troublemaker red wine.
There you go.
It's actually really good.
Is that like a $12 bottle? Is it nice?
No, actually, it's pretty. I think it was like $18. So.
Oh yeah.
Pretty good one. I went out of my way for tonight.
I went out and I had, but I decided to go with the Crown and Coke today. Just gonna be a good one. Couple Crowns, couple Cokes.
Our first episode. That's.
I don't know if you're saying something, Rob. You muted yourself.
No, I was just telling my friend here that Mitch came on 2 weeks ago. I was like, I got this really fancy wine. And it was Sutter Home. I was like, no,
I didn't say fancy. I just said I had red wine.
I know. I'm not talking about now. You're upgrading.
No, that's what I was saying. The first time I came on, yeah, it was cheap ass wine. I just tried to say it was nice wine, but I never said it was fancy.
Everyone go back and watch it. Everyone go back and watch it.
I am using some lawyery language right here. I never said it was fancy.
All right, so let us know in the chat what you guys are drinking. I'm telling the other people to get in here as soon as they can. We need a drinking show or a drinking game for tonight. So what are the magic words that Michael Heise, Dave Smith, and Tim Pool and all them are going to say? What are we drinking to?
Takeover?
Afghanistan.
Okay, we don't want to die, Rob.
Yes, we do.
I have work tomorrow. I don't need to die.
You still got the COVID. You can't go to work. You're going to be a little typhoid Mary.
Yeah, don't be a super spreader. Look,
do you guys know what is the show set up for? I'm available next Friday if y'all need a guest. Sorry, I'm so hard to schedule with. Okay, hold on. We do have a schedule for who's coming on right now. Next week is Jeffrey Hahn. We pushed him off. He was supposed to come on tonight. We pushed him once we heard the announcement for tonight's show. Then on the 3rd, we have Hector Ruse coming on to debate whether or not the LPF should run a candidate against Ron DeSantis. And then on the 10th is Eric Cordova, and he wants to debate about whether the LP should be more concerned with running candidates or spreading a message. So those are the two things we got coming up. So if you want to be on, Jose, we'd love to have you on. The 17th is the next available date. So if you can get off on that. About to be drinking PBRs with Ace talking about Benjamin Tucker. Hell yeah. Ace is an interesting guy. I don't know. I'd like to talk to him some more. Do you guys know who Ace Archist is? You guys ever heard of Ace Archist?
I'm not familiar, unfortunately.
I saw he was going on Joshua Smith's podcast, and that was about it.
Yeah, no, he's pretty interesting guy, real smart guy. He did a debate recently with what's that guy's fucking name? He did a debate with somebody about whether or not political violence was ever warranted, and he took the affirmative. Oh, it was with Brad Palumbo. He did that on Lions of Liberty. It's a really good debate. You should go watch. Ace is awesome. What's up, Rich? Rich is in the chat. You guys can't see this chat at all?
We miss you, Rich.
No,
I can see it. I can see it.
Oh, you can? Okay,
yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, it says mobile devices support is limited, so just fuck me, right? That's okay.
I can put it on the stream like that, so all the new ones will come through, I suppose.
Oh, no, I can see it. I can definitely see it now. Nice.
Yeah. Sorry you can't make it tonight. That's all right, man. You can come in near the end. So we're going to be doing a little bit longer than normal. Like we usually start at 9. We're going to start at 7:30, obviously. And we're going to go. Tim's show starts at 8, and then it's a 2-hour show, right? So it's going all the way to 10.
It normally goes over 10 a little bit.
Right.
Doesn't just there's not really a hard cutoff.
Right. So we're probably going to stay like maybe an hour after that. So to our normal time at like 11 at least. We got a lot of shit last time for ending the stream early with what's his face?
Johnny?
Yeah, with Johnny. Johnny was a hell of a time, man. That was a great show.
Oh, Johnny's a trip.
Yeah, that was good, man. Big facts, hit him with it. He's super easy to schedule with. Oh, with Ace? Hell yeah. We'll have to get him on. But you're first because we asked you a long time ago, Jose. So let me see. Can I? Oh, look, I can just pop people's chats in here. This is cool. I like that better. We're playing with new toys, man. We're playing with new toys. You'll try to jump in at the end? All right, man. That works for me. Why are you showing off your lady friend? Get your hand out of her lap. She's driving.
I'm showing off this dog.
The herding dog? I think it's a herding dog. I don't know.
All right, let me...
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Aussies are herding dogs.
Yeah, that's an Aussie. That's what I thought.
Rich would know. He's got a corgi. They're herding dogs.
Little ankle biters, man.
Yeah, those ones are cool though. They ain't like the other fucking ankle biters. Like
they got fluffy butts.
Oh, we got a
I've never had problems with corgis at my job.
You guys, they've got the thing up. They've got a countdown timer on it and everything. We can see how the pros do it. Maybe learn a thing or two.
Who, Tim Pool?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got
Pool.
a roll back.
Yeah, there we go. So while we wait on the show there, they're little assholes. Who's that? The little corgis? Yeah. I don't know, man. I can't do little dogs. We have German Shepherd, Rottweiler, and then an Anatolian Shepherd or Antonio, some kind of Shepherd. It's a herding dog, I guess, something like that. Big one though.
Jesus.
I don't know. Someday my dumpster cat will make an appearance on here.
Your dumpster cat?
Yeah, I got him in a dumpster.
Hey, we should. I was thinking about this too. You want to drop a super chat on the stream again?
Fuck yeah.
100%.
I'll put $10 in on it. We should do it early. We should do it early and suck away all his viewers to come to our no-name stream. Come hang out.
I mean, last time we did it with Will Chamberlain.
You sounded like ass right there. You got the robot AIDS. Yeah, the robot AIDS attacked you that time. This is a terrible screen. That one's not very good either. Contain, it's okay. I'm testing this while his shit is broken.
Oh, we're just screwing around while we're getting ready here.
He popped out. He'll be back. Yeah, man, I'm ready for this. So what are you expecting? Did you hear any announcements about like what's supposed to be happening on this show? Are they there to promote the party? That's what
I think they're there just to talk about, because Dave, every time he's gone on, he's brought up the Mises Caucus, and Tim, although he's not a member of the caucus, he's become more friendly with us over the past several weeks.
Yep.
So I think Dave kind of floated that idea on Twitter some time ago, saying, how about we have Michael come on with me on an episode of Timcast? And it looks like they made that happen. So
nice. Yeah. I've definitely seen that he's, since the election, he's been identifying himself more as a libertarian. And then ever since he had Dave Smith on after that, he's been going on more and more, giving the Mises Caucus high praise. Hey, Joey, what's up, man? Glad to see you here.
I think Michael Malice has been microdosing him with red pills.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, Tim, it's definitely interesting to watch him shift, because I wouldn't say he's completely on our side. He's not necessarily a libertarian.
He keeps calling himself a libertarian.
Libertarian left.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But his libertarian left is a lot different than some of the other people that we've seen out there. You know?
Yeah, but before extra drinks tonight. Hey, that's Pat, you're trying to get us in trouble here.
Careful, Pat. Careful.
I'm sure that we are going to have extra drinks just because, like you said, it's a long show. But yeah. He used to just call himself center left, or like center left progressive-ish type or whatever. And then, but like a hard shift happened, especially after January 6th and everything. He just started like more identifying himself with a libertarian. So I don't know. Tim's always been good though. I've always liked his content, even when I disagree with him.
Yeah, he's a lot like Charlie LaDuff in the sense that even when I don't agree with him, he still comes off as very based.
6 drink minimum. Holy shit, man.
You're absolutely nuts. Especially with this. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well,
there's a reason it's called Troublemaker Wine.
You have a bottle of wine. You could drink a bottle of wine.
Yeah, that's I've been there before with work, and whoo, man.
Christina Baxter says Tim Pool calls himself politically homeless. I know right now, because he was through the whole Trump years, he was like totally off the Democratic train. And then even like during the Trump stuff, he wasn't really on. And go ahead.
I mean, when I first started tuning into him, he was kind of like, he was saying stuff like, yeah, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I just feel very disenchanted right now. And I don't know. It seems like since then I've kind of watched him drift more and more away from your typical. I mean, there was a time when I was listening to him that he was saying like stuff about gun control, and then the riots happened, and he was like, "Oh no, fuck that."
Oh yeah, he shifted hard on that.
Oh yeah.
Jose says, I almost called you Joe Gallison. Jose says, Tim is super overrated. Decent content though. Centrism personified. Yeah, the milquetoast fence sitter.
Yeah,
that whole trope. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I've been watching Tim for a long time. He's always had, like you said, good content. I don't know. He plays it safe, right? Like, and that's why he has 3 channels with over 1 million subs on each one.
Look at it this way. Out of all the original people who are from the original Vice team, he's the only one who remained awesome.
Oh, you didn't like, what's his face? You didn't like Gavin?
Yeah, he's okay. I've always...
Gavin was fun to watch. He was entertaining.
I mean... Did you ever see when him and Charlie LaDuff like duked it out on LaDuff's show?
No, I don't even know who this LaDuff guy is. Every time you say his name, I think of Hillary Duff.
Oh, dude, what the fuck's wrong? Okay, I'm gonna have to. I'm sending you his audiobook. I'm sending you. I would love to have LaDuff on the show. I think he's too big for us though.
Nah. You just show him your show that's like more professional, and then you trick him and then bring him onto this one.
I mean, technically, I really think he does need someone better on the tech end. But that's a whole other thing. But. No, LaDuff wrote 2 good books, Detroit and American Autopsy and Shit Show, The Country's Burning and the Ratings Are Great. Nice. And it's very, he's the one who I've made the joke a few times on the show and in our Discord that LaDuff was the guy who at the beginning of Shit Show, Fox didn't give him and his team press passes So they literally just went to FedEx, made their own press passes, and printed them out. And throughout the rest of the book, they're using those press passes to get places. Like a little motif throughout the book.
I was going to plug our stream on Tim's chat, and then I realized Swamp Creatures isn't subscribed to Tim, so we have to wait 5 minutes.
Really? They set that up?
Yeah.
Damn,
Yeah.
Tim, what the hell?
Tim Crosby's better than Tim Pool. That's goddamn right. We're just going to leave
There
that
can
there.
only be one.
There can only be one, and I'm the best. Hey, you know what? Speaking of which...
Tim, if you need some help, I got you.
Yeah. I have stuff around here somewhere. Yeah, no, speaking of which, my wife has decided that I was right all along, and our son will now be named Timothy 3. He will be the third in a line of Tim Crosby's.
Tim the Third.
Here, entertain for a second. I gotta grab something.
I don't know what to do. Oh, man. Yeah, no, LaDuff is based, though. More libertarians haven't heard about that guy, but he's really good. Not necessarily a libertarian, just kind of in that same realm as a good journalist, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a sword somewhere, and I was trying to find it. Because you pulled out your little knife. I got this big-ass katana.
Oh, my shitty little medieval knife.
Yeah, man. 6 minutes
Thing's
until
dull
the
as
show.
hell, man. It's a fucking show knife.
So how long until Tim starts being a guest speaker at libertarian conventions?
Tim Pool?
Yeah.
Like
what?
I don't know. I mean, I could see us hosting him, but
I'm wondering how they're going to do this show. If they're going to talk about the caucus and the problems with the party, or if they're just going to like cover the news like normal.
I feel like they're probably going to do
it's-
both because
yeah,
they wouldn't be having Heise on too if they weren't going to also talk about some of the stuff with the parties.
It's going to be the news because look at this here. There's some InfoWars stuff here. Owen Schroyer, FBI issues warrant for InfoWars reporter Owen Schroyer. What?
Owen, really?
Really? What did he
He's
do?
like the least. He's like the least crazy one of them. You know?
Okay. So I was watching.
He reminds me of your typical conservative.
I was watching InfoWars when Owen first came on, and when he first came on, I was like, this dude is like, he's trying very hard to imitate Alex Jones and be like the successor, and he fills that role quite well. So, I mean,
he reminded me of what's his name, Michael Savage. You know, just not your typical conservative, but still not really on the Alex Jones area.
And they're charging him for January 6th riots.
Really?
Yeah,
wow, of course.
Let me see. Yeah, I can pull it over here, and you can.
Jose makes a good point. Like that would be a major power move if he brings them on and then doesn't even talk about the LP stuff.
Yeah, no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like, yeah, they're probably going to talk about the news, but come on, they gotta talk about the LP a little bit. You know, can't just not do that.
So I'm gonna read the article before Tim does. I'll be Tim better than Tim. In a new complaint filed.
You
on
don't
Friday.
have the beanie.
Yeah, well, I don't need it because I have hair. Oh, sick burn. Okay. InfoWars host Owen Schroyer is facing criminal charges in connection with the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol. In a new complaint filed on Friday, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington charged Schroyer with illegally going into a restricted area on the Capitol grounds in disorderly conduct. So.
Oh, he was there? I didn't even know.
Well, this, I can't, not without taking down Tim's stream. I can't share two screens, but yeah,
gotcha. Suffice
it to say, there's a picture of him with his hands behind his back and whatever. I'm sure they'll show it on the show. Yeah, I didn't know you had a warrant served or whatever. That kind of sucks for him. Oh, we still have 3 minutes.
Alex Jones here.
Hey, Alex is great, man.
No, Alex is awesome. Oh, I would love to have him on here. That would be a fun episode.
Everybody would like to have Alex on.
Everyone would like just not even have an episode. If we could just drink with Alex Jones.
When is Alex going on Tower Power Hour? That's what I want to know. Jose. Did y'all see, what does this say? Did y'all see the news about Biden banning commie guns and ammo? What do you mean? No, I don't know.
So no more AK-47s?
Yeah, like what do you mean commie guns and ammo?
No Kalashnikov?
I'm gonna have to wait and see what that is all about. That's got my interest. I was trying to explain Alex Jones to my wife earlier. I don't know what Explain him how. The meme side of Alex or the serious side of Alex? Let's see here. Hopefully Tim lets his guest speak on this episode. I don't know.
What Han? Or no, that was different Jeffrey.
No,
Never mind.
Different Jeff.
Other Jeff.
Yeah, well, there's like 4 of them, so they're multiplying. Yeah, maybe Jeff knows what the hell you're talking about. No Russian guns or their ammo can be imported. So we can make AKs here. We just can't import them from Russia. Okay.
But it's not the same. I mean, come on. That's like
Jose, trying to get the Taliban on first. Hey, you probably could, man. You probably could.
I mean, shit, you heard about that mad lad in Dubai, the mad lad dude who went over to Afghanistan, right? The British kid.
I did hear about that, yeah.
What was funny was I watched his interview with Dankula, and apparently, like, when he was being escorted to the airport, some of the Taliban guys were like they knew who he was.
Wow.
He's famous over there.
So when you say you're legit trying, you're just like, you're just contacting them through their Twitter account. We have that dude booked. Wait, which? Oh, the Mad Lad. You guys have the Mad Lad booked?
Oh, you got the Mad Lad, Lawrence of Kabul.
Yeah, well, I'm like showing every damn chat. I want to know the answers to my questions. I want the bottom of it. I want the documents. God damn it. He said, "Yep." So yeah, the Mad Lad's going to be on Tower Power.
Lawrence of Kabul. That's going to be fun.
All right, boys, we're getting down to the last minute here before the show starts.
So drinking game rules. I guess the takeover.
Republicans, Democrats, duopoly, libertarian. We're drunk.
Our former disgraced chairs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Both of them.
Do you think they're actually going to name him, or are they going to go along with this block stuff, or they're just going to like ignore them? Have you seen that? They've been block Sarwark and block Archie. Those things.
Archie.
Yeah, both of them. They're just like totally ignoring them from now on.
Wow, that's hilarious. No, I saw Sarwark, but I didn't see Archie. That's funny.
But yeah, Josh.
When our elections come around, I'm planning on getting him and the Fakertarians to endorse you guys.
Hey, that's cool, man.
When we're planning on having an election on who the leader of the swamp is.
Oh,
here we go.
Can I make it full screen? I want it.
And now we're going Mystery Science Theater mode.
Yeah, full screen. That's not full screen. There it is. Okay. Let me make sure the audio is on. That would be great.
Timcast.
Oh, we can do here we go. This is Mystery Space Science Theater right there.
There we go. In the not too distant future.
Yeah, Jose did start that shit. That's right. Give credit where it's due.
Good job, Jose.
He's the one that started the Block Sarwark movement. Yep.
I mean, I saw like some shit.
InfoWars reporter Owen Schroyer just announced.
Sorry, you could talk over.
The FBI
we were talking
has issued
about this.
A warrant for his arrest because apparently he was standing on the steps.
You guys let us know how the
January 6th
audio
riots.
levels are.
This is interesting.
You can hear
BuzzFeed
us,
has a
or
report on
what's
it,
up?
and apparently someone tipped off the feds, and now he's got to turn himself in on Monday. So we'll go through that story. And at the same time, we have a report from the FBI basically debunking the whole insurrection narrative. They said none of it was planned, no coordination. Trump did not coordinate or plan it. Yet we still see what I think it's like 570 people have been arrested and charged. The charges are pretty intense, but we'll go through all that stuff with that story. And then we've got to talk about these vaccine mandates. In Australia, they have imprisoned a man for 8 months because he was organizing a protest. It's draconian, and it's here. And then we got New York. And what New York is doing is shocking. The New York mandate, for those of you that have listened to the show for the past week, it's going to require businesses to fire any employee with a disability, barring them from vaccination. This is a shockingly draconian measure. So we'll talk about all that. We're being joined by the Mises guys. Got Dave Smith. Well, do you guys want to just introduce yourselves? I'll just throw it to you guys.
Oh, that was our
absolutely.
chat.
I'm
Did
Dave
I put
Smith,
that in?
and
Damn
this
it.
is the chair and founder of
I meant to
Mises
put that in their
Caucus, the
chat.
great Michael Heise.
Thanks for having me. And I have to give a shout out. I know he's not here, obviously, but I got to give a shout out. Today is actually Ron Paul's 86th birthday.
Hell yeah! Happy birthday, Ron!
Oh, we're big fans.
Let's
we
go.
have his picture still taped to the door, I think, don't we?
I think so, yeah. I believe so.
So when it was Christmas, Luke
That's
came
okay.
here.
We want to be slightly
and he
louder
put
than Tim.
Ron Paul on the top
I'll
of
turn
our
us
tree
down a bit,
because
though.
he's both a star and an angel.
It might just
That's
be
what
me.
Luke said. And then with the tree down, Luke just taped Ron Paul to like one of the doors in the house. It's been there for almost.
We gotta
a year
get Luke
now.
Can I tell you,
Rudowski.
man?
We're fans, so
Happy birthday! to
That
the
would be
great Ron
great.
Paul.
I got my
what
Polish
I love
brother.
so much about Ron
Yeah.
Paul is just like
He can park his
I know
RV
you
in
like
my
to share,
driveway
and
anytime.
It is hilarious and accurate, but that meme of
It'll
the
be more fun.
libertarian
I don't know
ideas
if
and
it'll be more
libertarian
fun.
candidates.
Tim's a millionaire.
But then, even for all the people, like all the right wingers who like will come on this show and other shows and kind of be like, well, the libertarians get this wrong and they get this wrong, and then you're like, okay, now do Ron Paul, and you're like, oh yeah, you know what? That guy was.
He did have one
right
bad
about
vote.
everything.
One bad vote.
He was literally, as we're in this country that's on a suicide mission, all the things that are killing the country, Ron Paul was completely right about. The wars, the debt, the currency being destroyed, the militarization of the police,
Just
the
don't get
entire
Luke
war on
act like
terrorism.
he's a gun expert.
And also, by the way,
Oh, don't
he was
let
right
him.
about COVID and the lockdowns and all of that from day one. People were mocking him when he called the whole thing a hoax and just an excuse for government authoritarianism.
you mean the lockdowns hoax?
The lockdowns, yes.
Yeah,
The whole COVID regime, this whole
Right.
like justification for like all of these draconian measures.
To clarify for Draconian YouTube, COVID is serious. You're saying that
COVID is a very nasty virus. All of the government
You're gonna die if you
responses
get
have
COVID.
been horrendous
Don't get
and
COVID.
stupid and done nothing to mitigate the virus. But just
back you
to
up,
say
Tim.
that is basically what the Mises Caucus is about, is that we represent that wing of libertarianism, the Ron Paul real libertarianism, serious, not
Come on, Mike.
defending
Don't let him sell your product
dumb
for you.
woke stuff.
Get in there.
Not defending like silly corporatism and stuff like that. The real tradition of Mises, Rothbard, and Ron Paul.
Did you see Jack Dorsey tweeted Rothbard?
Yes.
Sure did. I sure did, Tim.
Okay, this I can hear.
I don't know. I
what
think
to
he's just
make of
trying
that
to
yet.
break my brain and confuse me.
Anatomy of the State, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the pamphlet.
Which is, by the way, go read Anatomy of the State if you haven't. It's the most powerful 60-page essay pamphlet you'll ever read in your life.
I thought that was hilarious because all the libertarians were tweeting like a nuke had dropped. Like Jack Dorsey,
Yeah, it was kind
of
of
Twitter,
random.
This
Came
like
out of
woke,
nowhere.
He just
Simulations
tweeted
for-
it. He just tweeted it.
Well, from what I hear, he's like gotten real into Bitcoin and stuff, and so
Oh, yeah.
maybe he's going down this rabbit hole. So
This is the one
Jack,
good thing
if you're
about
listening,
Bitcoin,
Thank you
is
for
it brings
tweeting
everybody
that,
to
and stop kicking
libertarianism.
people off your platform.
Yeah.
He doesn't own it anymore. That's the
Come,
problem.
Tim.
He's like 6% or 2%
That's
of the
okay.
company now.
Join
so
us.
That's when they start
Explains a lot.
figuring out stuff.
He's an example of a free market and cap Bitcoin enthusiast technologist that got co-opted by the corporate state because they took him, they paid him a bunch of money, then they took his company, they bought his company from him. Now they use his face to try and sell the brand.
Well, I also wouldn't be surprised. I think they basically not so implicitly
See this?
threatened
This is
all of the
real
big
money.
tech,
I got that
guys.
too.
And that's
Yeah.
like the truth is that if
Show
you look
me your
back at
Bitcoin.
the social media
The
scene
node's down there
in
below the desk.
2015, 2016, as we all
Not so
remember,
hard if
it
you
was the
plugged
Wild West.
me
And I
and
mean that
Dave's
as a
epi-
libertarian,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the highest compliment.
Yeah,
Wild West was
Yes.
the greatest time in the history.
You
of
know
the
how
world.
you get that to happen?
And so
Is you give a
remember, there
$10
were
super
people out
chat.
there who would just be like, even really bad
They added
people
50 subs
who
to
you
our
probably
list.
wouldn't want to hear from,
Do it.
but they were just out there advocating their views. No one was getting booted off. It was a completely
And to be fair, I think
free-for-all,
Mitch spent
free
30
speech
bucks.
zone. And then what happened was, Donald Trump won. And the corporate press needed some narrative as to why this would happen. It couldn't be because Hillary
Shitting on
Clinton was
Ian.
just such a transparently awful person. It had to be because of fake news on social media. And they dragged him in front of Congress and basically, mafia style, threatened all of them. Like, what are you going to do to crack down on this fake news? They had a huge influence in creating this censorship environment, which is awful.
Well, we'll get into all that stuff, and Ian's chilling, and you've already heard from him.
You know how it is. Sup,
What are you
dude?
drinking,
In
bitch?
2007, I remember Obama and Ron Paul. Very serious to me. I took both serious, but I was afraid Ron Paul was going to be like Darth Vader. I kept getting this weird feeling like,
What the fuck is this
Darth,
shit?
If he gets into office, he's going to be like Darth
Sometimes
Vader. And I know
Ian
what
is
that
so
meant. It was
based.
like
Other
he was gonna
times
bring
he
great
comes off
balance
as
to the
that
Force.
hippie that smokes
And what
way
did that
too much
mean in
weed.
modern day? He
Yes.
probably would have repealed the Federal Reserve Act.
Second one.
Yeah.
I don't know about
more
that.
than the
That
first.
doesn't make him Darth
Completely
Vader.
upset our monetary system.
I'd imagine Darth Vader the one being proposing,
Right.
I
I
was
was
a
a-
central bank for the Galactic Empire.
I was afraid of him, and I was like, Obama's the hero. I'm going with Obama. Ron Paul makes me afraid, probably because
Rich
he
says he'll put in
would've
20 towards the
ruptured
super
this,
chat.
this crap system
Do it.
early,
And I
rather
got
than
10
let it
on
get
it.
to where it's got.
You
to.
do it.
I would
What
imagine.
mean?
Yeah, see,
interesting.
But I think that's the myth. I mean, the
Isn't
truth
it set
is
up
that
on somebody
Obama
else already?
Is really the
All right,
one.
I'll check.
I mean,
it's
I
George
did it on
W.
my
Bush's
personal
fault.
account.
But
If you could do it
Obama
on the
bears
Swamp
so
Creatures
much of the
YouTube,
blame
that'd be
for
really good.
ruining the country because Obama
Yeah, I
was
mean,
the one
I'll
who
log
was voted in as a counter to George W. Bush. Like, the country rejected George W. Bush, so we went, okay, we're going to go all the way over with this very progressive constitutional lawyer, progressive named Barack Hussein Obama. That's how much we hate George W. Bush. And he doubled down on Bush's policies, brought the war in Afghanistan and Iraq to Libya, Somalia, Pakistan, Yemen, and that really, coupled with the record high spending, is what broke the whole system. So whatever fear you have of Ron Paul, Obama's what left us with all of this.
We'll get into all that. We got Lydia pressing buttons.
I'm also sitting in the corner. I can already tell it's going to be a great conversation.
Oh, yeah. They're saying that because they've already got like $200.
When
I don't apologize. I'm coming in hot. It's Ron Paul's birthday. I'm not even letting intros get out here.
Like, all right, calm down. We got this. When Jack tweeted that, I sent it immediately to
Go, Dave, go!
Dave, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at that.
What do we want it to say?
Luke tweeted.
Mises Caucus Watch Party?
That is how I saw it. Is that you sent it to me, and I went, that's got to be like a fake picture,
joke, right? He got hacked.
I clicked on that. I was like, wait, seriously?
Yeah, Rothbard. All right, everybody. Before we get started, we have a great sponsor. We have BioTrust's ageless multi-collagen. Go to
I thought you said there was no commercials.
StrongerBonesAndLife.com,
is this shit?
and you can get
make money
51%
somehow.
off of your supply of
hey, if we were
ageless
getting
multi-collagen,
sponsored
you know
by
what I mean,
Raid
stuff?
Shadow
It's
Legends,
good for your
you
joints
don't think
and your
that we
skin
wouldn't
and
do
your
this.
bones. And my
No,
friends,
we'd make fun
I
of
am an
that
old
shit.
man.
We need to
I
get
type
sponsored
my
by
skate all
Fleshlight.
the time.
That needs to
I
be our
recently
first
started wearing knee
sponsor.
pads for the first time in my life
Hey,
because
just
I kept
think
falling
about it.
and I
It
was
was
like,
Joe
you know, my
Rogan's
knees
first
hurt now that
sponsor.
I'm
So
old.
if we get
Not
them
like
as
an
our
old
first
man
sponsor,
kinda
we'll
hurt,
be
but
just
I'm
like
like,
Joe Rogan.
Do they
I'm starting
even
to
still
feel something
sponsor
that, you know, in
people?
those knees. I better start chugging this ageless multi-collagen from BioTrust.
Yeah,
So
Mike
go to
didn't get an intro at
StrongerBonesAndLife.com and you
I
get a
don't know.
60-day
I don't know.
money-back guarantee. The healthy aging support
I
of
love
collagen
Mike,
is
but
ideal
this is his
forms
first
5
time
key
on a
types of
podcast,
collagen you need
so
from 4 different
I
sources.
don't know. We'll see how
For
well
every
he
order
does.
today,
On aging?
BioTrust will donate a nutritious
Bullshit.
meal to a hungry child
Well,
in your
this
honor
is the first like
through their
major one
partnership
that I've
with
ever seen him on. I don't think I've ever seen him
To
on.
date,
like,
BioTrust has
anything
provided
that
over
wasn't
5
Mises
million
Caucus.
meals to
Correct
hungry
me if I'm
kids.
wrong.
Please help BioTrust hit their goal
Nah.
of 6 million meals
Yeah, no,
this
I don't
year.
think so. Like, as far
It
as
is
major,
non-GMO,
I turned Tim
free of
down while he's
artificial
talking
colors,
about this
flavors,
shit. He's still
preservatives, sweeteners, free
full
gluten,
force in my ear.
antibiotics, and
Has he been on
RBDH
Tom
and
Woods?
RBST. Nearly no odor or taste, unlike
Yeah,
bone broth
yeah,
or other
I think
collagen
so.
supplements. There's no
After New
clumping,
Hampshire,
unlike
right?
other collagen
Okay, yeah,
supplements.
yeah,
Free
he was.
shipping with every
Those two,
order.
he was on
And here's
there.
the best part: free
Yeah.
VIP live. health
Damn
and
you,
fitness
John
coaching
Bishop
from
henchman,
BioTrust
stealing all of our
team
glory
expert
in Florida.
nutrition and health
What do we want our
coaches for
super
life
chat to
with every
say?
order.
Give us some
And their
ideas in the
free
chat.
e-report, the 14
We're gonna
facts
throw
for
like
amazing
30, 40
skin
bucks, something like
with
that.
I did the
every
last
order.
one,
That
so.
that VIP health
Yeah, I know.
and fitness stuff.
I like
mean,
that one that you
people
said,
get
though.
healthy.
Was,
There's one thing you can do
not
right
PG
now,
or
with all the ratings
PC
in the
or
world,
something
Yeah, we're
like
not.
save yourself. Start
Yeah, no,
there.
that was
Go for a
good.
walk. If you go to BioTrust,
It was a good tagline.
StrongerBonesAndLife.com, they support
Exactly.
the show. You can support them, 51% off, and you get that help.
Because we're just
Check
a
them
bunch.
out.
And,
So
and
thank
to
you to
answer
BioTrust.
Will
But don't forget to go to
Chamberlain's
Timcast.com,
question,
become a member.
our legal advisor
Help
has
support
told
our
us not to
independent
answer.
journalism. You'll get an ad-free experience and access to all.
Oh,
of
if
our
we committed
member
any
segments.
crimes
Yeah,
on-
like all
Library
Florida
of
men do.
Members-only
Yeah.
podcasts from this show.
Wow.
There's like a ton. We've like 2 episodes with Alan West.
You should
We've got
just
Steve
expect it,
Bannon.
right? Isn't there
Really
like a
fun
book
stuff,
about
so
that? Like
become a
you
member.
commit so many
Now let's
felonies
jump
a day?
into oh yeah, smash the
Yeah,
like
there
button.
is.
Subscribe to
Somewhere
the channel.
in Florida, it's
We gotta get
illegal
through
to
these
sing
intros.
outside
Let's
on
talk
a
about this
street
first
corner
story
in a
real quick.
swimsuit on
Just
Sundays.
because this one was kind of
I was
big
looking
when
at-
it-
I knew
when
he
it
was gonna
dropped
look at
only
the
a couple
same
hours
one.
ago. BuzzFeed News reports InfoWars host Owen
BuzzFeed.
Schroyer has been charged in the January 6 riots. They say, in a new complaint filed on Friday, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington charged Schroyer with illegally going into a restricted area on the Capitol grounds and disorderly conduct. He's one of the highest profile
Oh,
right-wing
that's a good
media
question.
personalities to be
Ask him if
prosecuted
he
in
will
connection
endorse
with
Dave
the
Smith for
insurrection
president,
so
and
far.
if
I
not,
love that
what's
BuzzFeed
holding
calls it
him
an
back?
insurrection, considering the FBI just came out and said basically
I would
it
just
wasn't,
ask
but
him
sure.
who.
They mentioned that he's based in Texas. He had been photographed
Torre,
on a stage
2020,
outside the
or
Capitol
24.
with Alex Jones. And the
Yeah.
FBI said it received an anonymous tip from someone noting other video that appeared to show Schroyer at the top of a set of stairs on the east
Shout
side of
out
the Capitol.
to the
Jones has not been charged.
LPFC from
So this
Swamp
is what's
Creatures.
interesting
Also,
right
what
now.
up, Dave?
I mean,
Yeah.
it could potentially mean
That's
Alex
another
Jones.
good one.
Let's just
There's
do
a
that. Short,
lot
simple,
of
to the
higher
point.
profile people. I bet the FBI was waiting because if they go for the really high profile people, it could
Shout
be a
out
shock
to the
system.
LPMC.
So it looks like
from
they're
the
starting
Swamp
on
Creek.
Schroyer, I suppose, and they may start going for other people.
And he didn't take any. He didn't even take any selfies.
What up, Dave?
I don't-
Come
yeah,
drink with
no
us.
selfies.
Although I
Yeah,
feel
what's
like
the
he
point
probably
then,
doesn't
you
drink
know?
for some reason.
I don't know about you guys. I don't
Dave.
want to live in a society where
think he
just
drinks.
anyone can
I don't
walk
know.
up on some steps
Yeah.
and not face 30 years in
You're
prison.
right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We got to clean this up.
30 maybe.
No, I'm just. I
50.
hope not. Jeez, that's It is. It really is. It's no joke what the state will do when they want to crack down on someone. Like, I was saying this back when they had that Chaz thing in Seattle,
What
and
if
they
I
were
give him a
playing this
winky
little
face?
game.
Huh?
And, they did the little one in New York.
Shout out to the LPMC
I
from the
was
Swamp
just saying, I was like,
Creatures.
listen,
What up, Dave?
lefties
You
can
and
have
Mike
your
are
fun
welcome anytime.
building your little thing,
Yeah?
and then you'll probably abandon
Yeah, I
it
think
in a
that's
few
fair.
weeks, you know. But
We could
don't
also
get
say
it
that the
twisted.
Florida Mises
If the
Caucus does
government is
not
letting you do
recognize
this
these
because
two as
it
leaders
suits
until
their
they come on the
agenda right now.
SwampCast.
If they didn't want you to do this, they will Waco you
Nah,
and
that would
lose
be a
no
jacket.
sleep over it. Okay, so that's what people
I'll
need
just
to
go with the
understand.
one
And
that
that's
I
I
read
think
out.
what a lot of people
Yeah.
at January 6th did not understand. They thought it's this is funny. I'll go in here, I'll fart on Nancy Pelosi's desk or whatever. Now the people calling it an insurrection are just this is
No.
laughably stupid. A coup attempt,
I don't know.
laughably stupid. But it is
Okay,
also
cool.
really
I can
stupid
add-
to
I
go
can
in
add
there and think,
my
haha,
information now.
selfie while
I
I'm
gotta
farting
grab my
on Nancy
wallet.
Pelosi's
Yeah,
desk.
I
Like,
gotcha.
haha, you're going to do 40 years in prison now. You just went up and slapped in the face the most powerful government in human history. What do you think they do to people? Like, what do you think? They'll do this to everyone in the Middle East, but they won't mess with you?
That's why it's important to understand what the nature of government is.
Exactly.
You know? Like, it's not just some service provider that we like change the clothes on, and you might get some left-wing service providing over here and some right-wing service. It's force.
Well,
you
that's
know?
exactly right.
And
But Michael's exactly right. They had this mythology of like, well, what? This is the people's house. Like I was saying before, no, it's not. It's the war criminal's house. This house don't belong to you.
And this isn't even like a fringe.
I walk in the other
George
room and my
Washington-
wife's got us
George
on the big
Washington said
screen.
the government was
Oh, really?
This is there's something. What was I saying earlier? I was saying something like the way they view this country. I was talking about Afghanistan. The way that the establishment views this country is
He's
not
very
as
disappointed in our
a
co-host
nation
for
on
not
founding
showing up.
principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the Bill of Rights. This is where we can test weapons
I showed
and
up,
then
Tim.
run our companies
That's
to
what
go
matters.
and
And
extort other
that is what
countries and
matters.
invade. And so we as Americans, a lot of, and even many like traditional Democrats, I don't know about today, it's getting kind of crazy out there, but up on like when the Afghan war started, you had Democrats and Republicans who mostly view this country as the history of the founding fathers and World War II and civil rights. But the people running these companies, they don't see this country that way. They don't know, they don't care. They're like, this is just our hub for militarism. And then they run their companies
Boom.
here and they go to other places
Yeah.
and do their thing. But there's
It
something
dropped.
interesting in that, you know,
So
just
I
downstairs
say,
we were
love your
talking, I've
country,
got
hate
these
your government.
Utah gold-back things I bought off the internet.
Yeah.
They're like, it's like a gold foil, you know, 1/1000th of an ounce. And one of our friends mentioned that the Constitution says that gold and silver are the only currency. Is that true?
Yes. What? You haven't read the
Yes.
Constitution, you
Never ended
idiot?
Yes, and also that that states can
Damn, Tim's
make
getting heated.
legal tender that is
Yeah.
gold and silver, but nothing else. But yes,
We
that's
need that
right.
as a
I'm
graphic.
sure it
It's the
defines it as
people's
an actual
house.
measure.
No, it's
of
the
a
war
certain
criminal's
amount
house.
of grains.
Yeah,
of
that would be.
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's actually in the Constitution, but that was common parlance at the time. Was that yes? That's what.
How
a
much fun would
dollar
it be to
meant.
see Tim on a
But
2-drink
yeah,
minimum?
The Constitution absolutely
Pool?
defines legal tender as
I don't know
gold
if
and
he does
silver.
anything.
And that never changed.
He's
Oh
like
yeah,
a
Article 1,
straight
Section
edge
10. No
lame-o.
state shall coin
He
money,
reminds
emit
me of
bills
my
of
my
credit,
friend
make
from
anything
high
but
school
gold
who
and
never did
silver
anything.
a tender in payment
I just
of
get
debt.
that same vibe.
That means that the only constitutionally valid forms of money are gold and silver. Oh, they're debunking it. They're saying it's a myth.
Fuck you! It's in the Constitution. It says it right there.
They're saying
Anything,
the state-
anything that
It's
restrains
Google.
government is a myth.
It's Google. though.
Yeah, I mean,
Go on
look,
DuckDuckGo.
certainly, I'm
Always
sure,
trust
like with
Wikipedia.
everything in the Constitution, there'll be people who
Fuck
interpret it in
Wikipedia.
different ways. But look, Richard Nixon, when he took us off the gold standard in '71, he said it was a temporary measure. He said he had temporarily closed the convertibility from dollars into gold, which was the ultimate default and violation of a contractual agreement between the world. I mean, we were on an agreement in the Bretton Woods Agreement that dollars were essentially notes. They still say notes on them, that they were notes, that you were represented, you were holding gold. And just like most temporary government programs, it's should end any day now.
Do you want to break down the Bretton Woods Agreement? What that was?
Sure. So the Bretton Woods Agreement was coming out of World War II. Basically, all the other industrial powers had been destroyed,
how do I make
and
myself the
the
big
United
one?
States had the vast majority of the gold
here it is.
reserves. And so we basically
Can
made a deal
confirm.
with the rest
No.
of the nations that if they took our dollars as their reserve currency, then we would back our dollars up by gold at $35 an ounce. And so basically, they were on a gold standard because they were on a dollar standard. And then in the 60s, we really started cheating. You know, we fought the war in Vietnam. We put a man on the
100%,
moon.
Joey,
We launched the
100%.
entitlement state. We were spending like crazy, and they called our bluff. And they said, okay, I don't think you have this much gold. We're going to turn in our dollars for gold. And then Nixon said, oh, no, we're suspending the convertibility. Because they called our bluff.
Poor Mike.
We cheated.
We were
worried about Tim talking too much.
Exactly.
Go for the kill, Mike. Go for the kill.
Like a reckless bank.
Didn't actually have the money.
And then,
Be a
you
radical.
know, it's funny because then we go off the gold standard in 1971, and it's officially fiat currency, even though, like I said, we were cheating already in the 60s, right? But we go off the gold standard or in the early 70s. And sometimes even really good progressives, like Bernie Sanders, well, you know,
really good progressives
will say
Bernie
things,
Sanders and good
or they'll be like,
you
you know, like the
it.
average wages have been so stagnant since right about the 70s. And the rich have been getting so much richer since right about the 70s. And, you know, the cost of everything has gotten out
Mitch,
of control
why can't
since
you do artwork
right
like
about
this?
the
He's got
70s.
some great
And you know
artwork
what
back there.
happened? Greed.
And
You know, like they
we
never have an
understand.
answer
Want
for
that Swamp
what it
Creatures
is.
logo.
But what happened
Use
is
spray
that
paint.
we removed
Yeah.
any restraints from
No,
the
I'm not even
government
joking.
to print as
All right,
much
let's
money
go
as
then.
they want.
We can
We're
tag up-
seeing the
Banksy was my
true rise of
influence.
gigantic government, endless
We're
wars.
gonna tag up Cocoa Beach
corporate
next year.
bailouts, and also Wall Street. And Wall Street was not a place where people were making insane amounts of
Wonder if I
money
still
like
own
this,
Broward.
like at least on the level since then. That really started in the 80s, the Gordon Gekko generation. This is what happened when you had this funny money that people can just play and speculate with.
Well, so let's rope this back to
Yes.
what the government is.
Force.
So, you know, 'cause we're talking about Owen Schroyer, January 6th, and the potential that the government might go after people. But we also have this story from Reuters. FBI finds scant evidence of U.S. Capitol attack was coordinated. So they basically go through it and they say nobody. They say it was not centrally coordinated by far-right groups.
Imagine that.
Prominent supporters of Trump, according to their sources, were either directly involved or briefed regularly on the wide-ranging investigations. I got a text message from someone running against Lauren Boebert. And what do you think they told me they were for as to why I should give them money? I got a text message that said, hey, my name is so-and-so, and this is why you should vote for me. Like, they didn't say it like that.
not
but
like
they
a
were-
personal text
To
message,
prevent
like
the
a
next
mass text
insurrection.
message,
I
or
mean,
like,
it's like it's a campaign text message.
right. No, but I'm saying not like someone knew you on the
This
campaign
is
and texted you.
right.
Okay.
So they got my number from a registry or something. They are running against Lauren Boebert, and what do you think they thought to themselves?
so where does
one
Tim
text
live?
message to send this guy.
I think
Here's
West
what I need to say
Virginia.
to get him to give me
if I'm
money.
not
What do you think
mistaken.
that one thing was?
Let's
really
get the
hope
West
it was getting
Virginia
back on the
LP
gold
to
standard,
get
but I
his
know
phone
that's not
number.
gonna be the
Stopping
answer.
Lauren Boebert.
Yes.
West
We Marjorie Taylor Greene's accomplice Lauren Boebert is being investigated, and we're gonna stop her.
Her
And I'm
accomplice?
like, you're not for anything.
Yeah.
What is this? I was like, you want me to donate because you don't like Lauren Boebert? That's not something to vote for.
Joey says West Virginia.
And so I bring
as
that
well.
up because what they've been doing with the media and the
trees,
Democrats with January 6th
country roads.
is trying to create some reason you'd vote for them. Negative partisanship. They don't really have anything.
That's like if there's a flood and everyone's trying to find a leader to help us through this great flood that's destroyed so much land, and people are running. They're like, vote for me because I hate floods. Floods are bad.
No.
I'm going to stop the floods.
It's worse than that.
You're like, come on.
It's worse than that.
Give me some
there's,
tech.
There's a flood, and there's a boating company, and the guy says, vote for me because that boating guy, it's his fault, and I hate him.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you know about the flood? Hey, we're dealing with hating right now.
Well, part of it, I think a huge part of it is that what can they really
All right, so what's
say?
the over/under?
You know,
Mike gets less than 20
this
minutes.
Is why, Hillary
I don't know,
Clinton's
man.
entire
Mike
campaign
needs
against
to
Donald
get a
Trump
little bit.
was,
It reminds
look
me of
how
my
awful
first
Donald Trump is.
podcast I did a
Because
long
what
time
else
ago
could
where I
she
only
say?
spoke like a few
could she
times.
sit there to the American people
Because
and
I was
say,
just so
well,
afraid
look,
of
I gave you
interrupting
guys
someone,
Iraq.
but then I
I
realized,
gave you guys
boy, this is a
Libya.
podcast.
I gave
You
you
gotta
guys
be able to
banker
jump in like
bailouts.
that. No one gives
I
a
mean,
fuck.
what are you not happy with here?
No one's gonna think
so
you're
they
rude.
knew Trump only exists.
Especially, like,
because
they're
people
doing
were
the same
so
thing like we have to
furious
deal with, right? There's like
about
6 or 7
what they had
people in
been
the room
given by the
usually.
Clintons
Shit, we
and
have more
Bushes and
people.
Obama,
Right, so, like,
they
you have to
so
fucking-
the only
you
play
have to
they
be aggressive.
have is to tell
Yeah.
you that this uprising against the
Mike
establishment
should have came
is
here
so
first
ugly
as a
and
warm
awful.
up. Remember
But
that,
the
Mike?
worst thing
We
ever
would've-
was
we would've-
January 6th.
We
Not
would
the
have
country
trained
being
him like
completely
he was
sold out
Rocky
by the
Balboa
ruling elite. That's not the problem. The
preparing
problem is
for
the people
motherfucking
furious
Apollo
about
Creed.
it. And okay,
That's
sure,
right.
they might be furious about a thing that isn't exactly
Joey
the
says
right
he's
thing
going to
be
get less than
furious
10
about.
minutes
Like, I
at this
don't know
point.
if
Less than 10.
what happened in the
Go for
election.
the kill,
My
Mike.
base
Go for the
assumption is
kill.
all elections
Yeah.
are
Kill
fraudulent, but
shot,
I don't know
damn
what
it.
happened in the 2020 election. But if you just look in general why they got to this level of anger, it wasn't just one election.
He's looking at Mike.
It was a series of events,
It's
that led to this.
I think Obama.
Yeah.
I remember
think Obama.
2008.
Okay.
I remember seeing
Thanks.
all of my friends screaming and foam coming out
I
of
don't
their
know.
mouth.
Hopefully, if they
I
start
was in
talking
Chicago,
about the
and
Libertarian
I went down
Party,
to
Mike will
Millennium
have
Park
more
or
to
Grand
jump
Park, whatever
in
they
on
call that. I don't know,
because
the big park.
I've been
and
on
they
the
had
phone
this
with the
big
guy,
screen
and he definitely
Obama
gets
speaking,
passionate
everyone was
about
screaming
that
and cheering,
stuff.
people everywhere, and they were like,
Yeah.
Bush was nuts.
If,
he wasn't our president. It was a victory.
Jose
through the Supreme
or
Court.
Mike,
We were
whoever
upset
claims
about it.
the 17th
Finally,
first,
all of
we
these
should make it
wars are
happen.
going to end. This was a mistake. We shouldn't have gotten in these wars. It's all over. And then Obama goes, going to bomb a Pakistani village. And that was like one of the first orders he gave was to bomb.
This is an after the show thing, but
it just hit me.
Oh, here we go.
To him.
I guess.
I know an amazing Obama impersonator.
And I was just kind of like getting whacked in the face.
Like he's
Because
spot
I was like,
on.
when I was a teenager, I was hanging out
know
with
him from my Young Americans for Liberty days.
Who were like, this ism is
like
broken.
we should totally get him to record.
And then I was like, yeah. And then I got older, and I'm like, hey,
we do need to
look,
put
Obama,
together an intro.
He's doing something. Like this is going to be the chance to like have
Dave
some
is on
normalcy.
fire.
And
Mike
he's
needs
just
to
like,
step up.
I'm
I
gonna
agree,
drop some
Soren.
bombs.
Yeah,
I agree.
And he did. And then I was like, these people are just
go for the
lying.
kill shot, Mike.
He actually doubled down on the worst of the Bush policies.
Yeah. He expanded the war in the Middle East. He expanded it in the Middle East.
Expanded the not only the wars.
You know, no one ever gives Obama enough credit for
and then also
beating
expanded
George
the
Bush's
entire
number of
national
medical
security
marijuana
apparatus,
raids in
created
his
the
first
spy.
term.
You know, we were upset during Bush about like
I wonder why.
wiretapping.
No one ever
was
gives him
"Hold
that
my
credit.
beer. I'm collecting
Come on,
every
drug
piece
warriors.
of metadata on every American citizen, and I by every metric. By the spending, the wars, everything.
The
He was worse.
extrajudicial assassinations of American citizens.
Yeah. And there was something even more devastating about it coming from the guy who was the reaction to Bush. I mean, this is why after Obama you get Trump.
Yep.
Because you have Bush, who everyone rejects, then the reaction against Bush within the system, everyone rejects too for being on the same page as Bush. And then you're like, well, where do we go from here?
Jeb.
And they're telling you your options are Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton.
And then they heard the most powerful campaign statement ever when Donald Trump was on that debate stage, and it was Megyn Kelly, and she said, "You've called women fat pigs," and he went, "Only Rosie O'Donnell."
That was the most powerful.
And then everybody started cheering and
My
screaming.
favorite debate moment
and I am
was
joking,
when he said
there was
Hillary
something
Clinton
to
would be
that.
in jail
was
if he
very
was
powerful.
president.
No,
He had
the
several
moment
that were
that
very
made
powerful. And
him
the reason why that one
was
was
when
so powerful.
I didn't
They
say made
asked-
him. I
He
said
just
my
went,
favorite part.
I'm
No,
not playing your
first
game.
debate when they asked that
circumvented
all
the whole
Republicans
thing.
swear
That's
an
right.
oath to
And
support the
what's-
candidate no matter who they
yeah.
get.
Just on that,
Yeah.
And he
politics
said
is
no.
about being against the other. What's
Yep.
scary
He said,
about
"We'll
that
see
is
who
how
it is."
pervasive it is, because you look at
Yeah.
approval ratings for the media, super low. Approval ratings for politicians, super low.
He's nervous.
And then people still keep putting the incumbents back in.
You can
So
do it,
how do you
Mike.
account for that? How do you break that cycle? Because obviously the hate for the
Agreed,
other is
Joey.
stronger than the
Otherwise, you would have
disapproval
done
for
it.
the status quo. It's like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Did you guys see that trans anarchist Satanist who won the primary for
Yes.
the Republicans up in New Hampshire?
Isn't that some shit?
No, and I
Sheriff.
usually keep up with
I know-
trans
I know who you're
anarchist
talking about.
Satanists.
Aria, I think her name is.
Yeah. And
she
it
tricked
was a
them.
point that people just go in and hit R. They
Yeah.
would walk in and go Republican.
That's a
Republican,
huge
I don't care
problem.
who.
That's why we
And
focus
so
on
you gotta
nonpartisan
know
races.
who you're voting for.
That's
Don't
why.
vote for someone if you don't know who they are. You can vote for the person you do like. People, you know, we talked about this on the show, getting rid of the party affiliation on
Next
ballots,
cycle, he's going to promise to
because then
jail
people
Hunter.
would be like, I don't know.
We'll see.
And that's random is probably better than tribal party line.
I don't know if he's going to run. We can talk about this after the show, but I'm not.
Party,
Yeah.
which is on every
not
single
sure.
election.
I go back
there
and
is none
forth.
of the above
Right.
as an option.
That would be nice.
So
That would be interesting.
the seat could be vacant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
Oh, wow.
it could be vacant, or if there was nobody else running, basically somebody, we nominate X, you know, and you just
Shit.
I wonder what
take it from the
Pence has
floor.
been up to.
I would love to end up with just like President Jimmy, just like some dude in the crowd.
President
like,
Jimmy.
Like, no, and how about this dude? And like he just gives it a whirl.
Well, do you know what Denmark
Probably be
is?
better.
Rule at random.
That,
Rule at random.
Yeah, so I remember I had an anarchist friend. We were talking a lot about how this would work and like what it would be, and the idea would be you'd get like Congress duty. You'd be like, you'd come home from work. You're all
That becomes
tired,
like
you
a
grab the
question of
mail,
like,
go
you
inside
know,
and you throw it down,
who
and you
counts
see,
the
like,
votes.
official
It's like
notice,
who
and you're like,
picks
oh,
the
this is
random
good.
guy.
It's like, you have
We
been
could
randomly
spin the
selected
wheel
for
to see who the
Congress duty.
random
You must
guy
report
is.
to D.C.
Yeah.
Here's your stipend. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
honey, I got Congress duty.
Don Jr. 2024.
Honey, can you make dinner tonight? I'm a senator. All right. I'll be home in 6 years.
Remind us at the end.
Well, no,
if
no,
we
but it'll be for
forget,
like 2
but
months.
We're
Oh,
going
okay.
to talk
Yeah,
about
it'd be
this.
like,
later.
probably be the same
I'm
thing
gonna
like
take a
jury
note.
duty. They'll be
There
like,
we go.
like they would just go to whoever is like controlling them and be like, I'm absolutely a racist.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't want me.
It'd be the same as jury
Did he
duty,
just
where
say
you
I'm
don't
absolutely a
respond
racist?
and hope
Yeah,
that
he's
they
saying
never
it like
enforce
jury
that
duty.
rule. I'm just
That's
kidding. I don't
definitely
do
not
that.
going to get
But-
clipped out.
Jury duty is different from Congress duty. Congress duty is like you're an American with
Secretarians are going to clip
opinions.
that.
Yep.
So
It's
you
gonna
know,
be part of
you're-
their intro.
it would be
A
like
12
you're here
second
for
clip
6 months.
that is very
You
revealing.
know, here's quick
according to
orientation,
them.
and the idea is that a random person with a short term who's not going to profit off it doesn't want to be the person walking out and being like, I didn't start the war, it wasn't me. Like,
yeah, I mean, look, it's kind of a fun idea to play with, but I wouldn't really want to be governed that way. How about we just tremendously reduce, if not eliminate, the role of the federal government and let people be free? You don't want to just pick random people who know nothing about politics or governing or anything and have them, you know.
What about vacancies? Like, what if you could, on a ballot, it would be like Jane Doe, John Smith, and no one. Like, elect a vacant seat. And you could be like, I don't want anybody going to D.C. on my name.
I am all for.
Then that's just like Congress has just like less people
now.
there.
Yeah.
I think you could
Good, Mike. You got this.
Yeah.
Just no one in Congress.
I was just going to say he's not shaking as much. I mean, just did. Yeah.
But the problem then is, the reason it wouldn't work is because other people would be like, now's our chance. And they like Democrats being like, if you do this, then the Republicans have a majority. And if there's no one in Congress, then the president is unrestrained. So I got to admit, I think the system devised by the Founding Fathers is absolutely brilliant when you look at other countries, especially 3 branches doing different kind of things. The problem is
it was close. They gave Congress the ability to coin money, though. And they fucked it
Federal
all up.
Reserve emerged, and all of a sudden, nothing mattered anymore.
Fuck you, Alexander Hamilton.
The argument, people forget
was that his doing?
Argument as to
yeah,
whether
man, he
or
was
not we
the
should
central bank guy before Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
And the anti-federalists, the people who are arguing against the Constitution, pretty prescient. Like they've been. I mean, their arguments. They said that this is going to become a king, and through executive order, that is what has happened.
One of the problems, if you study Shays' Rebellion, which was after the Revolutionary War, the foreign powers wanted to get their debt back from the Americans for the war debt, but they didn't. They wanted hard currency. They wanted metal and gems. They didn't want paper currency. The farmers only made their money by bartering their food. They didn't have anything, so they normally paid their debts by printing paper and sending it off. The merchants that owned this, they basically controlled the state legislature, was like, we need hard currency from these farmers.
You know why fiat's better than crypto?
Farmers like, we don't have it, so they started putting people in debtors' prison. The farmers basically started going to the courthouses and standing outside with weapons, blocking.
That's even bigger
the judges
you could light up a fucking house with it.
So they couldn't be thrown in debtors' prison, and it caused massive chaos. The state couldn't get its local people to fight to stop it, so they had to send in state troops. And they realized that without a constitution, without a centralized authority on taxes, each state would tax their own people individually, and
Chris Ann
has
Hall?
the potential to cause massive chaos.
Do you know this person?
And disruption. So
the name
it's better to
sounds
have one
familiar
authority
for some
controlling
reason.
all the tax money.
Well, I mean, if your concern
over.
is debtor's
Okay.
prison, I mean, we still
There's-
have
I have a
debtor's
list of
prison.
people
It's
I would
just
love to get
the
on this
IRS
show.
now that's
that
enforcing
and-
it.
and
Constitutional
People do go to
attorney,
jail for not
educator,
paying
and
their
author.
taxes. That is nothing more
She-
than a debt. People also go to jail, by the
looks
way,
like a
for not paying
libertarian
child
logo.
support. I mean, there still are
Liberty
forms
First
of
Society.
debtor's prison.
I will say, though, I think a lot of people overhype the IRS.
looks
The
like a
IRS isn't going to
candidate.
lock you up if you owe money.
Well,
Like,
that's true, but
if
they'll ruin
Note
you.
her down, man.
But, I mean,
I'm down.
so I know
I never
people
heard of
who
her,
have run
but she
afoul of the
looks good.
IRS with their businesses
Yeah,
for
well,
large sums of money.
her
And
platform looks
The
good.
guy shows
No, I
up
got you.
and said, look, here's
I know,
what
my
happened
wife's
with your
watching in the
business.
other room.
And the guy was like,
You're sleeping on the
broke.
couch, buddy.
And they were like, what can you do? And he's like, I mean, my shop's going under. We have no money. And they were like, all right, well, we'll circle back in a few months, see where you're at, and maybe there's something you can do. It's like the IRS didn't just show up and be like, cuff them, boys.
Well, no,
There
that's
have
true.
been.
I know that there's, but I also know people whose businesses have been destroyed by the IRS who have gone
Absolutely,
back 20
absolutely.
years on them.
Yeah,
And
we're
I mean,
pretty
like, it's
open.
like-
We're down to
so
have
that-
anybody,
That's
even
not
the people who
nothing.
hate us,
I mean,
who
look,
don't even
destroying
know we
someone's
exist yet,
business
but
as
when
we've
they
learned
hate us,
in the
they're
lockdowns,
welcome
that's
to
not
come
a
on.
small thing.
No,
I mean,
right.
these are the type of things that break up
there anyone who we
families,
won't
that
have
lead
on?
to suicides, that lead
Not
to
really, no.
children being scarred. I mean, it's a very
somebody
serious
who's
thing.
going to go
And
out of
you're
their
right,
way
I
to
mean,
try
yes,
to get
there's
us
not like a
banned or in
massive amount
trouble
of
or
people
something.
in jail
Yeah, we don't wanna get
for
that
not
person.
paying their taxes.
like
But
an openly
if we want
hostile
to really
person
figure
who's
out
just
this
trying to
experiment,
fuck up everything.
we could make all
Yeah.
taxes voluntary
Yeah.
tomorrow.
That
and
person,
then we would
maybe,
really
but I don't
find
know
out
many of
how
those
many
people.
pay them because
Yeah.
they're scared of the threat of jail time, and how many
It'd be
people
zero, dude.
pay them because they don't.
And
And
it'd be
then we could figure it out. So if it would be zero, then what you're conceding is that the reason people pay it is because they're scared of the threat of jail time.
Bro, listen.
Are they talking about taxes?
There's a
Yeah.
socialist magazine just fired all its staff because they were trying to form a union.
Yeah.
God, I love
heard
it.
We
about
had
that.
the Young Turks. The story came out last year. Cenk Uygur was trying to union bust or whatever, was yelling at people. You've got that Bernie Sanders supporting
She's an
woman.
expert on the
Actually, she worked
Federalist
Nico
Papers?
Lowe. She bought $1 million
Well, that's good then.
condo.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that would be.
I'm not
that'd be an
gonna
interesting
I'm not gonna drag
conversation.
the success.
We
of
can
these
talk
individuals
about
who are progressive. But at the same
Who's that
time,
guy
I'll
that
tell you
wrote
this,
the
I'd be willing to bet those
Constitution?
people would not pay taxes if they were
Has
given
failed to
choice.
prevent and
And
has
they,
only
would say something
allowed.
like,
Alexander
"This is the system
Spooner.
we're in, and
Yeah.
I'm just, living the way it's
Probably be a
supposed to
great
be."
area
The
of
fact that
discussion.
they can find a
Spooner's my
rationalization
homeboy.
in their mind
Yeah.
to be whatever. I saw one of them where he's
I
like
can make
wearing
a
his
Spooner
like,
shirt.
you know,
I'm
like,
noting that right
Eat
now.
the Rich
There
shirt
you
or
go.
something like that, and then they show his house.
Oh,
you
that
know,
was
and
Hassan
then-
today.
Yeah, like,
Sure, it will be
you know, I mean,
available
it's just
on the
like,
Swamp
come on, the
Creatures
idea that
podcast
you
store
can
at some
justify
point.
that hypocrisy again, like you. I don't hate any of their success. I actually admire it. I don't agree with their politics, but I admire people who succeed in life, and we should all be inspired by that and learn from that.
Hassan streams like 10 hours a day.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I looked at his numbers and I'm like, I think he's probably making 3-4 mil. I could be wrong, just an estimate. And I got mad respect for that hustle.
Yeah,
He just bought a
sure.
$3
And I
million
also
house.
Don't mind someone being a progressive and believing in higher taxes and a welfare state and all that stuff and being rich. So, but the funny thing about the Hassan situation, for those that aren't familiar, he's like the biggest political streamer on the left probably. He bought a $3 million house. He's getting roasted by socialists.
Yeah.
Conservative. So Breitbart wrote an article and they were like, socialist streamer buys $3 million
Eat the
house.
rich,
And I'm like,
Hassan.
I mean, it's a great story, I guess. I don't see the criticism. I don't know why I'd care. He's not like advocating for people not to have houses or not be rich. He's just very much for heavy taxation. And I'm sure he's paying 50 to 60% taxes.
Probably is,
But
yeah.
the socialists are pissed off.
He's not a smart
Are
guy.
they threatening to eat him?
I really wish, Joey, I really wish I could
and their
get
forks,
Dave
and they're
to wear
like,
that Smith
no, they're
or that
defending him,
Smith
saying
Malice
that
shirt
like
that I
there's a
made.
big difference between Jeff Bezos and
The
Hassan
thing's
and
got
all
a
that
stellar.
stuff. And
good,
I get it. I'm not going to straw man their argument.
Smith
but there's a
Torre
big difference between Jeff
merch is waiting in
Bezos
the
and a
stands.
guy on
But-
Twitch.
LPMC has so few options for merch that Dave had to wear a hoodie in that
Yeah, that's what
summer.
I'm
I really
talking
have some
about.
perspective on the issue. To
He's
be
wearing a
someone
Mises
who,
Institute hoodie.
if you're worth $10 million, let's just say, for the sake of argument, for this guy, which he's probably at least got a net worth of that much, right? Let's say his net worth is $10 million. If you have a net worth of $10 million in 2021 in a first world country, compared to all of the human beings who have ever existed throughout history, you are a level of rich that would be magic to 99.99% of human beings who have ever existed. They just couldn't even conceive. Kings would have no concept of the wealth that you have.
Bro.
So to say, oh, well, I can compare him to Jeff Bezos and he's not as rich as that guy. I mean, like, have some perspective. You're talking about the rich. You are amongst the most wealthy, privileged human beings who have ever existed in this like meaty flesh balls circling around the sun that we live on.
meaty
We
flesh
went to
ball.
a mall like
Okay.
2 weeks ago, and they have when you walk in the
Quotable
center
Dave
is
Smith
this
moments.
200-foot tall dome with this beautiful glass and architecture. And I looked at it and I was like, if a king from like the medieval world saw this, he would say, "For what god was this built?" And we'd be like,
Yeah.
"I'm just getting
Mitch has to get back in the
dude.
basement.
I don't know about no gods,
Dude, if you could be,
I don't know.
a
My
king
store is better.
In like the
So check out the
1400s,
Libertarian Frontier
or
on
be
TeePublic.
you in this house
There you
right
go.
now. I bet you would
That's
choose
what
being
I'm
you.
at.
I got a
Yeah,
I bet
toilet,
you would
dude."
choose-
Yeah.
You got a
Right.
toilet. If you get a headache, you got some Advil somewhere. I bet. If you want to go downstairs, watch something, you go downstairs. You turn on the big screen TV. If you were a king, you'd have to go downstairs and have some dude like tell stories for you, and then
Pirate
the
gesture.
stories might suck, and you got to kill that dude and find a new dude to tell you stories.
If you wanted to eat ice cream, they'd have to bring the ice block covered in sawdust, and then walk it up and grab the salt and put it in the bowl with the cream, and then like use the salt ice, and you're sitting there being like, I'm gonna have ice cream soon,
Yeah.
and then it's just like bland, sweet, like not sweet. And you're
Yeah.
like, we've got
It's
we-
brutal.
There you
we
go.
got ice cream
You have an
downstairs that's
order.
made from fungus. That they
Dave's
took
face,
they genetically
hand-raised, meaty
modified a
flesh
fungus to
balls.
make whey protein, and it legit just tastes like regular ice cream, but it's made from fungus. Kings would not fathom the creation of such.
That's right.
And it
So
stank
I-
back then too. They don't talk about it a
Right.
lot because it was desensitized to the stink.
just gonna, like-
but like
I'm
if
just
you go
gonna start
to
yelling,
Vietnam, soldiers
drink
came back from
randomly,
Vietnam. The thing
make
you know
sure
is most is
everybody's
how
on
bad it
cue.
stinks in Vietnam.
And-
It's
and-
hot, like hot, and it stinks.
The point that you're touching on, though, is that, and I agree, is that fundamentally there is a difference between like a self-made millionaire that worked, pulled themselves up from their bootstraps, and the corporatists. The problem is, and I know this doesn't apply to like Jimmy Dore and like the better half of the progressives, but the left has become corporatists, and that has been made very clear with these bailouts, or not. I'm sorry, not the bailouts, the lockdowns, because who made out on that, and who's morally in support of the lockdowns? The left.
This is my thing with like the Hassan buying the big house.
That was a Freudian slip there.
Because
during the lockdowns, we bailed out everybody.
The socialists who are criticizing him are criticizing him for the wrong reasons. Criticize the dude because he's an authoritarian. You know, he's pro-government mandate.
Yeah, criticize what's wrong with his policies. Now, I think it's fair to criticize the hypocrisy of people saying, like, the rich need to pay their fair share, and it's so unfair that some people have so much and some people have so little. If you're going to argue
Who
like
has
that,
better
if you're
facial
going to
hair,
argue
Dave
that
Smith
employers
or
should be
Mitch?
paying their employees a higher wage. Well, look, like, here's
Don't
my
put
thing.
me in
Like,
this position, man. Don't make me have to compare myself to
inequality
one of my heroes.
is a moral outrage.
I'm not.
And you have a net worth of $10 million. Well, you can
the depression beard. That
do
grew.
something right now in the world for
Just for
inequality by
There you
sharing a whole bunch of your money with other people. And so if you don't, I do think there's a level of hypocrisy
Dave's got the good
that can
like
be
shadow
criticized
going on.
for keeping all of this for yourself, living
Do
this
you
very
trim under the
comfortable
neck,
life,
though?
and then
'Cause
complaining
he
that
doesn't,
others don't
apparently.
share their wealth.
Let's break this
I
down
do,
real quick.
but I didn't today.
As to what we're seeing.
Well, you're matching then.
Hassan Piker works really, really hard. And through his talent and his drive and his passion, he has become extremely successful and made a lot of money. To him, he's like, I know I'm rich, but the real problem is that guy.
Right.
Below him are the socialists saying,
I think that's the
you know,
problem.
look,
It's
we're
not
not
his
wealthy,
work,
we're
it's
middle class,
that
but that
he's
guy, and they're pointing at
basically
Hassan.
being a hypocrite.
So what happens, you have this scale where the poor person with nothing is pointing to the middle class saying, these people don't understand what they have. The middle class people are pointing at Hassan saying, oh, he's exploiting, he doesn't understand what he has. Then people like Ethan Klein and Hassan are pointing at Bezos, being like, they're the real problem. The point is, no matter where you are at, they're always pointing at someone who's wealthy.
Well, it's the same thing that happened with Bernie Sanders.
And someone in
right?
Sub-Saharan
He used to
Africa
complain
is
about
like,
the
"You're
millionaires
all the
until he became
problem.
one,
I
and now
have
it's the
nothing."
billionaires.
It's
we
the
need to
folly
go
of
after the millionaires and the billionaires.
Yeah,
You know?
Wait,
well,
what?
that's right. And I think to
How much money did I
the
make?
point Michael was making before,
Really,
that
that
there
many
is
zeros?
something that,
Oh my
and
God.
one of the
Forget
worst
what I said about
parts
millionaires.
about the last 20 years particularly, but really, I guess you could say since Jekyll Island, but
Okay,
is
I
that
take that as a compliment.
The Mitch,
the
Mitch votes
we
for a wife.
have this
There we go.
crony,
I'm one
corrupt
zip.
system that we call
Don't tell Dave's fans
capitalism.
on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so, of
Dave
course,
looks lazy.
people
Yeah, he is
reject
wearing a
this
he's
because
wearing a
they do
hoodie,
know
and
on
it doesn't
some
look
level
like there's a
that
shirt
this is
underneath
unfair.
it.
And it is unfair because the whole system is completely rigged by the powerful. And of course, that's true. But it's rigged through primarily government policies, bought and paid for politicians, regulatory capture, a whole series of, like an entire system that rigs the game. And what Michael, I think, was saying is that there is a difference. Somebody who is just successful in the market, who has nothing to do with government connections, they are, whether you like the product that they're selling or not, the people buying it do. That's why they're buying it. They have made their wealth because they provide a product that people want more than their money. And so they're willing to voluntarily give their money up for that product. The people who make their money because they have some type of government connection, some type of regulatory capture, some type of bought-off politician,
Assholes.
they make their money because people are forced to pay
Bloody
them for their
bastards.
product. And that is unfair. And in the same sense that we bomb Iraq and call it Operation Iraqi Freedom, well, I wonder why no Iraqi is going to want to buy freedom anymore after that, right?
The left has gotten away with calling corporatism or economic fascism capitalism for far too long. And if they just dropped that, they would find out that we're against it too.
There's a great example. Candace Owens tweeted, BlackRock is buying up houses and they're getting money from the government. This is communism.
China is
And then on
asshole.
Reddit, a
China
bunch
is
of
asshole.
progressives posted that and
I
saying,
love that guy.
literally
I
capitalism.
hope he's doing okay.
And I'm like, yo, you're both wrong. The pointing at the communists and being like the government giving private institutions free money to manipulate and control the system is not communism, and it's not capitalism, it's fascism.
Well, and you can see where they each have enough of a rationalization to sell it amongst their base, right? Because so if you just looked at the American system today, it's like, okay, well, Sean Hannity can sell to his base that this is socialism because look how big the government is and look at the deficit and look at all of this, right? And look at the government involvement, right? So he can sell this as socialism. And then, of course, whoever, MSNBC equivalent of that, Rachel Maddow can sell it as this is capitalism because look at the corporate profits and look at all, right? So they each have enough. But what we really, objectively, if you look at the whole picture here, this is not a battle between the idea that there's a battle between big government and big business at this time. Like, okay, our government is, what are they going to spend? $7 trillion this year? They're the biggest government that's ever existed in human history. And look at the size of big corporations. They're bigger than ever. Okay, so clearly big business business loves big government, and big government loves big business. This is one conglomerate at this point. And what do you call that? There is a term for it.
A new rule.
It's not socialism
every time he says
or
government,
capitalism.
Drink.
Oh, dude.
Economically.
I want to talk about
Mussolini's fascism.
the IRS, the International Revenue Service. Been around since 1862. Looks like what's his name? Abe Lincoln created it probably to fund the war.
Fascist.
In 1914, there was like a revolution within the Internal
That's
Revenue Service.
fascista.
Oddly, right after they formed the Federal Reserve, 1914, or right then when they were forming it, and they created the new income tax. Do you guys know? I would love to hear from you guys about the history of the IRS a little bit.
So well, the income tax. So all of this stuff, right, was under the Woodrow Wilson administration, and yes, it's certainly not a coincidence, right, that right after the year after they created the Federal Reserve, well, then it's like, okay, well, if this Fed's going to lend us our own money that we will now owe them back with interest, well, we're going to need a little bit of a stream of money coming in, and the way the income tax was sold was that it was only going to apply to the top 1% of people. They sold this as this was during the progressive era, as it was known, and they sold this as a progressive measure. So this is, listen, this is going to be something that's going to be for the fat cats, the robber barons. It's going to be like 2% of their income. Like, we're going to take that, and then we'll share it around with everybody, and the rest of us will all be wealthier. This is not going to apply to your average working Joe, of course.
They keep
that
saying
was how it was
They
sold.
won't stop saying the same thing over and over and over again.
They're still, to this day, they still use the same. But at the time, it was like, okay, so that's how they got the support, and that's how they got it. So we got the Federal Reserve in play. We got the income tax in play. And 3 years later, we're in a world war.
I mean, you know what the Federal Reserve really is doing? It's just their legal way of reaching into your bank account and taking your money.
Their
That's
inflation
all they do.
stealth tax.
Right. So as the great Ron Paul, happy birthday again, used to always say, right, the real tax is spending. The real tax is government spending. Because when government spends money, what can they do? Well, all they can do is they can either tax the money from you, or they can borrow the money, which is just a promise to tax you in the future, or they can print the money, which is in effect just taxing you right now or a little bit in the future because it's just robbing the value of your dollar. So when government spends a dollar,
even
they've
George
stolen
Harrison
a dollar from
knew
you.
that
Forget
taxation is theft.
Government spending is theft. And the
Why
reason,
do I feel like I should know that name?
So when we got into World War I,
You're kidding me, right?
1917, we got
Beatles?
into World War I.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a few years
okay.
after this.
Yeah.
Then,
I'm bad with
I know the
musicians.
plan for the
That
income
was-
tax
he
was
wrote a
going to
song
be for
called
the top
Taxman.
1%, and you weren't going to. But crisis.
I know
World
the Beatles.
War. So now everybody's going to have to pay taxes, and we're going to have to increase the rates.
You
and
think
then,
that guitar's back
the
there? Because
crisis will be over
I
soon.
study
except
music.
when we have a Great
I
Depression.
got a guitar
that's
right
another
there,
crisis.
too.
We have the Second World War. That's another crisis. And then, oh, by the way, this is
That's just to make
permanent
me
government
look cool.
policy.
I spent
That you- there is a-
I spent
there is a
$300
fee
on that thing.
for
Think I'm
producing
cool.
something. That you are now, not only is there a fee for you having a job and being a productive member of society, but you lose any semblance of Fifth Amendment rights to not incriminate yourself. You now have to incriminate yourself every year to the federal government because you are already presumed guilty,
Government always
presumed a
uses the
criminal
incremental
by your
increase
own
strategy,
government for the
which is the reason we
crime
have to
of
push back
being a
against this.
productive member of society.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is they're supposed to issue a receipt on what your taxes
By the way,
go
I'm
for,
on
and of
drink
course,
number 2, 24
they're
ounces
under
down.
penalty.
There you go,
don't
man.
comply, and there's absolutely no accountability for them. If
I'm
they
not
don't.
going to
So
drink 24 ounces
and what
of
you were
Crown.
saying,
It's
as
just
far
not
as
gonna
income
happen.
tax is never supposed to be for the average wage earner.
But
you know, and
Mitch
then you
will
also
finish
pointed
that
out
bottle by
earlier,
the end of the night.
I don't know about that, man.
Suspending of gold is
Fucking-
supposed to be
oh,
temporary.
God.
It's just that it's
I
that
gotta listen to
classic,
dogs bark
Harry Brown
tomorrow,
quote,
man.
There's
Come
nothing
on.
more permanent.
Well, you're like
than
a third of the way
temporary,
through, right?
government program.
Yeah, I'm already like I'm pretty
you
far
let
down.
them
on
have
this
a little
thing
power. They're not
already.
giving it back easy.
Yeah.
What ends up happening when they start
This
this
show
is
has got like
it's
another
just
hour
for the
at
rich.
least, plus
It's no
our
big deal.
hour
In fact,
after. You're good.
Well, it's an emergency, so everyone's going to pitch in. Then it's, well, the emergency, we got another emergency. Well, now it's another world war. And then by the time it's, the crises are finally calming down and you come out and say, okay, you're appealing this, they'll be like, repealing what?
Yeah.
Well, the taxes. What do you mean? The taxes have always been there.
Oh, right, exactly.
Nobody's got a problem with the income
think
tax.
about-
You're far right.
Right. So 10 years
You're
ago,
far
9
right.
years ago, we kill Osama bin Laden. Just now, we're pulling out of the war in Afghanistan. So is it like, okay, well, goodbye TSA?
I need something to
No,
stir my
TSA ain't
drink.
going nowhere.
I will
man.
use an American
That's the
flag.
norm now. You're used to that. Don't
Right.
ever believe the lesson
Don't say the
here is
flag's
don't
not good
ever
for nothing.
believe there are 15 days to flatten the curve on anything because it's never
I
that.
love my
it's
country,
never
hate my
temporary.
government.
Yeah, Afghanistan was another one. It was never supposed to be this broad war on terrorism or this 20-year thing.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was supposed to be to go and get the terrorists that knocked down
Man.
the Twin Towers.
Oh, if you look
still
at the
remember when I was a
AUMA,
kid
I mean, the
fucking
language
asking
of it
people,
was
why are we in Iraq?
just
I
to go
thought
get the people
Osama
who
bin
knocked down
Laden
the
was in
Twin Towers.
Afghanistan.
That was a
AUMA?
No one
the
did it.
authorization. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
AUMF, yeah.
AUMF, the authorization of military force.
So they didn't
Authorization for use
declare
of military
war.
force.
Authorization for use.
Yeah,
of
they didn't
Jeez.
declare war. They declared military force for a constrained mission, which was to go get bin Laden and the terrorists.
And then they let
that's
him
why,
go.
Ron Paul actually voted for that because that what it was supposed to be. And then he also tried to issue letters of marque and reprisal.
Quick question: nationalism, good or bad?
To
I don't have a
help
problem with
get
nationalism.
these named people.
I think it goes too far when you use that as a reason to excuse bad behavior.
Ran about 40, 50 miles.
I don't like it
years
because
with it.
normally
and it
it's
should be
intertwined with
noted
government.
that
and
they
several
had
countries.
they had Osama.
I
bin
love my
Laden
government. I mean, I
in-
love
w-
God. I love
either
my
November
government.
or
I love
your
December
government and you
2001
hate
when
your
they had
country.
him
You
pinned to
love
the
your
floor.
government,
They
damn it.
could have killed Osama bin Laden, and they
No, I
had
love the
forces
country, hate the
over in Kabul fighting the Taliban. They had
America's
forces
fucking
in the
beautiful.
north, Green
Our
Berets
history
in the
kicks
north
ass.
that they
The
didn't
street
even
renegade
call
history
into
of
the
the
action.
United States.
The forces on the ground were
Yep.
saying we need reinforcements right here. We've got Osama bin Laden. We could have killed Osama bin Laden in late 2001, been done with the whole thing, called off the entire terror war, and man, what a better
I just
world we're
noticed
living
this.
in if that's what we do. And instead, they allowed, whether
What the
intentionally
fuck,
or
Joey?
unintentionally.
He's fucking
And I
challenging
really-
us, man.
I know
I'm
he's
just
calling you a
speculating, but I
dirty
lean
Fed
toward
lover.
intentionally on this. They allowed him to escape into Pakistan because I'll tell you,
Oh man.
look, there's no question that a lot of the people, the forces on the ground, were like, we can block off the Pakistan border right now, and we can get bin Laden. This is easy if you just send us the reinforcements. And they had specifically, the Bush administration had not declared war on Al Qaeda. They had not declared war on the people who did 9/11. They had not even declared war on Afghanistan. They declared war on terrorism, on terror. And they had already had plans to go into Iraq on the pretense that he was working with Osama bin Laden. Now, if you kill Osama bin Laden in December 2001, what really is the motivation to go into Iraq and all of these other wars? You probably lose it. But if he's still out there
Too
and he
many
could be
windows
working with
open. I
other
don't know
people
which
and he
one
could
he's
be
on.
plotting these things, then you've got 20 years of war.
You think if Hillary would have won, we'd be in Iran?
I don't know. I think certainly you wouldn't have had the deal. I'm sorry. If Hillary had won, I'm thinking 2008. You're thinking
Get
you're
to
talking
the LP.
2016.
Right.
So if Hillary had won in 2016,
eventually.
I think it's likely she would have wanted to push for it. The problem with the war in Iran is that no matter how many of the blood-soaked monster neocons, and I include Hillary Clinton in that list, want a war with Iran, the actual logistics of doing it are so bad that many people in the military are like, look, we just do a war with Iran, because Iran is a more serious adversary than any of the countries we pick on in the Middle East right now.
But
they will slaughter U.S. military members all around.
I want to show people something real
Twitch
quick.
is
We have
a terrible website with terrible people. What is going on?
Oh no.
this map,
Okay.
so you can understand, because a lot of people don't know the geography. Iraq is just to the west of Iran, and Afghanistan is to the east. I don't believe it was a coincidence. We said Iraq and Afghanistan. What was in the middle, and what did John Bolton say he wanted to do? He said, this time next year, we will be celebrating victory
They
in
make
Tehran.
so much money.
Yeah.
This guy right
We
here
had a
gave
pincer
$200
attack on Iran
to say to
but
get George
Iran
Gammon
is not
on.
Iraq or Afghanistan. It is a mountainous, very well populated, armed, strong nation.
That Tim
But they've
Pool
wanted to go after
nice.
Iran for a long time.
Did you ever
no
see
question.
that? Did you ever see that video from? I
should
think it
tax
was
him.
around 2003.
Yeah, dude.
We should get the government to take it from him.
Give it to
where
us.
He was saying
Tax his viewers.
prior
I'm going
to
full
them
dirty
going
Fed
into
lover.
Iraq, they were
There's
telling
30,000
him,
or 29,500 people
going to
watching right now.
Venezuela and
Goddamn.
ultimately Iran, and he named like 4 or 5 countries.
Seven.
That's
Yeah,
right.
pretty
seven,
good.
seven
Yeah.
countries. He also
Good.
included
Helps
Syria
us.
in that list.
Yep.
I think Sudan
Now
was
ask
in the
about
list
the
as
LP.
well. Yeah. No, it didn't play out exactly like the plan that he mentioned, but there was certainly something to that. And you watch that what did happen after 9/11 was wars all throughout the Middle East. I mean, wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Pakistan, Libya, Syria, Yemen.
Venezuela with Guaido.
Yeah, well, but not a war like we had in these
They
other
want to
countries.
put central banks in all these countries.
Well,
They want to get in there, install the central banking system, get out, and then we won.
I feel like Ian probably believes in
Which
the
goes back to what we were talking about before.
I feel like that's a safe
The
bet.
primary weapon here is
You
debt.
feel like Ian what?
Believes in
like
Nibiru.
students, debt.
You
Business
heard about
the
that,
lockdown,
Nibiru?
debt.
The aliens.
Credit card debt, like
Yeah,
everything
the
is debt.
planet that's gonna
Oh, yeah, the
smash into
planet.
ours.
to
Planet X
feeding
that's
them
gonna
with
come
our
back.
productivity
Yeah.
by
Yeah, Nibiru.
ensnaring us in debt.
Yeah, For sure.
The New Hampshire Mises
And that's,
is donated
I'll just
some
say,
money.
and don't buy their
nice.
propaganda about this whole thing in Afghanistan. And I hope that people can see through it. Like, I'm not saying this isn't kind of ugly, Joe Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan, and that there's not some like ugly aspects of it, but just like take a step back, zoom out, and peep game. You know what I mean? Like, see what's going on here.
When CNN is saying this is a nightmare, oh, this is a tragedy, Joe Biden, oh, what has he done? I'm kind of like, wait a minute.
But here's what drives me crazy, right? Is that I see these people like right-winger types who, like, I agree with on some stuff, not on others, but I see Charlie Kirk tweeted something. I think it was him. He tweeted something where he goes, CNN saying
What's
something.
on my T-shirt?
He takes it as a dig on Biden. He goes, man, when you've lost CNN, you're really doing bad. It's like, no, Charlie Kirk, you got this game all wrong, man. Why did he lose CNN? Because he ended a freaking war.
Yeah, dude.
That's why he lost CNN. Did Obama lose CNN when he destroyed Libya? Oh, no, that wasn't a problem. See, all of a sudden, the corporate press has these deep, passionate humanitarian impulses. All of a sudden, there's this moral outrage about the innocent people in Afghanistan. We have started wars in about 6 or 7 different countries that have led to millions of innocent people being slaughtered. Not a peep out of the corporate press, not a peep, as in Yemen, babies are vomiting to death.
I thought he was going to say
by the hundreds of thousands because of the U.S.-backed Saudi war in Yemen. Not a peep out of the corporate press, but all of a sudden they're the humanitarians. The one time we end a war, and when was the other time they became big humanitarians? When Donald Trump tried to end the war in Syria. The Kurds. What about the Kurds? See through this, man.
But do you remember what the media said when Trump fired 59 Tomahawk missiles into Syria?
Presidential.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Is this the time Trump has become a president?
That's right. So
well, they also cheered the assassination of Soleimani.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Don't maybe
well,
it's
not
just
everybody.
a wild coincidence.
They called him
every
scholar
time it's within the military-industrial complex's interests, the corporate press becomes humanitarian. And when it's in their interests, they look the other way.
I think it was
don't care. So that's all I'm saying.
Wasn't the
Ryan
by the way,
Stelter
for
practically
anyone out
reading
there,
a haiku
Joe
about
Biden
how
is
beautiful the missiles are?
The architect of some of the worst policies in modern American history. He is an evil person, and he is very responsible directly for the war on terrorism, particularly the war in Iraq under George W. Bush that he championed and voted for. Okay, and he's also just an embarrassing, like, elderly, incompetent person. But this is not what it appears to be.
You were saying something before the show about, if when we plot of a war, they're going to make sure it's bad. So that people are in the future, they're going to be like, well, if we do pull our troops out of Iraq, I mean, remember what happened in Afghanistan? Oh, we don't know. True. And so I was thinking about this. People need to understand.
He's right.
It's only been a couple presidents. George W. Bush starts a war. Obama takes it, runs with it. Trump says, I'm ending this. Biden then says, I'm going to follow through, which is a good thing. But I 100% believe if Donald Trump kept troops at 15,500, Joe Biden wouldn't be talking about it at all. It's because Trump was drawing down the troops and they were freaking out. And then Biden comes in and he's like, how do we get more troops in? So pay attention now, because we can sit here and be like, it's a good thing he's ending this war, but they're sending more troops in already.
Well, here's the thing. I really do believe, and I had that attitude too when
I think they're going to try to say, like, we pulled everybody out, and now, like,
Donald Trump
look at all the damage that's being caused. We need to go back in and save our people, like a mess up on purpose almost to have an
part of me thinks, that they did this intentionally
early
for that
in March
reason.
of this year.
Biden say what you about Trump, but at least seems like from what I've seen,
I'm sorry. That's right. It was May 1st.
At least
Biden came in and pushed it back to September 11th.
Either they're really stupid or they did this intentionally.
At the time, I thought he was just bailing on the whole thing. I was like, he's not going to pull out.
I don't think that.
But then
Trump
I guess
would have
it was
left
just for
the
political
weapons
reasons to
and
be like, well,
vehicles
I
there
can't
and
just
all
say
that
I
stuff.
did Trump's
There's
thing.
no way.
He would have
No,
and make it more,
shit.
like on an important day, September 11th. But the reality of the situation is that with the troop levels that we had in under Trump, and even with these troops that Biden sent in to kind of help with the evacuation process, the thing is this, right?
Get them on after power hour.
A lot of people and a lot of people in the corporate press, they kind of create this false narrative where they say,
we'll just steal all of their guests. Anybody they have, we'll just pull on afterwards.
Like the level
we
have
sloppy
now, and it wouldn't
seconds
be
of guests.
this unstable.
Hey, that's cool, man.
And look, there hasn't really been an American casualty there for like the last couple years. But what they don't acknowledge is that the reason there hasn't been an American casualty, the reason things have been stable, is because Donald Trump negotiated a ceasefire contingent on us leaving. if Biden were to say we're not leaving now and stay in, at this point,
did you see
runs
that fucking
country.
tweet that Ben Shapiro put out?
Listen,
where he
we
said
couldn't
that
beat him with well
like
over
there's been
100,000
like look at how
that Barack
safe
Obama
America's
had
been
there.
since
so
we've
if
been
we
in
want to
Afghanistan.
go back to this war
It's
now,
like, bitch,
it will be
Boston
a bloodbath
Marathon bombing,
unless
Pulse
we're willing
nightclub
to
shooting.
send
You
in
don't
another
like the
100,000
Vegas
troops,
shooting.
in which
Because it was
case
so terrible
we will
before we went
drive
there.
the guerrilla
Right.
Talibans back out
So
into the
stupid.
mountains. They'll sit there for another decade. We'll
Shapiro,
draw down,
it's like
and
every
they'll
time
come back
he's
and
right,
take
there's
over
like two
again.
equally
So
dumbass
what do you
moments.
want to do, guys? So I think that just out
What's
of
this say here?
practicality, I think this war
Y'all
is
see
over.
the report
I don't
about
think that-
Biden
I don't think
mixing
there's
the Trump exit
anything
plan
they could
that would have
do
been
that's not
orderly.
going to be
The
a
Biden
worse
exit
disaster
went
at
almost
this point.
exactly
And there's just
backwards
no
from
public
that.
appetite
I
for it,
didn't
don't think,
see.
anymore.
I didn't see the Trump exit
I
plan,
do
but
in the midst of
No,
that,
that's
but
what I
do wanna
looked
kinda draw
at
a
was,
distinction
like,
between the ending of
Trump
the
was
war
very
and
clear
withdrawal
too
of the
that
troops,
if,
because
okay,
even
we're going to
as
agree to this
troops are being withdrawn
ceasefire,
under Trump,
but if you
drone bombings
warlords
went up. Now, the
violate
point
this
still
shit at
stands
all,
that
we
as
are
the drone
going
bombings
to
went up,
unleash
we
hell
didn't
onto
win the
you, and we're
war,
going to
you
start
know,
with
it
this
didn't do
village. And he
anything.
named like
So
the
we
exact
have to
one.
get out completely, and it's at the point now
like,
where when you've got
You know,
$3
say what you
trillion
will,
spending
that at
bills,
least sounds a
all
little
these
bit.
bailouts
I mean,
and
let's
stuff,
face
like,
it, these
Ron Paul
Taliban
always
dudes probably
said,
looked at Biden and was like, he's not
Empire's
going
end
to
for
do
financial
anything.
reasons.
right.
And
let's
you
be
know,
real.
we might
Here we
not, we might be
there's
right on
something
the moral
Machiavellian
issue. We
to
might
that.
be right on the constitutional issue, but apparently nobody cares. We will be right, and they will understand eventually on the financial aspect.
Can I just say just one
That's what we were
quick other
talking
thing,
about
too, is
with
that
Johnny.
This is
I
not
think
the
that
disaster
economically
yet.
we're
Maybe
doomed
it will
either way.
be, but it's
Doesn't
not what
really
everyone's
matter
pretending it
what
is.
Buy
happens in
Bitcoin, buy
Afghanistan.
silver,
They're acting
buy
like
gold.
ISIS just
Buy
saved
ETH.
Western Iraq and that they're
Get
cutting
away from the
people's heads
dollar.
off, that the Taliban
I'm
is
not a
slaughtering
financial
people.
advisor.
So far, it's like, look, there's
But
some
my
ugly
lawyer,
things.
he
Yes, no,
might
there
be.
have been some people dying, but I'm saying it's not like the Taliban have been rolling in and just slaughtering everybody. So far, it's kind of like, it's an ugly withdrawal. It's not like some unbelievable nightmare like many other of these situations have been
Taliban
after
is
we've
The
gone
posting
in.
village that
Chad
Trump
moves.
named was the
Like,
home
they're,
of
like,
the
they're, like
Taliban leader.
they're on like a PR.
Look, they're bad.
Yeah.
They're bad people. But by the
So it
way,
wasn't
so
just
were
a random
lot of
town.
the warlords that we
Yeah, that's
propped
what I'm
up to
saying.
fight
Is
the
he named
Taliban.
one of
Well,
the key
let's talk about
villages.
long-term
That was,
solutions. All right. Now, the Republican Party doesn't do anything. I
2.5
mean,
drinks
they sit
deep.
around. You got a
Yeah.
handful of people.
I
you know,
don't blame or
obviously,
give credit to
Rand Paul, I'm
Biden
a
for
big
any of his
fan, and Thomas
decisions
Massey's
because I
pretty
don't
good.
believe he's actually
But
making
for the most
them.
part, what is it? It's
Fair.
a speed bump for Democrats. Then you got the
Fair.
Democratic Party, which are just
I feel like there's
like,
probably just a room
take
of like
and
really
steal
rich
wherever you can.
old guys
And then
making
you've got
these calls.
the libertarians of the Libertarian Party.
Oh,
You've got a
here we
lot
go.
of,
We're familiar.
weird
what we're waiting
tweets,
for.
and I've never honestly taken the Libertarian Party seriously, even though
Neither did I for most of my libertarian life.
Right. And so then I started hearing more and more
We're
and
gonna
more
talk about
what
that
you
Joe
guys were doing. I saw
Jorgensen
more
guy?
videos from you. We had you on the show several
Yeah.
times, and I'm like, can
Joe's
you
a
guys,
dick.
Whatever his
build
name
together
is.
something that actually functions as a legitimate alternative for regular Americans who are just fed up?
Well, so right there, like what you just said is almost exactly like the idea here, right? That it's like, well, look, we recognize what's happening here. So the Democratic Party is just so laughably beyond hope at this point. It's now become a mix of the home for neocons, corporatists, and their useful woke idiots. Like that is basically the Democrats from top to bottom at this point. There is
It's like a
almost,
Cronenberg monster.
Yes, it's just it's beyond even discussing. The Republican Party has really, I mean, I think we see what it is. I mean, the rank and file, there are certainly some people there who are really like, and I will say in the Democrats, there are some rank and file people who like Tulsi and Bernie for the right reasons too. So I shouldn't be too hard on them. The rank and file, like voters in the Republican base, they really have rejected the neoconservatives. But they both see, hey, if you like Tulsi, well, how's she going to be treated by this party? Hey, if you like Bernie, how's he going to be treated by this party? If you like Donald Trump, how is he treated by his own party? He had to win in such a landslide to even take that thing over. And by the way, I am no fan of Donald Trump, but he was completely boxed in by his own government, his entire presidency. The man was framed for treason by his own deep state. So what are really, like, and the truth is, even
So
if
what
Donald
you're
Trump
saying,
were to win and
Dave,
not be
is that
boxed
you
in,
like
or even if
Trump.
Bernie Sanders were to win and not be boxed in, they're both so
Vegetarians, probably.
ideologically wrong on so many issues that they wouldn't even know the best way to take on the federal government. The reality is that what we need is a mass awakening of American people to understand, to all be together on what the problems are. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can agree on the most basic things, which
Not
is that
my
the government needs to
libertarians.
stop doing the evil things that are destroying the country. And to me, the Libertarian Party, you're right, there are some Lolberts there. And there are also some really good people in the Libertarian Party.
I would say most.
I was specifically referring to the Libertarians as kind of a weight on the Libertarians.
Yes, but the thing is that the vast majority, like you had talked about before, that you.
What was funny was hearing one of the Libertarians tell me that they're having trouble
the biggest
recruiting
demographic,
because
the plurality.
And I'm just like, well, that's great because I'm having no trouble recruiting because of you guys.
The Libertarian Party is way smaller than the Libertarian movement, than the Liberty movement. And so we're like, look, there is this party here that claims to be about libertarian principles, the beautiful Ron Paul principles that we stand for. And there's way more of us. So if we want to all join this party, we can actually make this a force for the most beautiful political philosophy in human history, which is that of individual liberty. And that really does solve so many of the problems that the country faces today. And that's basically the thing, is that we want to save the nation by destroying the government and the government policies that are destroying the nation.
It's a Malice quote from, I forget what podcast, but he's like, I hate the government because I love the country.
Yeah.
You know?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to speak to what you said, because it's interesting. Like, you kind of, in a way, proved his point with you're saying, like, oh, I love Thomas Massey,
go for the kill shot.
Or Rand Paul. And obviously, we all love Ron Paul. None of these, and these are the biggest libertarian, let's say, stars in the country. That's where all the support is.
I found this cool feature that allows me to do these things.
But the thing is, that's important to recognize in that is that that is what the majority of libertarians like.
And
they're more tuned to that. So the problem is
we need to get some more people in that Discord.
Has been captured by a small number of people because it was
essentially share that after the show.
Away.
Apathy.
So we're just bringing that movement back into the party to actually represent it, which is Ron Paul.
Now, I want to say one thing. There's probably a lot of people that are just like, I don't care about politics. I don't care about Democrats, Republicans, or Libertarians. To them, I say, wouldn't you like to see Press Secretary Michael Malice?
Yes.
Just because it would be funny.
But that's another.
Press Secretary Michael Malice.
Yes. Well, absolutely. And this is another thing that we kind of, as the Mises Caucus, bring to the table that is not currently on the table within the Libertarian Party, which is that the Libertarians need to become a cultural movement. And have something to say there, and have a narrative to write there. Yeah. And that's what's going to draw people in. Right now, the party is mired in this idea that, well, we're just here to elect candidates, and then they don't even do that. So it's like, what's your pitch? and we are out here.
Do the one thing
so, like, for example, we, the Mises Caucus, we have we're supporting health freedom rallies. You know, we're supporting like nurses that are being threatened with the mandate. We just produced a documentary following our California crew produced a documentary.
Great video.
Following
I haven't seen it yet. I need
as
to.
the lockdowns came in and they were resisting.
I mean, you know what happened in Pennsylvania, but watching it,
you know,
watching the recap
we got an
is
anti-war rally going on 9/11 in D.C. Stop the damn wars.
I remember seeing some of the people that I know not on our side telling us how it was some kind of grand victory. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, art of war. Let them think that they've won. Look weak when we're strong, strong when we're weak.
Libertarians are going to gain the most ground is in the dissident communities. You know,
I don't want to say that they won because they didn't.
They didn't. No, they didn't.
The battle, they're going to lose the war.
That's why I'm saying.
But it's got to be libertarians.
Think that they
I don't
want.
mean big L libertarian like Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
I just mean on the spectrum because
unless they changed the bylaws before to say, oh, all of a sudden it's 2 years.
You need only look at political compass memes on Reddit to understand the problem we have right now. Whenever they make a meme, they show the tankies, the authoritarian communist types in the authoritarian left. They show Nazis in the authoritarian right, ANCAPs in the libertarian right, and the woke in the libertarian left, which makes literally no sense because woke people are dogmatic authoritarians. It's cancel culture. It's do it or else. It's we want you to believe our thing, otherwise you're bad and wrong. That's not libertarian at all.
Well, yeah, and just the fundamental underpinnings of, say,
I
like
feel like Michael Bakunin and Critical Peter race theory would probably look at Antifa and just be like, "What the fuck?" Like, I don't know if you've seen that meme of Stalin where he's like,
race theory
looking down on the SJWs. I feel like that would be Bakunin and Kropotkin.
Market system at all.
Something in my gut tells me that. Or at least Michael Bakunin.
Meritocracy itself is racist, or that liberal economies, meaning in the classical liberal sense, are racist.
But check it out. Here's the thing about left libertarianism. It's left libertarian is cooperative libertarianism. Right is competitive. So the reason why I think right libertarian is outsized because it's really easy to have a very large system where it's like, that's a fine beer you've got. I will trade you this rock. And then we come to an agreement. cooperation outside of an exchange of value is very, very difficult. So left libertarianism is crippled. But this idea that left libertarians are woke, Bernie Sanders, Democrat, that is not true. Bernie Sanders was, maybe, but the problem is ultimately...
What are you trying to say, comrade?
We talked about this with Vosh, he's a socialist. We had him on our bonus segment. We talked about this. A left libertarian system, like the true libertarian freedom, is like 10 people on a farm who have agreements and they can solve their problems very easily among each other. But once you try and scale up to two different communities that don't agree, and you have no means by which to exchange value and have a trade, then you get authoritarianism when one side says do it or else.
Right, exactly. So what it comes down to really is by the way, there are some really good left libertarians out there who I have no problem with. And if you basically say, if you come to the conclusion of voluntarism, which many of them do, where it's kind of like, okay, well, if you guys don't want to be a part of this, or you guys want to go be, competitive, or whatever the thing is, which I don't even think exactly describes our type of libertarianism. It's an aspect of it, but that as long as you're okay with that and not forcing other people in, then to me we're all kind of the same thing, and you're just putting emphasis on different areas. You can go have your commune on a farm. No libertarian like me or Michael is going to advocate for stopping you from doing that.
The presupposition is you
starve
own a farm,
yourself to death.
property.
I don't care.
Right. Like, how did you get that farm? Did you take that from someone?
Did you see the meme?
Anarcho-socialist
Someone tweeted,
commune
what are you
story
going
that
to do
we'll have
once
to get
communism
to
is
sometime
accomplished?
after.
And then someone
Write that
responded
down.
with,
Yep.
probably
The vegan
study a bit more,
anarcho-socialist
hang out
farm
with
of
my
the late
friends,
1800s.
teach people how to, grow food on my farm, maybe hang out on Sundays, and then someone responded with, your farm? Have these people ever looked at a communist country?
Right.
Because you don't own it.
Right.
It is owned by the greater, and that means everyone is subjugated.
Yeah, look, I mean, that type of system, every time has been not just like hasn't worked out well, it works out really, really disastrously bad.
But this is my here's the thing: if you truly were, this is why the left libertarian on the internet and how they portray it is completely
Where's
wrong.
Mara? It's not
Because
weird not
if
being
you
able
were
to pick
left
on him.
libertarian,
Mara
you
is
would
at
be
the
cheering
Broward
for
County
right
meeting
libertarians because you
with
all
Josh.
agree, leave
So
each other
after
alone
that
unless
meeting,
you
they'll
come to an
both be
agreement.
joining us.
So when
Getting
I
pretty
saw
late, though.
Ron
Where the
Paul,
fuck are they?
I was like,
Yeah.
works for me.
I asked
Just
for a
leave
time.
me and my friends alone, and
I
we'll
asked
go
for a
have our
time.
little
They
hippie
wouldn't give it to
commune,
me, so.
and then we can do our thing.
Yeah.
Couple things. In my experience, a lot of times left libertarians, like you use the word cooperation. I would argue that free markets are cooperation, and they naturally produce hierarchies. And a lot of times, left libertarians want to flatten those hierarchies, which is just
I'm going
against
to
nature.
screenshot your comment and send it to him.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I think that's exactly right. So if you think about, say, like someone operating within a free market or some type of business or something like that, you could describe it as competition. So you could say right now, that this show, right, is in competition with other shows. And there is some degree of truth to that. I mean, someone is choosing right now to watch this show rather than watching some other show, so you're
Yeah, you
competing with
fucking
them.
losers.
But to
You
just
should be
describe what
here,
you do
not
as
on Tim's
competition,
show.
It's like, well, I don't know, you
In
are
due
in
time,
a
Tim.
cooperative
In due
agreement with
time.
everybody who's here
We'll conquer
to
him.
come and do the show, and you're going to come and you're
There can
going
only
to do
be
this,
one.
and you'll come in, and you are in a cooperative agreement with the travel accommodations made for everybody to
Summer
get here. You're in
Shandy,
a cooperative
girly
agreement
beer?
with your sponsors. You're
I
in a
don't even know
cooperative
that beer.
agreement with the people you buy the equipment from. So to me, I see a lot more
I don't know that beer.
cooperation
Never heard
than
of
I
it.
do competition. It's not that that's not there.
gonna say
but
no,
all of
so
it
that
is
helps your
involved.
confidence.
But so I don't think it's like
Well, it's not one or the other.
Right,
Varying
exactly.
degrees.
So the question becomes like, how are we going to relate to each other?
But what ultimately my point was the true rare left libertarians who tend to be the politically homeless
Looks like a mixed
should
drink.
be paying attention to what you guys are doing.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
because if we can all agree, like, we're going to be left alone, we can all look. Ron Paul said he's like, you can have your own socialist commune within a libertarian system.
There's a Betty
Why aren't you
Crocker
doing
recipe
it?
You know
for
what
it.
made me an ANCAP?
Sounds pretty womanly.
I interviewed Ron Paul. I organized a rally.
Wait a
at
minute.
every
This
Federal
says a
Reserve
bottle or
building
count of
simultaneously.
regular
That brought
or
me into, like, a
non-alcoholic
private interview
beer
with Ron Paul.
mixed
And
with
I was
lemonade,
struggling with the whole thing at that time. I was
sugar,
like,
and a lemon
Ron,
wedge.
in a free
So
society,
you're just like
do you
lemonade,
think capitalism and
watered
socialism
down
could, like,
beer?
If it's voluntary, like run parallel to each other? Sure, why not?
Madam
That was his
Treasurer.
answer. I was like,
I think they have to.
You know, it's
because if you're born into a system like this where it's like, competition, cooperation, but then Google has monopolized an aspect of society. How do you use you got to use the government to break that up, in my opinion. If you guys have other ideas,
No, just stop giving them benefit.
well, I
just
think
stop propping them
it's
up.
The taking away of the free market
level the
because
playing
it's
field.
the collusion between governments. So what is the incentive for them to break it up? You know what I mean? They're the ones.
Ian's
who
a lot like Ben Shapiro. I feel like
colluding
every
with
time
those
he says
corporate
something
entities.
based,
So what we need
there's
is more
like
freedom,
two
not
equally
necessarily
cringe
more
times.
government busting up of the corporations.
Talk about the
at least in my
Fed.
opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly
Adam was
think
better.
that
Bring back
it's
Adam.
hard to make the case. You know, there's this tendency,
Kriegler?
I think,
Yeah.
when a
I wonder
problem
what
is
he's been
very
up
hard
to.
to solve, and that's
He's
not
got
to
his own show.
downplay what the
He does
problem
it
is.
like-
good
But
for
there's
him.
this tendency to say when there's a problem, well, let's just have government do it. Like, but okay, we have all government has done is made Google stronger and stronger. They, like Michael was saying, they have no interest in breaking Google up. Now, if you think the easier thing
Yeah,
to
where they
do
gotta get all their
is
data.
overtake the government, get really good people elected there, and then break them up in the best interest of the people, I'm highly skeptical
No, that won't work.
that we'll be able
You
to
got to
do
free
that.
their software code.
Well,
Yeah,
that's it, right? So what you actually,
Graphene
but what you
cowboy.
just like kind of
Graphene
indicated there is you actually want less government control. That you want to actually break their software code, not let them have protection under the law, and you know what I mean. So that that's my thing. Now, a lot of libertarians will make these really stupid arguments that like tech censorship and tech monopolies aren't a big problem. You know, that's just the market. That is really stupid. It is a major, major threat. And
it's a big problem.
And let me say also to Michael's point, a lot of
Blackwater's a
these
private
things, and
company. They
this
can
is
do what
something
they
that
want.
I think is done
That was
on
such
the
a good
left
quote.
a lot, right? I remember one time, just very quick anecdote, that Bernie Sanders was criticizing Ron Paul.
What's funny is
And
when
he
you
said-
say
this is on
it to those
MSNBC,
like people
and
who would
they played a
normally
clip
say
of
that
Ron
about
Paul
big
where
tech.
he said Ron Paul
They'll
was
start
like,
saying
well,
the
what if
things that
somebody
we
doesn't
normally
buy
say?
insurance and then they get
Like,
in a
oh,
motorcycle
but they're not in bed.
accident?
They're in bed
Are
with
you
the
telling me
government,
that
blah,
they
blah,
just
blah. It's
have
like,
to beg
oh,
for
really?
charity or something?
Now you're
And Ron
making
Paul
those
goes,
points.
Look, that's what freedom's all
Now
about.
apply the same thing to
You
big
take
tech,
your own risks.
please.
You make your own choices. You can ask for help, but you don't get to force people to help you. And Bernie Sanders, it cuts back to Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders goes, listen, I like Ron Paul. I think he's a nice guy, but that's what he believes. He believes people shouldn't get medical care, that they just shouldn't get it. Now, meanwhile, Bernie Sanders is a career politician. Ron Paul is a medical doctor who worked at a church and never turned anyone away for $1 an hour when he was young, okay? So here's the thing. It's nice to just say, oh, government has to do this thing, and then feel like the humanitarian in the room. But the reality is that we need to get on the ground and change the culture in a lot of these areas.
Yes.
A lot of the stuff, and this is what Michael was getting at before, a lot of this stuff with the tech censorship
They just don't get it,
is
man.
that
They
we have kind of
believe in
given up on
MMT
this
so hard. They
culture
don't
of
understand the
free
concept
speech.
that this shit
Not
isn't
just,
free.
and I don't mean
You
the
can't
First Amendment.
give something
I mean, like
to somebody
free
without
speech,
taking
what
it
the
away
First
from somebody
Amendment
else.
was alluding
Yeah.
to.
Well, hold on. This is very important. The concept of
Oh,
free
we've
speech as we know it
received
is new.
100 messages.
George
today.
Carlin got arrested for saying
did it.
naughty
That's true.
words.
That is true.
It was what was it, Brandenburg v. Ohio? Was that the case?
I'm not sure.
In the 60s, where we finally said, oh, actually, you can yell fire in a crowded theater. That's
Right,
wrong.
right.
And people have never learned the truth.
And
You
Lenny
can't.
Bruce
Texas.
got arrested too.
Oh,
and
takes tax
Something
money.
happened in
It's
the
not
90s and
free market.
2000s where we were
Yeah.
like, free
Yeah.
speech. Family
Yeah,
Guy,
that
South
was
Park,
Rothbard's
Simpsons, they
point.
were just like, we're going to make a whole bunch
That
of
was the one I was
off-color
just
jokes,
making.
and
You
people
don't-
are going to roll with it.
You
and
don't
have
have
a
to
good
break
time.
up Google.
And now,
Just stop helping them.
So I genuinely
and to your
believe
point,
just,
back then, even
stop
right in the
giving them
90s, they would
taxpayer
have
support.
Those shows like you would see like on those kind of
My
like
horrible
trashy
Rothbard
talk
impression.
shows during the day where they'd
Springer?
have like and
Maury
they'd have
Povich.
but
It's
I
okay, I
mean
haven't
they'd have
listened to
like
enough of
they'd
his
have
actual
KKK
voice
guys
to
come on.
know
They'd
the
have like all
difference.
these guys, and there was kind of
He's
a
the type of
spirit
guy that when you
of,
hear his
like,
actual voice, you're
all
like,
right,
wait, really?
I
That's
think
him?
what you're saying is awful.
That's the guy who I thought had
let's
that epic voice
debate
while
it,
reading
and let's
Anatomy of the
hammer it
State.
out, and like let's see what you know what I mean.
and
Like,
so-
So
this is
I
an-
want to just wrap up that point. What we're seeing right now from the Democrats and the progressives is a reactionary movement. And I mean reactionary in
ready
the
to get
sense
into
that they are
super chats.
opposed to progress. They like to claim they're progressives. They're not. And I'll explain. Critical race applied principles hates the civil rights movement.
Yeah,
Derek
that is
Bell
true.
has criticized the end of segregation. This is one of the preeminent critical race theorists. They do not like the changes that came about,
He said-
and they want
Joey
to
says you
switch
sound
it
like a
back
bad
to the way
Shapiro
things were
imitation.
50 some odd years ago. They don't like the changes we
say your
gave
wife's
with
a
free
doctor.
speech. They don't like the fact that with the internet we
wife's
got
a
even
doctor.
freer speech, and it was crazy.
I don't know if you guys have heard
So
this,
they are
but my
coming
wife,
into power.
very
They are
successful doctor.
pro-corporatist.
Okay, like,
or
I don't know if
you've
you guys
got the
heard this,
progressives
but,
who are just
like,
siding
my
with the
wife's a
establishment,
doctor,
and they're
so,
trying to
yeah.
rewind the
And
clock
before
on freedom of
you
speech
ask,
and civil rights.
people say I don't
In
know
California,
anything about the
they
pussy.
had
I just want to
proposition
say,
in
I'm into some
November
weird
that would have
BDSM, bro.
stripped the civil
Like, if
rights
you came to my
provision
house
from their
and saw the room
constitution.
that we have,
And California
with, like, the weird
voted
swing and all the
very,
leather and
very
the whip.
slim, but they voted no. It was close. These
always
progressives and
thought
Democrats
that.
are actively saying anti-discrimination laws are bad. Ibram Kendi is saying he wants discrimination. This is reactionary. Reactionary literally means they want to oppose the revolution. Identitarian law was the law of the world for thousands of years, and it was only until the U.S. said, civil rights, we're going to enforce this, and it was long and hard fought. Freedom of speech. Only since like the Vietnam protests and everything that we actually gained real freedom of speech throughout the past several decades. They are taking all of that back. They are authoritarians.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And they would oppose any reform that still keeps the system going, because that by its very nature is white supremacy. This is like what the belief is.
So this is the thing I want to say about you guys. When you come out and you're like, war is bad, we shouldn't be having these wars. What American, for the most part, is going to be like, I disagree.
Ben Shapiro.
There's some, sure, the neocon types, I suppose, but regular working Americans overwhelmingly are going to be like, I have no idea why we're doing it and stuff.
Yeah,
and why am I paying taxes for this?
Most of them don't even know about half the wars. I mean, most of them don't even know we have a war in Somalia or war in Yemen. They don't know about
Yemen
this.
is like probably the worst thing that's happening in the world right now,
Yeah,
and
it is
nobody even
literally
knows about
the
it.
greatest starvation of any human history, and in human history, I think.
Wasn't it
Or at least the past 100 years. Yeah.
Wasn't it WikiLeaks that revealed a lot of the stuff with Yemen? The Cablegate stuff?
They revealed a bunch of stuff going on in Yemen, but that was, I believe, before like the actual worst of it, which was really when the Saudis went to war with the Houthis.
The point I wanted to make with this is that not everybody's going to agree with everything you guys are for.
Sure.
But it seems like what you guys are for is what most people would say, hey, that's better than the alternative, and it's at least something for the people. So what does the media say? What is their response? How do they answer what it is you guys are doing?
Analyze
I mean, they'll
simply.
probably use every media trick that they use. You know, I mean, that's like, I think, to be assumed at this point. You know, look, if you get close to being a threat to the establishment, you always are. You know, whether it was Tulsi Gabbard was a Russian agent, right? As a Russian asset or something.
Amazing.
And Bernie Sanders was leading a group of brown shirts. And Donald Trump, of course, was the worst Nazi because he actually won, right? So I think that Americans are becoming aware enough and cynical enough to kind of realize, and this is part of the reason why the corporate press is more and more desperate and erratic and irrational, is that they're losing their grip on power. That people, you can only do this so many times where you call anyone
when the
who's
Broward
a threat
boys
to
get
you,
here,
like a Nazi.
It's gonna be fun
before people start to wake
did
up.
You follow
to this.
those messages?
And I saw
the
a the other day that said that, you know,
did Noda win?
2/3 of the American people say we never should have fought the war in Afghanistan.
I gotta make a
That's
Noda
pretty
for
powerful
president.
stuff.
They're gonna be ready
the
to
longest
celebrate
war
when
in our
they come
history, over $1 trillion,
Making a Noda for
something
president
like a
shirt.
couple 100,000 people killed.
Let me
For
ask
the
you guys a
anarchist
question,
homies.
though. How would you rate the current state of the national economy?
Oof, bad.
Yeah, I mean, like on the precipice of disaster.
I love this metric. I've been using it for the past week. Independent voters, the plurality, say the economy is fairly bad. Republican voters, the plurality says the economy is very bad. In both groups, it's overwhelming majority saying the economy is very bad. Republicans, 73% say it's in the bad category. For independent voters, it's 67%. What do you think Democrats think?
Oh, I
already know the answer. It's the plurality says it's okay.
The majority says the economy is fairly good.
Yeah.
How is that possible? And I bring that up because what I think it represents is there are a group of people living in the Matrix.
Pretty sure that's what the Democrats.
The media
in my
tells
family
them
would say.
everything's fine, you are happy, everything's good. They believe it.
Most of them will just listen to
Foreign
anything
relations,
NPR.
The media
says.
comes
I wanna
out
go
and
deep on these
says
guys.
the media comes out and says the war is a disaster and Biden looks bad, and these people are the ones sitting there gobbling
The
it
wife
all
is
up.
done watching.
Coordinated
Still
media
have yellow on my
campaign,
phone.
that's for sure.
We appreciate
to
you,
answer
Joey.
the question that you said earlier,
Thank
what
you,
would
Joey.
happen?
Thank
We
you.
come here to do the show for you. You think we're streaming to all these platforms for fun, but it's really just for you.
We have some experience with this with Ron Paul and, believe it or not, Gary Johnson. Now, Gary Johnson, in my opinion, they used him as a tool. And
I
Johnson,
remember when Ron Paul,
because
when
he didn't have the
Gary
strength
Johnson
of
said he
principle
would
that
run
Ron
for
and
president
courage
with
and the
Ron
consistency that Ron
Paul
did,
in
he
one of the
allowed himself to
Republican
use it as a
debates.
tool. So what I mean
Am
by
I the
that
only one who
is,
remembers that?
Yes.
you know, everyone kind of goes back to Gary Johnson and the
What
whole,
happened to Gary, man?
Aleppo
He used
moment.
to be so
But
based.
before that,
Well, he said you bake
relatively
the damn
speaking,
cake.
he was being given fair and consistent
2012
coverage,
Gary was a Chad,
by Libertarian Party
and
standards.
fucking
And,
2016
then
Gary
what
was
happened
cringe.
is, now I'm thinking that what they thought is
2012 Gary
conventional
was
wisdom is that the
overrun by
Libertarians
Ron
pull
Paul.
more from the Republican than
Yeah,
the
well,
Democrat. It's
2012
actually not
Gary
true.
is the one that said
it's pretty
he
even,
were to get the
actually.
Republican nomination,
But,
he would choose Ron Paul as his VP.
Then the polling started to show that
You know-
he's hurting Hillary.
You know,
who'd win in a
and,
fight?
and
people
that's
always
when
say,
the
like,
Aleppo
oh,
thing
like,
happened. That's
they
when
were
the
attacking
fangs
it from
came
the
out
left. They
because,
were attacking it from the right.
He was peaking.
Gary Johnson's
at
problem in
12%
2012 is
polling.
Ron Paul was
At one
attacking him
point.
from the libertarian.
So for people
No,
who don't know
him and
how the
Ron
debate
were on the
commission
same
works,
page, bro.
basically the
I was
debate
in a
commission
group
gets
that
to pick
was
That's what I
Ron
mean.
Paul,
five
Gary
polls.
Johnson, 2012.
That's my exact point,
have
though,
to score
is that
15% across three of
Gary
them,
Johnson
and that's what gets you
had
in
to
the
be more
debates, which is a
libertarian because
friggin'
Ron Paul
crazy
was a
bar.
Republican being
and
a
he was
better
actually on the
libertarian.
precipice of doing that.
What
It
happened,
looked like
Gary?
he was hurting
You used to
Hillary
be cool,
more.
man.
Then
Well,
the
let's-
vans
let's-
came out and everything changed.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, the Aleppo moment was his fault.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh
You
yeah.
want to know? You want to know how I always explain this?
There's
Ask
Aleppo.
me about Aleppo.
Drink.
Yeah.
What's Aleppo?
Well,
He
look, I'm
said
not
it.
here to talk about Aleppo. I want to keep it focused on America and jobs. And I think the American people aren't concerned about things like Aleppo.
you're a
I think
great
they're
politician.
mostly.
I mean, the
Exactly.
funny thing.
His answer was
Gary
Here's-
did, but that's
Dude, I'll
what's
give
kind
you
of sad. Real
dude,
quick,
Nobody
the better
cares.
one of that, I mean, like that was a way better way to handle it. But do you remember? This shows you how much confidence and just not giving in to the narrative that you've been defeated is. There was this one moment in the debates. It was my favorite moment in the debates with Donald Trump. This is back when there were all the Republicans, and they asked Donald Trump about the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and he goes, "The major problem in the Trans-Pacific Partnership is that it doesn't address China's currency manipulation." Okay, if you don't address China's currency manipulation, you can't get anywhere. It goes on this whole thing about China's currency, and then Rand Paul just raises his hand and he goes, "Shouldn't someone point out that China's not involved in the TPP?" And Donald Trump goes, "Rand Paul, why are you way over there? What are you at, like 1%? Like you midget or something?"
Yeah.
And then it was just like this. You just move away from it, and you're like, "I guess Trump won
I
that
really
exchange."
wanted
I don't
Rand Paul
know.
to do
Like,
something great,
even though he was
and
like,
he's
you
let
could
me
be
down
wrong.
so
and
hard.
Listen, Gary Johnson could have been like, "I'm sorry, what is Aleppo?" And they go, "Aleppo, Syria." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Well, the crisis in Aleppo, Syria is that." But if he had just demonstrated after that he knew 3 things about Syria, he'd have been fine. But he just kind of started apologizing and it was just bad
he
politics.
froze.
You guys ever
He's a
watch-
good guy, by the way, Gary Johnson. But
Yeah, yeah. Have you guys ever seen the Futurama episode where they unthaw the 80s businessman?
no.
So Fry's, he's like, "I'm from the era, same as you," so he likes him and he invites him
Oh,
into
yeah,
Planet
the
Express.
stock guy, yeah.
And he
That show
tells
is
Fry,
amazing.
he's like, "What do you do when someone asks about something you don't know? Don't tell me about X, I'll tell you about X. X is not the problem," or something like that. Just like politician answers. It's
Something.
But
beautiful.
I actually think the Gary Johnson thing is a really good cautionary tale on how to deal with this stuff, because compare it to Ron Paul in 2012. The main thing that they tried to do with Ron Paul in 2012 is block him out and act like he didn't exist. He was getting first, second place in straw
Jeffrey
poll,
Tucker
all straw
read
polls he was
newsletters
dominating,
under his
especially the
name.
online ones. But then he was actually
No,
like
Ross
looking like
Perot
he
for
was going to win
2024,
Iowa,
I'm
New
sold.
Hampshire, and they just said, well, first
Let's get a
place is
Ouija
such and
board
such
and get
and
this
third
thing
place
done.
is-
Row
and just
24.
completely wrote him out. But what that served to do is inflame the grassroots that much more, and then and the media can never admit that it's wrong, so it starts this cycle. And it's the same thing that happened with Jordan Peterson. You go out there and you say the truth, you say some bold shit that's true, and then the media wants to
I have some
destroy
bold
you
shit
for doing
that's
that,
true.
for going against their narrative. And then if you just play it right, you will
I
get
don't wanna
free
say it
press.
right now
Trump
'cause
did
it's
it
gonna
in
distract, but-
too, but in a different way. They
We'll
will
get there.
just continually.
I'm still sitting
your
on the
inability to admit that
vegan
they're wrong, go after you
anarcho-socialist
again and
commune
again
that
and
failed.
It's written down right there.
You can
Awesome. That's a fun
snowball
story.
off that. Whereas Johnson, I think, was happy just to be on the media, and that
Well, not
allowed
fun
him
for
to be
them.
their tool, which they were happy to do. And
Funny
then they
for
turned
us
on
for all
him when
the
it
wrong
looked like it
reasons.
wasn't going the way that they anticipated.
We've got a really simple solution for this. It's just send in Michael Malice.
Oh yeah,
There we go.
that will always be our solution tactically. Whenever in
But-
doubt, we hit the malice
But that's
button.
the thing.
But people need to understand, Michael is a genius. It's
Yeah.
not just about his comedic wit.
No,
Smart
he's
guy,
fucking
Michael. We're
good,
big
man.
fans. It's that he just knows so much. He's got a good memory.
Meaty
He's got a
flesh
good
balls.
wit. He's got a good understanding of history and philosophy. He would run circles around these people.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that
No
is
problem.
our ace in the hole. Is Michael Malice? No, listen, but that is also
I just
there's
leave that
there's
there.
something to the fact
Yeah.
that and I've done a fair amount of like cable news shows, and there are exceptions to this. There are some really smart and like impressive people in cable news, but they're few and far between. And the vast majority of people on there, it is astounding how little they know, how weak their arguments are. I mean, these are people like I'd say the majority of people that you see on cable news straight up could not do a show like this. Like, they couldn't do a show where you were just asking them about, like, oh, well, what happened in 1914 or what happened here? Like, they don't know stuff. And I'm not claiming to be the expert who knows everything, but, like, Michael Malice knows way more than, like, 99% of them do. And they may look at him and be like, oh, this guy's a troll and he's being a clown. But that clown is smarter than any of you guys. And so, but this is an interesting thing, too, that's different than the Ron Paul days. It's different than 2008, 2012. There weren't shows like this. And Rogan and a whole bunch of other big people who are
Lex
big.
Friedman.
Yeah, like these are
Pat
huge
David lives in
platforms
Florida.
that have
Let's get him
very
on.
in-depth, interesting,
shoot
serious
for the stars,
conversations that reach audiences that are actually quite a bit bigger than a lot of the corporate press audiences. And that is a whole new, like, tool that if we really want to change something in this country, we'd be crazy to not recognize that there's a whole different playing field. And by the way, that's, I think, a big part of the reason why the whole corporate press is freaking out about fake news and why we have to crack down on all these voices, because for the first time, I think really ever, they've lost their monopoly. Yep. They now have real competition.
There's some university who did like a study or whatever, and they claimed that I was a super spreader of election disinformation on Twitter. And I just find that so ridiculous because my Twitter is just, it's not a serious display of
not
news.
Anymore.
Like I once tweeted,
I unfollowed
what's the
Tim
greatest
because
band
he
and why
was
is it
boring as
Radiohead?
shit.
And then a bunch
And
of
then he
mad.
started like
And then I
trolling
said,
everybody.
the Foo
And
Fighters
I
are the greatest
refollowed
band
him.
of all time. And then people start
Been great.
like I don't use Twitter in a way.
He's been
that,
channeling
but I guess
his
that's their
inner
argument.
malice.
That proves it. He just is posting garbage on Twitter that makes no sense. But they put me in the same category as like Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood, and I'm like, I was saying those people were wrong the entire time. It's this. What I think is with the smear pieces that come out against me, they're scared of one very, very big thing. A lot of these big, even right-wing shows, they have funding.
Look at that. We got
somebody
Pat
stepped
in the
up and
Discord
said,
now.
"We got a ton of money.
See?
We can give you
The
money to
sticker
help you
works.
grow." We don't have that. We just have the people who are members at Timcast.com.
Welcome.
So it's literally
You're
just
now a
the people. And we don't have donors that are just like mysteriously giving us large sums of money. It doesn't exist. It's all, for the most part. I'll do the Bernie Sanders. Our average contribution is $10. And that's making this whole thing possible. That, I think, is a problem that the establishment will not be able to solve for. Because like you mentioned with all these other shows, how do you just stop them? Well, there's censorship for sure. So they can certainly excise certain political opinions. But the stuff we're talking about, it's not controversial. People don't like war and conflict and theft and authoritarianism.
And lockdowns and banker bailouts and corporate bailouts and militarized police and the idea of the war on terrorism being turned inward against the American people. Even if you really don't like Republicans, I mean Democrats, like Democratic voters, wake up, man. The Republicans were the ones who supported the war on terrorism, and now they are the targets of the war on terrorism. Do you really want to be the next people who support the war on terrorism? You think you won't be the next targets of it too? Like, there are so many issues here, and I think to your point, Tim, even if they were able to get you booted off of all media platforms, or God forbid something more authoritarian, like some real crazy, they snatch you up and get throw you in some prison and torture, whatever they could do, they could shut. What do they do to your giant audience who wants this type of stuff? But you think anyone who listens to this show is then going to go turn on Don Lemon and watch him? And I'm not even saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that, like, oh my God, you're the greatest journalist in the world. It's like that you're a journalist and he's not. He's a propagandist. Like, that's just not, anyone who's watching this show is thinking. They might be disagreeing with everything I'm saying. They might be disagreeing with everything you're saying, but they're thinking. When you watch Don Lemon, it's there to go, fill me with fluff so I can feel like I did my part by knowing what's going on in the world.
CNN is something I hate
They're not
watch.
going back into the Matrix. The people
I don't
who watch
it
this
at
show,
all. I like
or any
to
of the, like,
maintain my
real
brain cells, what
alternative,
little I have left.
media.
Fox News
wait
called
for
me
the
an
headlines
investigative journalist
that are like,
because I made some phone calls.
Don't buy the
Something that
propaganda.
they're
No. But check this out.
Positive or negative. Don't
This
buy
is
it.
this is how crazy things are.
CNN is only good when
a
they
lot of
prove
these smears
CNN
against
wrong,
me will say, like, Tim
which
Pool's
they do
not a
quite
journalist.
often.
And I usually just say I'm like a commentator, but I do journalism. I literally fact check all day, every day, and I make phone calls. I call for comments. And so when the vaccine mandate thing happened, I called the city. I tried going to the mayor's office. They have like an email web portal. It barely works. And so I called the city. They said no medical exemptions. I started calling various restaurants. They said no medical exemptions. And Fox was like, investigative journalist Tim Pool. And you know what? I appreciate the compliment or the statement of the work I'm doing, but because these people in media don't do that anymore to a great degree, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great journalists on the ground in conflict doing investigative work. There's a lot of nonprofits that do it. But much of the New York media environment won't even make a phone call.
That's why LaDuff is based.
Did you guys hear about Mayo Gate?
No, what was this?
So this was probably a bit esoteric for this show, but there was a story I saw go viral because the North Carolina GOP tweeted out a quote from a restaurant where they said, "I'm paying $200 more per week in mayonnaise." And they said Bidenflation hits, North Carolina. Because the Republicans tweeted it out, the left said there's no possible way someone's spending $200 a week in mayonnaise. They said if the consumer price index is a 5.4% increase, that means they'd have to be spending $3,700 on mayonnaise per week for there to be a $200 increase. This is ridiculous. Huffington Post, Independent, N100, they all write it up saying something's wrong in Mayotown. This restaurant accused of lying.
Christ.
You know what I did? I called the restaurant. And a guy answered the phone.
Rob
and I
wants
said,
to be let in.
I see a quote from you in the press that you
are
spending $200 a week in mayonnaise because of inflation. And he went, "Oh yeah, so we go through about
hey, he's got a drink.
5-gallon buckets per week. They used to be $18. Now they're about 36. So you do the math." And I was like, "Oh."
It's mayonnaise.
We use it for our dressing.
No, Robert, mayonnaise is not an instrument.
So we kind of go through a lot. And I said, "What's the capacity of your restaurant?" He said, 250.
Can you pause the
That's
stream?
a lot of people for any one time. So you imagine you
could,
go to a
man.
Sunday
Not
afternoon
going to.
restaurant, there's a 20-minute wait
I can't-
because they're full.
I
You
can't
got
hear you.
250 people. They all get mayo on their
What?
burger.
What do you
They all
mean you
get
can't hear
ranch
me?
dressing on their salads. So
Can't
that's how
hear
much
us
mayo
because
there
you're
is.
on mobile?
These media outlets, if
Yeah,
you can
it's
even call
good.
them that,
Yeah.
didn't even make the phone call to ask. They saw a
Tim,
tweet and said, "Let's
He's
attack
talking
these
over.
people." What happened? They sent a harassment campaign
Yeah,
at
I'm
the
not
restaurants
stopping
of
Tim
people
Pool.
saying you're Republican
We're getting
shills,
through
you're
this
lying
so
about
we
Biden.
can- so we
One
can
story
chill.
actually accused the restaurant of blaming Biden when the restaurant was literally just giving one simple quote saying, "Yes, our prices have gone up. Thank you."
It's
That's-
really unbelievable.
That story is a microcosm of what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Like
Journalism.
Well, not just journalism, but you took initiative and you did this one little thing, and through that got to the bottom of that story.
Don't
And-
be a
and
journalist,
right now, our
be a
society is having
reporter. A
serious
journalist
dearth
could type
of
without
courage
even looking.
and action.
I can type without.
So,
looking.
if I may, I kind of want to take it because what started this whole
Coming up to a
sprawling
major
conversation was
podcast.
you saying
Love
long-term
it.
solutions,
Classic.
like long-term. What do we do?
You
I
need
think
a
you're
better
starting to
microphone
see
connection.
The beginning of
'cause
what
you're
has
half
to be
in
done
and half
with all
out.
of these parents going
Yeah.
to the school board meetings.
1 foot in,
that's
1
pretty-
foot out.
That's beautiful, man.
to stop these mask mandates. But that's the thing,
And CRT.
Well, NCRT, and but you see, so like the conversation is around the national news so much, and who's producing the national news story? The mainstream media. Who do they serve? The government. So like we're kind of chasing a tail by doing that when really the action is in the states and the localities.
Yep.
And there is
we
a
go.
lot of action going
Localism.
on there. And one person can have
Go,
an impact
Dave.
by going
Go,
locally.
Mike.
I mean,
Go.
one story just in my personal experience. I know, given the vaccine mandates and everything, weed isn't the biggest issue here, but like I'm just saying, I as one person went to 2 city council meetings.
Says you're
where I
almost
live
as
in
bad as
Norristown,
Rich's
Pennsylvania.
microphone.
Had a conversation with my chief of police, said, "What's going on with decriminalization of weed?" And he said, "You know what? I don't know, but it's time. It needs to be done." I went and got some draft legislation, switched out the city of Lancaster with the municipality of Norristown, gave it to the city council, told them, "Hey, you guys are all Democrats. The Democrat Party of Pennsylvania has weed legalization in their platform. Shouldn't take me, some random libertarian dude, coming in here and being like, let's get this done.
Right.
This is a slam dunk." A couple months later, it was decriminalized.
There you go.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right that the only place that you're going to make a real difference politically is locally at this point. The whole, particularly the federal government apparatus,
If you're talking
is
to us, you're muted.
designed, like as you're
muted,
saying,
Rob.
Jekyll Island, right? By design
he's
is
talking to
there
us.
to protect the powerful. It's not there in the
But
interest of the people
I saw
or
that.
of
I'm
liberty.
not.
But I just think that, like you said, it's like that stuff that's going on at local levels, especially, there's something to me really powerful about the parents showing up to these meetings and just saying, we're not taking this
Those are
anymore.
some of
I mean,
the coolest videos.
What type of level?
They get fucking
like,
pissed.
Do you get to, like, there's got to be a line somewhere, right? You're like,
Oh,
I'll
Soren
tell you,
joined
for
as
me
well.
personally, I mean, my kids, like, my wife's
Welcome.
pregnant now and I got a 2.5-year-old. So they're a little bit younger than this, being in this world yet. Like, they're still, I still protected them.
Is this
protected
your
them
lawyer?
completely.
Y'all are going
But
to jail.
The idea that you're going to mask up my child.
Super
and
chat
then
hasn't
teach
gone
them
out yet.
race essentialism.
We'll see it soon.
No. And like, over my dead body. Like I mean, like literally, if
Place
anything is
to, Rob.
worth dying over, that is worth dying over. Like you know, forget the like, you'll pry my gun from my cold dead hands. Like you'll pry my kid from my cold dead hands. There is no chance I'm going to allow my kid to be propagandized in the most abusive manner. I just don't know how, and it's really heartening to see parents standing up against that.
Well, let's go to Super Chats. And
yes.
we got
Here we are, guys.
Good comments, so smash that like button. And I just got to start from where we're at real quick because Gary Talent says, when are you going to rename the show the Michael Malice Fan Hour?
Oh, yes.
I mean,
it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, definitely. We'll read it. Michael Malice.
Everybody
Fan
loves
IRL.
Malice.
Fancast IRL.
Nope.
It's just we just sit here and just stand.
And that's
for,
not even
for
ironic. Like
Let's
everyone loves
ring to
Raymond.
it.
Everyone literally does
quote
love
him
Malice
more often than anybody else.
Well,
like he's
we'll
a,
get
like
to
he's
that.
a writer
We'll
from like the
get to that.
1950s. You know,
You're starting a network, right? Like you could make that one of the shows.
Heck yeah.
The Michael Malice Fan Hour.
You should.
And
Bring
then
back
we got one that's
Nightshade.
really interesting. I haven't seen this. Mitchell Davis says Biden just banned import of Russian ammo. This will cause ammo
There
to
you go, Pat.
skyrocket where no one can afford it.
There we go.
There will be a shortage and companies won't have to compete. Only rich will have it. Gun control. Wow. I didn't hear that.
There's another story that I just saw related to the gun control issue where, again, it goes back to the states and the localities and everything are where the action's at. Missouri, the state of Missouri passed a law saying that neither the state government nor the localities are going to be enforcing federal gun control law, and now that's a Supreme Court issue.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, you told me about that earlier today. That is very interesting.
All right. Trip Suck says, last night in SF, I went to see a play.
with
Vax
Marty.
cards were checked and matched to people's IDs at the door. Dozens were turned away. No refunds. My family had to literally sneak past the guards to get in. Also, Hamilton is cringe.
Yikes.
We were
Thank
just
you.
thinking about this.
Whoever
In
wrote
New York
that's
City,
based.
a willful
Fuck
human rights
Hamilton.
violation is fined at $250,000. A vaccination card fine is $1,000. Then I think it's $2,500, and then $5,000, and then I think the $5,000
That's
is
the one
capital
thing Michael
violation.
Malice is wrong
So I
about.
thought about what would
Alexander
happen
Hamilton.
if I just
show and the
brought
person.
some friends who had disabilities, barring them from getting vaccinated, went to a random restaurant in New York, walked in, and as soon as the person said, "Okay, you got to show your proof of ID or vaccine," I'd say, "Well, I'm not actually here to come in. I'm just a legal observer because I've got some disabled people who are going to try and enter." And if you deny them, it's a human rights violation under New York City, state, and federal law. I'm just curious to see which fine you're more scared of, the $250,000 human rights violation or $1,000 COVID violation. Coming in, guys. Let's see what he does. I'll be filming, by the way. Just like how will the shops
that's
react to that?
awesome.
Because the government has put them in a position where
Someone
they
in the
literally
Mises Caucus of New
cannot
York,
escape this.
please do that.
And the important point I brought up several
Eric
times now is these
Cordova will
companies
be
have to
on
fire their employees.
September
Now we're
10th.
talking
We can
about
pitch it to him.
labor
He's a New
rights.
York guy?
So listen.
He's the chair of the
If
Queen's
you live
LP.
in New York or San Fran, New
okay.
Orleans,
Maybe he
or
can
Los
tell me why
Angeles,
New York has
and
been
your
so
company
pussy
mandates you to get a
since
vaccine,
these,
but you're legally,
these
medically
fucking
can't because
vaccine
your doctor is
passports.
barring you.
It's going to be a
Then
great
you can
conversation
take
with
it up
that
with.
guy.
How is
I
it the
think this would be
cheese-eating
the
surrender
EEOC.
monkeys of France look
Equal
more
Employment
based?
Opportunity Commission, I think what's called, and they handle discrimination. Now the problem
Fuck
is
New
the local
York.
government. You may get cult establishment people being like, "We don't care, get out." But if your doctor legitimately says, and this happens all the time, there's people who can't get it, you can't. Then it is I don't even think it's an opinion. I think it's a fact that you are being discriminated against based on a disability that is not fair and it violates the law. Let's see how these New York businesses handle this. Not to mention, what would happen if like 100 people tried walking into one restaurant and none of them had ID on them? The whole restaurant would be jammed
We
up
have
and unable to
consensus
operate
in the
because they've
chat.
got to
Yeah.
ID everybody at the door.
One chat is all
It
we
just
need
wouldn't
for
work.
consensus.
Yeah.
And so then
Indeed.
an hour of checking IDs and business can't operate. You know
Fuck
what,
New
people?
York.
You can't tolerate fascism. All right, let's see what we got. Torin
Damn
Danowski
it.
says, Dave, I just joined the Mises Caucus in Philly this week because of you.
Hell yeah,
Thanks
welcome,
for
brother.
pointing me to freedom-minded people in Progressive City.
Oh,
There you
yeah.
go.
Well, thank you. And that's Michael's hometown.
It's close to me, and we're looking into. You guys had Maj Toure on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Maj has been on? That's my guy,
Yeah.
dude. Maj is
Yeah.
awesome.
He's a rad dude.
Yeah.
Smith
And
Torre,
he,
2024.
At some
You
point
heard
soon,
it first,
he's
baby.
opening up the Solutionary Center. It's like a community center gun range, and the Philly Libertarian Party is looking to start hosting their meetings there. So that should be
Hell
really cool.
yeah.
Right on. All right, let's see. We got Joseph Groshek says, my company is trying to force me to get the shot. Now here's my issue. Doctors are the ones who should be trying to convince you, not force you. And so the challenge the problem I have with all of this is like
stepping it up.
Bro, your manager at your supermarket doesn't know your medical history. He shouldn't be telling you to do anything.
Getting more comfortable as time goes on.
So you go to your doctor.
Good, Mike.
And you figured out we had Kurt Schlichter on the show.
He might make
Come on, Mike.
And his doctor is conservative.
Yep, he might.
And he said he's talked to his doctor
Like
about
Rocky's
his
manager.
condition, like his age and like his risk factors and all that. And doctor said, I recommend it. He said, all right. And he's here and he's fine. But to force people without knowing anything about them, there's two big things that I don't like here. Forcing people to out their disabilities and demanding ID. Not to mention demanding a medical procedure is none of your business. Like that's just crazy.
Well, I mean, just like the idea of like creating this two-tiered caste system where not everyone has these basic, fundamental rights to participate in society is outrageously creepy. The slippery slope is just unfathomable.
Well,
I mean, like it's you've now got, especially now that Biden's already pushing boosters. So what are you saying? This is just forever now? By the way, COVID's never going away.
Yep.
There will be variants here with us for.
I had a guy
stop
me.
Be here with
Well,
us
that's only because you're
when I was leaving the warehouse.
Yeah,
today,
right.
He had to stop me.
There's something
and
interesting
we started
there. Isn't
with
the Libertarian Party opposed
like
to the
just
civil
regular
rights law?
bitching about truck driving.
Well, I mean, the Libertarian. I don't know what the official
COVID is never
Libertarian
going
Party
away,
position is,
to
but I'll tell you
Afghanistan,
that
to the Soviet
idea
Union, all in a span of about 2
banning
minutes.
Discrimination by private businesses.
Honestly,
would be
my
in
coworker's a
conflict
fucking
with
creep.
pure
I know that all my female
principles.
coworkers
So
think
the
he's a
idea
creep,
that if
but he's
you
also a
own
neocon.
business,
So
like in the
frankly,
same
I
way
don't
that
try
you
to
can
win him over to my side. I want him
who
to
you
keep
want to
thinking
have
all
as a
these
guest on your
neocon
show
thoughts,
and who you don't want to have as
so
a guest
that
on your show.
all the cool
You could
coworkers
discriminate
attribute neocon
based
ideas
on
with him.
race or gender or something like that. I don't have to agree with it.
I
but
don't
can accept
know,
that that's
Joey.
your right.
I just keep
However, this we're
refilling it
talking
every
about
time I get
the
halfway
government
down.
forcing
And
you
so
to
I
discriminate
just keep
against a certain group. And now you're getting into Jim Crow categories. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I don't know what other legal precedent to cite that would be forced discrimination by private businesses under the law. Jim Crow comes to mind.
This is interesting. The inverse would actually be if private businesses started saying they were choosing to discriminate against people who weren't getting the vaccination, and the government said you can't do that anymore. We're not even at that
Make
level.
them give you the
Wi-Fi
Wi-Fi
the
at that
government is
restaurant.
forcing the businesses, and
Yes.
the businesses
I'm
I
gonna
talked
hop out.
to
You
when I
can barely
called
hear.
said, we're
Okay.
sorry, we don't
See
want to
ya.
do this. We're just following the mayor's orders.
So it's lovely having you
and
here, Rob.
By the way, as much as
Our
I
non-legal
would
counsel,
be
everyone.
appalled and hate it if businesses were voluntarily discriminating against non-vaccinated people, although I will say perhaps
I think he was saying he could barely hear us over the
businesses where it made
Tim Pool
sense.
stuff. but
Okay, like I saw like
kind of the
some
point.
cruise lines doing it, and
I thought we were doing Mystery
I
Science
kind of
Theater.
understand where on
Yeah,
cruise
yeah.
ships they'd be
Where the
concerned
fuck is
about business
Josh?
before
He
the
said he
Delta
was gonna
variant,
get on
we found
here.
out you could still get it
He'll
and
be
pass
here.
it along and all that, but I'll just say,
Show's not
as
over
much
yet.
as I would be appalled by
Oh,
that,
coming on now for
I
voice.
wouldn't support
Never mind.
legislating
With
that
driving
they're not
right now.
allowed to do that, having the
So
government
he's
force
driving
them
home.
to not do that.
When he
I
gets
would,
home, he'll
however,
get on.
say, you know what? You're going to lose a ton of business and just get completely destroyed in the market
And
for this
blast
dumb
them.
decision and
Yeah.
blast them.
I'm going to read the super chat, but first I just want to ask a quick question for some people who may need clarification. You guys are not for open borders.
No.
This is going to be an immigration
No,
chat.
it's
Ooh.
the
Fakertarians
so
watching
it
like
gets sticky
yes,
because
yes.
there is a
Sometime.
spectrum within libertarianism. So you've got anarchists, you've got small government types, and because of that, it creates a spectrum of what is canon within libertarianism.
Right.
So like.
But the Mises Caucus is not for open borders.
There
There's
there
no
are probably
position
some people
in the
in the
Mises
Mises
Caucus.
Caucus who are, and
Actually,
some people who aren't.
No, there's a
But let
lot
me
of
tell-
people in the Mises Caucus who are.
I think
who
it's
are
either
open
private
but our
borders
official
or
position
open
on
borders.
is
Those
that
seem to be
because
the
there is-
two
So
type of
the idea of
folks.
the Mises Caucus is
But
that
I'm
we
saying
focus
as a
on
caucus,
the
there
80%
is no
that
position.
libertarians agree on. The wars,
I mean,
the growth of government,
yeah, pretty
taxes,
much.
all this stuff. And,
look at the
and
platform.
not on the stuff
It's
that
not in the
divides us,
platform.
like borders. And
Someone go after Rob then,
you know,
because he was
people
telling
get really
people at
zealous
Yale
about the
Revolution
open
that we're
border
open
thing.
borders.
And because there legitimately is a
Nah, I'm just
spectrum of
kidding. We love
thought
you, Rob.
that's what I would call canon within libertarianism. I mean, just the idea that
Well, it
the
depends on who
borderlands
owns
should be
them,
owned
right?
by the government
If the government
versus
owns them,
borderlands
they
should
have to
be,
be open.
privately owned.
If they're privately
that
owned, then they have
really
to be
creates
private.
a spectrum of
Yeah,
two
exactly.
different strains of thought.
I think that's what he's
so
saying right
we
now.
just basically. We don't have an official position.
See?
If you want to,
Told
like, if you were within that spectrum,
There we go. That
you're cool
answers
with us.
that.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
right on.
I'll just say, like, my position on the issue, because I know there are people in the Mises Caucus who are open borders and there are who are not.
Yep.
I am not for open borders, and I don't think that that's the proper libertarian position. The idea that libertarianism is
Privatization.
basically to meet the belief that you own yourself.
We need to control the borders
that
to our
you,
state.
You believe in the non-aggression principle and private property rights. that's more or less where you.
I mean, those Californians, man, they're coming over, taking our jobs,
philosophy of
and
peace
borders
and
are
prosperity.
causing Democrats.
Borders,
we fucking inherited
the
Ben
idea
Shapiro.
that if the government
really
has
helping us?
commons, that those commons
All those
should
New
be
Yorkers
open
getting
to
down here in
everybody
Florida, my God.
is not at all deduced from libertarian
Build the wall
principles. And the truth
to
is
keep the
that
New
if
Yorkers
the
out.
government taxes, or as libertarians believe, robs from the domestic population, right? That's our belief, that it's theft from the domestic population to create commons, then those commons have more of a rightful claim by the domestic population than any foreign population. So I'm not an open borders libertarian.
And
That's
I
not
personally fall on Dave's side of that argument, but as a matter of our platform,
yeah.
Right on. Arian Amicus says, thank you for covering the food shortages over the past few weeks.
Take away the welfare
I've been trying to
state,
convince my
and the
roommate
more
to
it becomes
pitch in for
dominant.
emergency supplies and
That's
getting
the Ron
food,
Paul
and it has helped
argument.
us prepare. You can always go to Safe and Ready Meals. We safeandreadymeals.com. We haven't done a promo for them in quite some time, but that's the stuff that we have.
Man,
Yeah,
we need
that's
to
great
get
to
some
have.
of those
I mean, look,
like
man, after
prepper shit
2020, if you
sponsoring
didn't
us.
think
Like,
maybe
come on,
it's a good
Alex
idea
Jones water
to
filter.
have like some
My Patriot
type of
Supply.
supply
That's
of
the big one.
food. I think
My Patriot
you know,
Supply.
I would just say I think it's very wise to do as much of that as you can.
A big part of the famine in Yemen is caused by Saudi Arabian airstrikes
Embargo.
on their water supply.
Yes,
they
they-
destroyed
Dude,
their
they've bombed
infrastructure.
Yes, like to be
Everything.
clear, what Saudi Arabia is conducting is, with no exaggeration, a war of genocide. With the
hunger is a weapon.
intention of genocide. They are starving the population intentionally. And the U.S., this was launched under Obama. You can go look this up, Google, Obama placate the Saudis. He literally said we had to support them in this war to placate them because, you know, we had kind of pissed them off with the Iraq war and the Iran deal. So here, let's throw the Saudis a bone and give them a war of genocide.
The reason
And
Immigration does
I'm
need to
sorry,
be
to make it
simplified,
even
but
more
I think there's an order
ass-backwards.
of priorities there.
Our
That's me
original
personally.
involvement
Like,
in Yemen was
stop
under
giving them
Bush,
free shit for showing
as
up.
part of the war on terror because they have the Al Qaeda.
I mean,
in the
shit, my
Arabian
dad
Peninsula.
works
Huge
customs, and I'll straight
Al-Qaeda
up
cell
tell
that
him, it's
is
like, why do you have
in
to turn
Yemen.
away the hot
So,
Latina
you know
girls?
who the best fighting
Fuck,
force
man.
against Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula was? The Houthis.
Oh yeah, so this is
And-
the other like little twist to throw into Obama supporting the war, which by the way Trump continued all 4 years of his presidency, so don't let him off the hook for this either, and made huge deals with the Saudis. But yeah, so you have the Houthis fighting against the Saudis, Al Qaeda on the side of the Saudis, America coming in on the side of Al Qaeda and the Saudis, fighting against the Houthis, who were the enemies
But
of Al
we were
Qaeda.
originally, to some extent, supporting the Houthis as part of the war on terror, and then just like the Mujahideen, it all flipped. And
Well, listen, that's the other thing that's so criminal, and this really falls on Obama. And Trump was a little bit better, but not much, but better than Obama on this. Is that in Libya, Syria, and in Yemen, he fought on the side of Al Qaeda, and in both Libya and Yemen, actually funded and armed Al Qaeda. And you know, a lot of people throw the term treason out, but the literal definition of treason
supporting your enemies.
is giving aid and arms to the enemy, right, during war. And that is what Obama and John Brennan and as well as, you know, some other powerful people are guilty of.
Keegan Hodder says, Dave, I know you don't believe in intellectual property and piracy. Tim, I know you strongly believe in these things. Please discuss. So you don't believe in intellectual property and
they're going to debate IP right now.
Well, I don't
they're doing
believe
IP?
in intellectual property in the sense that it's property. You know, so it's not that there should be like this is like kind of abstract philosophical stuff, but the idea that like if
I go
someone
back and
takes
forth
your
on that one.
property, you have a right to use.
I've gotten
force
burned, so I'm
to
just
stop
kind of
you
like,
from taking
ugh, I don't
your
know how I feel.
property. If someone downloads your podcast or something like that without permission, no, listen, you can make agreements with different companies that host it, that penalize them in some way. But what I mean is that it's not a property right in the same way
I agree
that a physical property right is a property right. So you make contractual agreements with someone and you protect against that. But no, do I think someone could be thrown in jail for like downloading music illegally? No, I don't.
We agree. I think if someone steals your property, you have a right to take it back.
So like, what if you come up with like this elaborate design for like
yes,
a
kind
new,
of right, more or less,
a new
I think
energy system or something?
Stealing someone's intellectual property.
You come
is
up
a
with the
civil thing. It's like
idea.
you take them to court. You sue them. You say,
Is
"Hey,
that
look, this was something I
intellectual
developed,
property
and then they
or
ripped
not?
it off
I don't think
somehow."
so because
And
it's
the
like if you
criminal
can't utilize
action
it,
could
if you
be
can't
hacked
like
it or something.
do anything with it,
that's
you just
a
have
whole
the
different
idea.
story.
You
That's
just
breaking
order
into
it.
kind of
Like that's
breaking
what
into
that's what these
something.
big
Yeah,
companies
so that's
do,
kind of a
right? They
different
buy
thing.
these things, they
But I
patent
also
them,
think
and they
that
shelf them
most
forever.
of the time,
so there's no
that
competition.
type of stuff should be dealt
Well, there's
within
that,
the realm of
but
contractual
in my case, I'm a
agreements.
very
trying to
artistically
figure out
minded
technological
person,
solutions. So, like, if you
and I want to make
my
sure that
song
no
on
one's
the
taking
web,
my work and
you
trying
get
to
paid
take
with a
credit for
cryptocurrency
it,
that would automatically
or trying
detect
to,
that I was the creator and
do
siphon a
anything like
percentage
that.
of the payment to the creator.
Right.
That's
So
why
that
every
you could
time I
have, like,
do a
entice 1,000
contract
people to
with
sell my
someone for graphic
MP3s,
design,
and I
even
would
if
give
I'm
them
not
each
making money
1%
off of
of
the
every
sales,
sale. So you had
whatever
people
they
like
use it
organizing
for,
huge websites
I at
of
least
like
have it in my
aggregated
contract
music to
where
sell, where they'd be
you at
making-
least have to give me
and also
credit
just
that this
the
was something
truth
that
is
I created.
intellectual
I
property,
can
like,
put this
we're
on my
all
resume
using,
and
like,
claim this was
almost like
something I
the
created,
most
and you have to
generous
back me up,
examples
and
where
vice
we would all
versa.
be kind of sympathetic, like, yeah, you shouldn't really
No,
take
that's
that
just kind of
person's
my
work for
thing,
that.
but that's
the
why,
way
I do
intellectual
contracts.
property
I'm
is
not getting the government
actually
to enforce that.
through
I'm
the
making
law,
sure
there are
that
far more
when I do a
egregious
deal, like,
violations of that, where, like,
yeah, just sign this so that way
look,
people
the
know
idea
that I
almost in,
made
like, the
this.
most abstract sense,
You know,
right?
you don't just turn
It's
around
like
like,
if
hey,
you
look
were
what
on
I
a
made.
desert
Like,
island,
what the
Yeah,
fuck,
you
man?
can give credit where it's
found
due.
like some shells,
Yeah, exactly.
and
Like-
you made like a necklace, like a shell necklace out of that, and you're like, well, I worked. That took me like an hour to do, so that's my property. I mixed my labor with the earth. You know, the most lock-in, just acquisition of property. That's my property.
But on the
and
flip
someone ran up and
side,
snatched
like,
it off your neck.
if
you'd be
someone
like, that person's a thief.
like,
I
if
think
you go
have
to
the
a
right to go
cake maker
tackle
and
him and
say, "I
take
want
it back.
Mickey Mouse
That's
on a cake," and
yours.
then the Disney
You work for that,
Corporation
not
comes
them.
in, I
But
mean,
if
like,
you went
fuck
and made a
them.
little
I mean,
shell
what the hell?
necklace and then said,
You're
I
literally
am now the
losing
creator of
nothing
shell
from selling some
necklaces,
cake maker
and anyone
for
else who
fucking
makes a
Mickey Mouse
shell
on a cake
necklace,
for a kid's
I
birthday.
own the intellectual property of shell necklace, and now if someone else made it, I'm going to go rip that off your
Not like the
neck
guy's turning around and be like, I
because
created
I
this
am
character.
well, now you're the aggressor.
Yeah.
Not that
the-
animator
so
that
that's
Walt
where, like,
Disney stole it
intellectual
from.
property gets into this weird area where you can't just. It's a little bit different if you claim something like your podcast or your art or your creation, but you can't just, like, the idea of just creating a product and then claiming that you own all future ones is a little bit
All
off
right.
to me.
Zanzibar says, I was raised Democrat, swung right during Trump, but embraced libertarianism when I found the LPMC. I've never wanted to join a party more. Dave Smith for president.
There you
There
go.
we go, Wayne.
That's a rumor.
Smith
All right,
Torre,
so-
2024,
All right,
baby.
so YouTube says, you need to have George Gammon on the show. His recent video on
That was
Bitcoin
the
was excellent.
$200 one.
He's held events with Ron Paul and
should
G.
be coming
Edward
soon.
Griffin as the headliners, and he's also open to traveling. You could also ask him about the suit against the Federal Reserve he's embarked on. Ooh, I'd like to hear that.
That all sounded like an excellent recommendation to me.
You know what the greatest thing about wokeness is?
What's that?
Well, there's two things that you need to understand. First is get woke, go broke. Right? And then the fact that the Federal Reserve has been embracing woke policies. So I'm kind of like, oh, man, I don't know. Maybe the Federal Reserve getting woke, what does that mean?
The Fed, the CIA, they got a
That's
lot.
fine. Not a
The Fed going
financial
broke without
advisor.
loosening up
Gold,
legal
silver,
tender laws would be
Bitcoin, and
ugly.
Ethereum.
I want to have G. Edward Griffin on the show. Have you worked with him before?
No,
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
put
like,
one in.
I've
Yes, Joe.
watched, a
How
bunch
is
of
it
his
they
videos
all
and read
have
a
an
bunch of his
interview
stuff,
G.
but I've
Edward
never,
Would you
Griffin?
want to come on the show with him?
Yeah.
I don't,
no.
dude.
Great
You get
G.
G.
Edward
Edward Griffin on. Yeah, absolutely, dude. I'll come on anytime with him.
That'd be
Yes.
good.
I might be able to help you with that.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
let's do
Okay.
it. That sounds great.
Okay,
He
we
wrote
gotta
the book on
talk to
Jekyll Island,
Michael.
right?
What the hell?
Jekyll
I didn't know he
Yeah,
had
from
this
Jack Island.
contact.
And he also, I mean, he's been like, he's been at it forever, man. Like he's been.
G.
on
Edward
top of
Griffin
this
was
stuff.
right about the riots.
Ruben
He was the-
Pedrosa
he was
says
the
the
guy
real way to
that,
make change in government is to enforce
did
term
one of the
limits or
interviews with,
elections for
Yuri
all bureaucratic
Bezmenov, right?
positions
Yeah,
of
he's the
power.
one who did the
Yeah.
most
Fired the deep
iconic
state.
interview with Bezmenov.
Right.
Yeah, what do you guys think about term limits?
I mean,
I personally don't think it would make too much of a difference because it doesn't
trying to remember what
change
he
the
said.
inherent incentives. It just shortens the time frame on them.
I think that's true.
Oh,
I think it
Mara's here.
actually might even
Well,
have more
well,
perverse
well.
incentives.
Look who decided to
like
show
where
up.
You could have someone like, well, you got a short
Guys, I was
little
at the
time
Broward
span. You
meeting.
better cash in right
No, you're
now.
good, you're good.
for all
Our
the
super chat's gonna
revolving
come
door
up
value
Our boy
you can
Noda
get,
made
you
it.
know? But I also think
Noda.
that all of these solutions
We'll talk about that
almost
after.
presume the victory.
Where's your drink,
So,
Mara?
okay, we're going to enforce
Guys,
term
I'm on
limits
a
on
college
all
campus, I'm not
bureaucrats
allowed to
and all
have alcohol.
politicians. Well, how
my
the heck
God,
do we
dude.
do
Rolls
that
over.
unless we
Look,
already have
I'll
control
figure
of
something
the
out.
entire
Interest is
government?
compounding,
You know what
just
I mean?
remember
Like,
that.
So
Okay.
what's the step to
I'll
get to
fucking
there?
scream
A
from
lot
my
of people
car in
always
the
want to have these
parking lot in
silver
the
bullet
future,
solutions,
okay?
but the truth is that what
You'll be
we
all right.
really
I'll
need
drive
is
just
to wake
off
up
campus.
a lot more people. Otherwise, none of these solutions really work.
It's cultural.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gonna change the culture.
100%.
All right, Weepy
Shut up,
says, you are
Joey.
missing the depths of
Shut
Hassan's
up,
hypocrisy.
Joey.
He told Sargon in a debate 2 years ago, quote, profit is theft, Sargon, to say that, then buy a $3 million house. I'm going to stop right there because I ain't going to straw man Hassan. When the left says profit, they don't mean the simple money you make off your labor. What they're referring to is when a CEO gets paid $13 million a year, and then somebody who actually makes, say, the bottle of water, they sell the bottle of water for $5, extract $1 from, to go upwards towards a position somewhere else. The general issue is scale. So
I know
whereas we talk about
the
free enterprise and
response to this,
capitalism
and that's
in a way
such
they
a
don't
dog
understand,
shit
and they
argument.
need to. If I build a birdhouse and
goes
materials are
into
$20,
purifying
and I sell
water?
for $25, I have a $5 profit.
People who say this
Hassan is
pretend
not
like the
referring to
CEO
that
doesn't
$5.
do
He's
anything,
saying,
and
oh,
that
but
he
you made it,
makes
you're entitled to sell it.
$20
It's
million a
yours.
year
They're
because
talking about
the company
hospitals
pays
that
him that
have
much, and not
board,
because he
board
owns
members
stock
who
in the
don't
company.
do anything,
Right.
just absorb money.
By
And
the way,
so
Mara,
their
we have a
view of it
super
is,
chat that we're
if
eagerly
you are
waiting on
in a
here.
position as like a shareholder or something, and you're getting dividends and profits, but you're not doing any
It was fairly
work,
simple.
that's the profit they're talking about.
Come on, Lydia.
So
I'm pretty sure
you
you're
can
the
agree
one
with them or
going
disagree
through the
with them,
super
but I like to
chats.
steel
Help
man
us out
their
here.
arguments and then have the argument.
What's going
Fair
on?
enough.
Yeah.
See if they remember.
But I
We're live
think you guys are
on
very much in
Facebook?
favor of if you own the
We're live
business,
everywhere.
Live everywhere.
hand it off to somebody else.
Okay.
You can take
Normally
the
I
money.
just
Yeah,
watch the
absolutely,
Twitch
and
chat.
I also wouldn't suggest. I mean, look again.
There's a
what-
restream
what
chat.
has
Since
to
you're
be
at your
clear
computer,
is
you
that
should
we
be able to
live
Yeah, I
see
in
see
a
it.
system
Yeah.
and an economy that is
Normally I just moderate
completely,
Twitch.
you know, it's nothing but a big cartel scheme, and the rules are completely rigged for the powerful. But if we're just talking in theory, in a voluntary free market or something close to that, the idea that someone who's an investor did nothing, I mean, no, I don't think they did nothing. They invested in that company. I mean, go ask someone who's starting a company how important investors are. They're really, really important. And you know what? If you don't have them, the whole thing doesn't get made. So I don't believe in that. I don't think profit is evil in any way. In fact, I think it's a sign that a company is doing really well.
Yep.
So.
John says Hassan also said he also has even said he couldn't do more
Just hit me.
in-depth
Do you think
analysis
Dave
of
uses
videos without
gel or
hiring more
pomade?
people. So his hours of streaming is
If
now
he
an
uses
actual
gel, I
hustle.
can't support him.
I disagree.
I think it's Joe.
I mean, being on camera
Gel
for
is
10
for
hours
boys,
a day
pomade's
is work,
for
man.
men.
He does it almost every day. I respect
He's
that.
on for 10 hours a day?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's a hustle, dude.
I'll say that is impressive.
And I don't think we need to straw man
Tweet
our
that at him, see if we get a
political
response.
opponents or rivals or people we disagree with. We need to always be like, here's the best they have to offer, and let's prove it wrong. So look,
I'll time the sending of it.
I would. I
his-
say
with
if
the
you're
Joe
true
ends.
for the cause, you would invest.
Yeah,
in
it looks like gel. from the
Hassan
shine.
is an activist. He's a commentator. He's a progressive socialist. He chose to use his money for a $3 million house as opposed to a $3 million advocacy organization. Now that's fine. He doesn't have to do anything, and he says that you just don't see the advocacy work he does because he's not pushing it out there for a PR campaign, and that may be true. But I'm just like, a $3 million house in West Hollywood, you could move to Pasadena for a fraction of that cost, for a seventh of the cost. So if you want to have that big fancy house in West Hollywood, you are choosing to live in the upper echelon of the wealthy ultra elites. That I think is a fair criticism, but I don't think we need to criticize the fact that he's working really hard.
Can I tell you? He made a video trashing me once, and he strawmanned me pretty bad. And then I made a video back smashing him. And
Oh, is that the guy that called Dave a
kinda-
Trump supporter?
Now that I know he does 10 hours a day, I have a lot less offense to it. I'm like, well, he's got to come up with something,
Probably.
man. I mean, he's doing 10 hours a day. Yeah, you got to bang out whatever you can.
Hey, look, the left strawmans. And they
no, but you're right.
they
That doesn't
go
mean
establishment lines.
that doesn't mean we need to. So that's a good point, and especially if you're right. If you're right, you shouldn't want to censor other. I don't mean right wing. I mean if you're correct,
Right.
you shouldn't want to censor other people, and you shouldn't need to straw man other people because you got the truth on your side.
He's said some really awful things in the past.
Yeah.
You know, about like Dan Crenshaw and about 9/11. But
Soggy
people always try to
bottom
bring that
boys.
stuff up, and I'm like, the reason I don't bring up people saying dumb things in the past is because it's not a political argument. It's just it's an ad hominem. It's
he
like
quoting
look at this guy, he
Stephen
says dumb
Molyneux?
things. I'm like,
What a white
probably I say dumb
supremacist.
things too.
Yeah, no one should
I don't
really
have an
be
argument about
judged.
it.
No one should be judged over the worst thing you said. There should be some amount of like a charitable grace that it's like, well, let's judge you on
Says
like kind of
1/3 of the Legion
what
of
you
Skanks.
stand for over your, like the body of your work, not just like this one sentence or this one thing you said. That's like kind of gotcha nonsense.
Yeah. Well, we're not perfect here. I rag on people. I try to avoid being super mean as well.
I used to like really
I
be
can't stand the meanness.
offensive with my jokes. Back when I was like 15, 18,
Yep.
I was
Yeah.
all about like impressing my friends and using the most racist, just terrible. And then I realized
That was back on
1920
Monday for me.
Yeah. I realized in college I was like kind of broadened to a larger, sect of humanity, and I realized that it was offensive to other people, that making humans the butt of jokes isn't necessarily the best way to do comedy. So I kind of changed
That
the
is
way
comedy.
Comedy
Just
is
don't do
always
that.
at
Comedy when you
someone's
make fun of yourself.
expense.
Yeah, don't do
All
that
right,
either.
let's read this one. We got a good one. Brett Stubbs says, Dave left off a huge motivation in the history of the IRS. It was also to
We
do
should've
away
put
with
more than
old
30
banknotes from
bucks. That's what
local
it
banks.
is.
You could
Yeah.
only pay taxes in the Federal Reserve note. So
That
it was
happens.
also
That's
for
why we did
consolidation
60
of
the
a
one
single
time.
note.
Yeah, well, there's
wanted to make sure that
something to be
Dave
said for
that
that. That's a very interesting
Tim had
point.
no
But of
choice
course,
but
yeah,
to
that
see
is
it.
true. That it really strengthens
I also waited
kind of
until
legal
like
tender,
the
right?
25
Because the
after
only
9
thing you
mark.
can pay
That way
your
it wouldn't go
taxes
away
in
until the
is,
stream
right,
was like
what Federal
done.
Reserve
I
notes.
see.
So
Right,
there you go.
Yeah. I
Cody
learned this
says,
lesson a long
Tim,
time
I'm coming
ago.
up on the 1-year anniversary of my father's passing. It's been a harder time than I've ever faced before. You and Crowder have been my favorite therapy. I love all of you. Keep it up. Hey,
Crowder?
man. Sad to hear about your father's
Yeah,
passing.
I
but, thanks
globalist
for being a fan and
cunt.
watching the show. And I'm
Maybe
glad
you
that
just
it's,
can't
it's
handle it. He's funny,
we're just
but
some
not
dudes
because
who
he's
hang out
actually
and talk
funny.
stuff on the internet, and we have
I mean,
friends
he's better
over,
than
so,
Trevor Noah.
we do our best.
Okay, sure, but he just
And
says
Michael
them
Malice
different.
no longer
you are
does
the means
Nightshade.
of production, Tim. Individuals are.
You
This is another thing I brought up in
globalist
Hassan
cuck.
thing in my earlier segment. It was actually pretty
Globalist
long.
cuck.
I have way more to say about it.
today?
Yeah, I did
Maga.
more like a
Stop
half
being
an
a
hour
cuck.
than I normally do the 20-minute segment. But Hassan bought a $3 million house, which in this capitalist system, even with a welfare state, I think is fine. But in a socialist system, because he brought up the word socialism,
What if Hassan is
the house is
secretly
the
one
means
of
of
us?
production. The ability to
And
have
the
a
socialist
big, when
thing
you're
is
in the
all
media,
just for the money.
You know, we're in this big house right now with multiple rooms and
At that
different
point, I wouldn't
studios.
even be mad.
The house is the means of production. That people have a space to work. It's akin to a factory. We've got a bunch of different computers.
Yeah.
We've got tons of computers. So the computers are the means of production. This microphone is, this keyboard is, that camera is, and the house itself is the factory.
Who knew
So
you'd learn something
in a socialist
other than
system, I
history
don't
from
think
DFL?
poor working class people, the proletariat, would tolerate a $3 million
The dirty
mansion.
Fed lover.
I
He's
think
talking
they'd be
about
like,
you, bitch.
You are producing web videos by yourself. Great, you're not exploiting anybody. But that building should be open to others to do the same thing. And when you are not streaming, your camera and computer should be available to the public to use the means of production that you use. I think that's what socialist
That's
proletariat
definitely
would want.
how pure socialism goes wrong.
Well,
of
I mean,
course.
but in a sense, it's not just how it goes wrong, it's the logical conclusion. Right? I mean, it is the logical conclusion. I mean, look, these are, by definition, means of production. You are producing things through these means, and you are generating all of this stuff through it. And so why should you? Not like, if you're not going to look at it through the respect of private property and ownership, well, then why shouldn't this be for the benefit of the, quote unquote community?
I think a lot about socialism, big S, and small s, like socialism, the government style, big S. Authoritarianism, the big
We're
A.
2 hours into
authoritarianism
this
is
show.
like the government style. Then there's authoritarianism.
If we're not like the
small
next
like
two,
a-
we're
an
not
ad-
making
an
it.
adjective. And how you can weave socialist, small s, or authoritarian, small a, functions
like
into a
10 minutes here
democratically
to maybe
republic
make it
system.
in.
And still have it function, even
I
better
think
than
we
if
have
you
to be more
hadn't
witty
woven
too.
those.
That way it
Right.
grabs their attention.
But I guess what frustrates me at times,
Holy crap!
and like
we
even with
started
the
2
conversation
hours
we were
ago?
having before about left
We started
libertarians
half
versus
hours
like
ago.
our school, they call
This
white
show
libertarians, I don't
started 2
know,
hours
whatever.
ago.
That's why we were
Mises,
trolling you and
Rothbard,
Josh.
Ron Paul, libertarians, whatever you want to call that.
Well,
I
mostly
don't care
Josh.
if you want to call us
How
right
long
libertarians.
does
Like
the
that's fine. I'm
Timcast
not like
episode
offended
go?
by it. But
2 hours.
it's like, so
8 to 10.
tell me
Well,
the
after 10.
distinction, which I feel like left libertarians always kind of beat around the bush, because the idea that like, well, you can have socialism here or lowercase s socialism, it's like, yeah, no one in our libertarian school is ever denying that you can't have a co-op.
Well,
Go
I
have your
cannot
co-op. There's
wait to
co-ops
tell
all
this
over the place.
story.
Go have
I
your co-op.
cannot
Do
wait
everything
to
you
tell
want to.
this story.
The
I got
idea
it.
that you can't buy
The more they talk about like
plot
local
of land and turn
socialist
it into a
libertarian
commune,
co-ops,
of course,
I'm just
go.
so
No
excited.
one's trying to stop you from doing
but
that.
this is-
We're
this is-
I'm
libertarians.
trying
So
to find
exactly
the
my
name
point.
of which one
Right,
it was.
left
because there's so many
libertarianism cannot
failed
scale past
utopian
one
socialist
community. So
colonies in the
with
U.S.
left libertarians, I always say hippies on a farm. You know, it's like Ian sitting there and he grew some mangoes or whatever. He made bread. Ian made bread. When I walk in the kitchen, Ian goes, "Yo, I made bread. You want some?" He doesn't ask me for an exchange. It's just
Yeah.
you know,
Well, right.
Tim, you got
okay.
the flour. I made the bread. I made the bread though. So without me, you wouldn't have the bread. You'd only have the flour. And then we just
On that
openly
topic,
share, like,
though,
he
of
can take the flour whenever he
utopian
wants.
socialism,
I'll
I
have
just
some of the
wanna
bread whenever he
say,
makes it. What happens
no one
though,
makes
when the
better
neighbor
bread
walks
than
over
the-
and
than
walks
the
up and takes the
Seminoles.
bread?
Yeah,
They
it's
are
like,
fucking
and you
awesome.
see each
Love
layer,
those
it gets a little bit more like,
Have you had the
maybe that
feminist
could work
yeast
if
bread?
you're real close with your
Well, I'd
neighbor,
rather
but then
not.
what about another neighbor?
bread,
And
And
what
then
about
all of a
another?
sudden,
Right.
the guy from down the street comes, and we don't have any arrangements with
But-
him, and you can't just manifest one. And so
period
then when
bread,
I'm
you
like,
mean?
stop taking my bread, and he says, you don't
vaginal
own
yeast.
the bread, I'm like, we're going to use
Well,
force
now
to
we
stop
got to
Pretty
go
sure I've
to
seen
war.
both.
A mini
Maybe it
war.
was- maybe it was
exactly.
period blood cake.
That's the idea of
feud.
Maybe.
left libertarianism
feminist
exists
weird,
in
yeah.
very, very small random pockets. There's one very famous commune of 100 people where it's very well organized, and it's a commune. When one person announces they're leaving, they go to their waiting list and then invite one person. Hey, this person in 2 weeks is gone. You will
Is
come
the
in.
commune
We'll
in
teach you the
India
rules.
that is known for
Everybody's
harboring
equal. We have a
pedophiles?
farm. and it functions. People
There's one of those. I'm not even joking. You've probably seen
because they're not
socialists
in
talk
a
about
system
it.
that mandates
Like,
they give their stuff to the
they've been
government.
accused of that,
They're allowed
like,
to
ad
keep
nauseum.
it. Their commune retains the private property.
Well, that's it, right? So, so my point right there is that
It doesn't
basically, but so my point is that if even when you say doesn't scale, the only way this is workable is under our private property system.
I agree.
So you come back to being us. So my point is that you're just one of us who wants to live on a commune, which is fine. But don't. So unless you're going, if you're calling it this other thing, right? Exactly. It doesn't work, or it turns into some other thing. And if you're not, that
say I'm the boss
just
around
explain
here.
to me the distinction.
That's why I said, as much as I disagree with Ron Paul on a lot of policies, he's always said, "I'll leave you alone," and I'm like, "Great, I can do my thing."
Can I tell you, I was a left winger before I found Ron Paul in 2007, and that's when I found him in the Giuliani moment where he called Giuliani out for the real motives of terrorism and the evils of the U.S. empire, and I was like, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then I started reading all of his books and reading a bunch of other libertarians, and I was converted. After looking, at first when I was starting to read it, I was like, I gotta read this libertarian stuff to find out what's wrong with it. Like, I was gonna read it to like disprove it, and then along the way somewhere I just got converted. Like, they were better. But my thing with that, what you just said, is why I really thought in my silly, naive,
like the reverse of me was socialism.
I was going to be able to convert a bunch of leftists.
I'm going to read this because I'll love it.
There's such a good pitch to the left here, is what I thought. Because I go, look, if you embrace libertarianism and reducing the government, like drastically reducing the size and scope of government, then look, you end immediately all the evil things that you hate. Now, this is during the Bush administration, so like wars, they were really against the wars at that time, and the war on drugs and police brutality and all of this stuff that the leftists really hate. And look, all that other stuff that you guys love, like welfare and taking care of poor people and any type of this tough stuff like socialism, I go, you can have all of that. You just have to do it voluntarily. So you can have that. You guys just got to come together in your own voluntary community, and then you can do all of this. So isn't this the perfect compromise pitch to the leftist? You can get rid of all the things you hate and have all the things you love. You just have to come do it voluntarily. And that was not as well received as I thought. And I have actually persuaded a lot more right wingers than left wingers, which I was surprised by.
They're mostly authoritarians who just want stuff.
Yeah.
So my view was always like this, Ron
and they
Paul,
want it quickly.
Right. Ron Paul comes out and he says, I believe we got to do this thing and that thing and this thing. And I'm like, I don't agree with those things. And then he goes, and if I was elected, I'd leave you alone so you can do your own thing. And I'm like, you got me.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my little farm, and I'm going to have my hippie friends, and we're going to be left alone.
Dude, Ron Paul said this once, and I think it was in, God, I can't remember if it was the 2008 or the 2012 campaign, but he said, he said this thing where he was like, basically like, oh, there's all this excitement. He has like tens of thousands of people around him, and he was like, so now people are asking, what's going on here? Like, what do you stand for? And he said, my foreign policy, he goes, I would describe my foreign policy as the following. He said, I don't want to run the world. I don't know how to run the world.
Oh.
The Constitution doesn't give me the authority to run the world. We ought to mind our own business.
In the Smith
and I would
Sarwark
describe
debate?
my domestic policy as the following. I don't want to run your life.
Beautiful.
I don't know how to run your life. The Constitution doesn't give me the authority to run your life. We ought to respect individual liberty. And I always thought that was just the most powerful, honest, and humble political message I'd ever heard. That really the message is that anyone who's telling you they want to run the world or want to run your life, first off, does not have any moral or legal authority to do so, and also just doesn't know how to do it. The only honest thing was to admit that you don't.
We have a good one. C. Hennessy says, Dave, serious question. If you were to be president and Taiwan was attacked, would you honor our agreements to assist?
Well, what do you even mean by assist in Taiwan? Look, man, we got to, I hope Taiwan is not attacked, and I root for freedom of people everywhere. But we really got to get over this empire mentality that we can do something about. Like, what do you want to do? You explain to me the logistics of what are you going to get military in there and start fighting a hot war with a nuclear armed power like China, and then what? We're going to start just blowing up cities all across the world and then still not be able to stop them from taking Taiwan? I mean, at a certain point, Americans got to take a slice of humble pie and recognize that, look, we just lost to the Taliban in a 20-year war, okay? You think we're going to take on the Chinese on their territory? How about there's one problem that ever exists that's just not our battle? to fight. I root for them. I do not want to see them fall to China. I don't like the government of China. They are a creepy, authoritarian, quasi-communist, quasi-fascist government. But what do you think we're gonna do, man? Like, what?
Quasi-communist? Yes.
Yeah, like you want to go to a nuclear war?
No, they're
and
fascist.
Lose what?
Yeah, exactly.
Seoul and Tokyo and maybe LA, and then we'll blast 3 of their cities, and then after all of that, we still won't be able to get the forces in to save Taiwan.
I don't really watch
Sorry.
out for us.
Yeah, really.
World War II?
Yeah, it was a stunning success. Only
I'm trying to find the name of this failed
You want another
utopia.
one of those?
All right, Jesse
Driving
Meek
me
says,
nuts.
the thing I like most about ShimCast is the diverse people you bring together. Amazing discussions. Please give a shout out and consideration to a few other amazing tubers. Liberty Doll, Guns and Gadgets, Good Patriot, Philosopher, and Patriot Nurse. Amazing people all.
I would also like to shout out Seamus Coughlin, the host of ShimCast,
Yeah.
who hasn't been with us for...
Well,
He quit the show. We took it over.
We kept the name,
We did a
though.
joke when
No
Seamus was
beanie?
There he is.
Oh, I
I'm the only one
love
with
Seamus.
the beanie,
Freedom
eh?
Tunes.
Yeah, we
he's
changed,
the best.
we
I
changed
was-
the image to say Shimcast instead of Timcast.
Okay.
And then he
Josh,
introed the show.
my RFID card to get into
Seymour
my
Max says,
dorm
Tim, I've lost
was
track of how many times you've mentioned the
demagnetized
Mises
in my
Caucus in
wallet.
your videos.
I had to go all the
I
way
think
to
it's like
Student Affairs.
This is
to
much
get a new
needed. Go
one, and I
watch.
still
The
beat
fight
you.
has just
It's
begun.
6. I just feel like I was just keeping track the whole time. It's
None of what y'all
Sucks. I can't figure
Watch
out the
it.
name of the utopia.
The fight has just begun. A
You're
Mises
good, man.
documentary. Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they
the
just
doc.
put it out.
Go
It's a
watch it.
documentary of like the struggle of the Mises Caucus versus.
We're not getting the
other
endorsement.
LP
At least
people
go
in
for the kill shot,
Pennsylvania.
Dave.
It's very inside baseball
Yeah,
for
it's-
people who are like into the LP thing.
First of all,
but
shout out to Doc who did the super chat. But yeah, it's a documentary we put out. Like he said, it's a little bit more inside baseball, but it gives you an idea of what we're facing inside the party in order to red pill the party, and you know, the tricks that are being pulled and all that kind of thing. So if you want to get kind of an insider view of the kind of things that we're dealing with, that's a good thing. And if you like what you're hearing in this conversation, go to takehumanaction.com and help us. Help us red pill this party.
TakeHumanAction.com is the place to go and understand what we're doing. Just to be clear, is that we're bringing the liberty movement into the Libertarian Party. We're bringing that real Ron Paul libertarian energy that's serious and facing about the real issues facing the country. And we are also in the process de-wokeifying an institution for perhaps the first time in history. I'm not sure there's ever been an institution that went woke and then has been de-wokeified, and we're about to do that.
Yeah, shaking off progressivism, I think, might be historic.
Yeah. And also Angela McArdle for chair of the Libertarian Party.
Absolutely.
That's coming up this next year, right? When's the convention, Michael?
It's May. It's Labor Day weekend, so May of 22.
May of 2022.
Damn it,
Angela
stop posting
McArdle,
all
she's
spoilers.
awesome. She's going to be the next chair of the Libertarian
Are they about
Party.
to end this?
And yeah, check her out.
I
We
don't
got
know.
some critics of
I'm trying
Hassan
to
pointing out. They say
Fucking
Hassan,
shit, man.
Ultronaut
All
says
this stuff
Hassan
about
leaves
Hassan.
for hours
Fuck
and lets
Hassan.
others' videos go. Red
trying
Dragon says
to
Hassan is
find
on
the
camera
name
for
of this
10 hours but only
utopia.
talks for 1.
He's inflating the
JXE
stream.
is right about everything. Hassan watches videos and occasionally says, "Yeah."
Huh.
Okay.
Well,
Sounds
there you go.
challenging.
That's about right.
I watched some
All right,
of his
that
YouTube
I could do a
videos.
little bit more. I just don't understand. Why would you even want to do that? I don't get
It's
it.
a hot topic.
Because you build up a big stream. The longer you stream, the more people come, the more
This
money
is
you make.
he's on
Twitch.
Twitch, the video
What's
game
the thing?
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, they have just chatting now.
Okay.
You know,
Hey, man, look,
I'll bet you
dude.
thought OnlyFans was only for porn.
Come on,
Not
man.
anymore, bro. That's
I,
all
I,
done.
talk
I think
about
even if you
OnlyFans
don't
until
think
now.
he's doing
Good
that
job.
much, like, he's successful and he figured it out.
Yeah.
And I think you're allowed to be progressive and leftist and still be rich. The issue, I suppose, is like if he was arguing that people shouldn't be allowed to be rich at all, which
Yeah.
I don't think he does.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, look, I think we can argue why his ideas are bad, but I think being like, you bought a house, it's like, come on, man. You're not winning an argument by ad hominem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but I
Our
do think,
super
and
chat.
leaving
Our
Hassan
super
aside or whatever, but I do
Chad
think there is
hominem.
something to be said for, like, say, Bernie Sanders, when he becomes a millionaire and then, itemizes his deductions to
If
pay
you write
his
your
little
own book,
taxes.
you could be rich too.
Yeah,
But
like, there is
demand a
something about
refund
that
if
where
it
it's like,
doesn't
dude,
get
Bernie
you
Sanders
just spent
in-
30 years attacking
used to
millionaires
say
saying
there
they
should be
pay
no
70%
millionaires and
taxes.
billionaires, and then he
You're paying,
became a millionaire
whatever
from his
it ended up
book.
being, like,
Well, then it was
15,
just the
18%,
billionaires.
and then giving
That's
like
what I
2 or
was saying
3% to
earlier. It was like,
we
need to go after the millionaires and the billionaires.
I don't think it's
Wait,
too
how
much
much
to
did I
say.
make?
Lead by example.
Wait, that much?
And say,
How many
okay,
zeros?
look, I'm only paying
Oh my God.
20% in tax, but I'm going to give another.
Forget what I said about the
40% away
millionaires,
to
just the
charity
billionaires.
because I really believe that no one needs this much money, and that then I would at least I'd still disagree with you,
New
but I'd at
vacation
least
home,
like
here I
take what
come.
you're saying seriously
Right.
and be like, hey, that guy's got some real principles. When you got 2 or 3 houses and you're making millions of dollars ragging on the rich.
He has
Like
4
real money,
houses
sound
now.
money.
He has 4 houses.
I just don't like hypocrisy, but I do
He's got
like
see what we got here.
capitalism and I like
Tim's
success.
gearing
So
up
I
to
don't hate
read
him for the
a
success.
super chat.
And that's the funny thing. The people who are ragging on him for being rich are left, not right. The right are like,
Well, yeah.
oh, wow, congratulations on being rich.
Like, man, that's
And
a
the
sweet
left
house.
is like, why are you rich?
Dare you?
The thing I said is like, what should he just keep his wealth a secret?
Yeah.
Should he not buy anything with all the money he's got? He's probably making a couple mil per year.
I think to change a society, you need to be super
We'll get there,
rich.
Joey.
Like if you look at the American founding fathers, they were super rich, and like I've lived my whole life in this like this pious or whatever like charitable state where I don't want to get rich because I don't like the system and I don't want to involve myself in it. But it's ridiculous. You want to be like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, controlling swaths of industry, then you can implement your political change.
But
Well, it's about-
the work you do and what you build up that gets you to the point where you have control over systems.
That's true too, because if I had like $600 billion, it'd be different than owning.
Man, why doesn't
Amazon.
Elon ever go on
Yeah, well,
shows
look,
like
it
this?
all depends on exactly what you're after. I mean, all of
Musk?
these things are kind
You
of
said
like,
Elon?
you know,
Yeah.
they're different forms of power.
He likes to act like he's
and
one of
they're
us.
different
I figure
forms
he'd go
of
on one of these
influence.
shows,
But
you know?
if you know,
Just saying.
Joe Rogan's bigger
being-
than Tim Pool.
You
Oh, yeah,
can
that's
be
right. He
very,
has gone on
very
Rogan.
wealthy.
That's right, I forgot.
And,
Never
and
mind.
use that in certain ways.
I'd like that
You can,
stricken from the record.
Be somebody who's very
Too
respected
late.
and admired, and use
Internet's
that
forever,
in certain
bud.
ways. You can also just be a really great father,
Least until you
or
get banned.
friend,
Then they
or
delete everything
son,
for
or
you.
and that can make a big difference in an
Yeah, it's kind of
individual's
efficient
life.
when you
So
think about it
there's all
that way.
different ways to kind of like shape
Like, oh,
the
thanks,
world
guys. You
around
save me all the time.
But yeah, there's no question that like very, very rich people have a disproportionate amount of influence.
That's a good point, though, about the attention economy and the value of people knowing who you are and respecting you. Because
But
money
yeah,
can't buy
because
that.
you still need some modicum of broad support or public support. 'Cause,
Man,
like,
this
look at
episode's
Bloomberg.
going long.
Look at all that money that he threw at his election and got laughed
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
Especially
that's a very
10-14
good
is when
point.
shit
That's a very
wraps
good
up.
point. There's something there are things that are maybe like unmeasurable commodities in a sense, like respect. You know what I mean? That like there's not everyone can buy. Like
Well,
Michael Bloomberg has a lot more money than Ron Paul does, but I'll tell you, Ron Paul, like he's not spoken of the way that Ron Paul is amongst people who really admire him, and you know, so
just the same way that
admires
freedom and
Mike
responsibility are axiomatically the same thing.
Mike
The
Bloomberg.
Power and
The only
competence
reason
and
that most
responsibility
people know
are
about him is
axiomatically the
one,
same thing.
Well, and I
because
think
he
you could
happened
argue.
to be
Well,
mayor of New
yeah,
York
yeah,
I
perhaps
should
they
say,
should be.
I should say they should be. Yeah.
Right,
And then
because
he
that's
didn't do
perhaps
anything
things
special because the
really
feds
start
took
to
it.
collapse when
And two,
they're not,
he walked into his own firing
axiomatically
line
linked,
on a
right? So when
debate
people have
stage
when it
power
becomes
and
and
had
they don't
the
have
worst
yes, exactly.
presidential bid of
We've
all
got a leghorn
time.
chicken that lays double yolk eggs.
Getting fucking
and so
six
we
I saw your chickens. I think I
electorals.
know which one it is.
It's the little one.
No way,
Yes.
the little one.
Yeah.
Oh, that is not who I was going to go with.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy because the eggs are massive and they're double yolk. So I'm thinking like we want this one
Double
at
yolk
Bates,
eggs?
right? Because we
Oh,
like
yeah.
this. Because when you
Yeah.
see something being done
I want
right,
that.
so now
I'll
I'm
get some
thinking about
chickens
it.
for that
Is
reason.
the Paul family propagating? Because we need more
I'm waiting.
little
In
Ron
like
Pauls.
about
If
a-
not,
they've had
can
a
we
lot of
build
kids. 2 months
or so, I'm gonna
robots
buy
and
like
download
50.
Ron Paul's brain
Man.
into?
Rand is pretty incredible. I mean,
Rand's
there'll
great.
never be another Ron Paul. Ron is Ron.
That's
but
true.
Rand
Rand's
is.
pretty good.
And I will
We need
say,
to figure
I was-
out
playing
that
different games.
Futurama
Yeah, well, look,
had
I was
technology,
very
you know, the
disappointed
heads in
in
jars.
Rand
You gotta
Paul's
figure that out for Ron
2016
Paul.
campaign, and I like heartbroken about it. I
he might be
really had
opposed
high
to
hopes
it.
for him, and he just didn't continue the Ron Paul.
I
We're
feel
gonna
like-
I
violate the
also
nap
do
just to
think
keep
now in
Ron
hindsight,
Paul
looking
around.
back at it, that it was a little bit unfair. Like I was comparing him to who, like my greatest hero ever was,
Yeah.
just because he's his kid. And if I never knew about who Ron Paul was, and you asked me about Rand Paul, I'd go, I don't know. He's just the best senator ever, and like
Yeah.
so
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like
Right.
to be fair, and he really has.
Massey's
look,
been
man,
eating his lunch
through this
lately,
whole,
though.
Look, he was
Yeah,
great on
Massey's
so many
been
different
awesome
things,
lately.
like the Brennan
But
filibuster.
Massey
and a
is
bunch
a
of other things.
representative
Through this whole
where
campaign,
Rand's a senator.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
He's
hear me
great on
out.
that. But through this whole
You know
COVID
how
thing, he's
they have,
just
like,
been nothing
these-
short of heroic.
these drafts
he's gotten
and
Fauci
sorts.
on tape saying,
Is there any way we
backing
could
him
make
into
a
these
trade
corners and getting
Justin
him, it's like
Amash
almost
for
the
Thomas
perfect
Massey?
trap where he gets Fauci to say these things.
make that
the
trade.
next day,
No.
all the
Come on,
blue
let's
jays
get
are
that
like,
trade.
Rand Paul owned.
I'd
2
do that
weeks
trade,
later,
like,
the
in an
CDC
instant,
agrees
like-
with Rand Paul. You know, like it's just perfect. And we all.
We'll
owe
also
him.
throw in Bill Weld
for
for
that.
good measure.
We'll do one more.
They don't
They
want
can
him
have
back.
Smash the
Bill
like
Weld
button.
for free.
This one's very important.
Smash the like button.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Devastating.
trying to just
Hey,
really-
Angela.
Take your time.
You must. We command you. I'm just kidding.
It's not enough to passively watch this video.
There
you must
we go.
actively smash that like
Right.
button.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, Angela McArdle says, Mike, how do people become delegates for the Libertarian National Convention?
Ooh, that's Angela McArdle.
She knows
That
the
is-
answer
that
to
is
this
our
fucking
teacher.
question. Come on.
Being,
Oh, she knows
at
exactly
work
what she's
on
doing.
that stream. That's awesome.
Interesting question,
Yeah.
Angela.
So what people need to do is you need to
Yeah,
join the
you
Libertarian
Angela.
Party. But what's more important than joining the Libertarian Party is joining your state Libertarian Party. So if you live in Michigan, you need to join the Libertarian Party of Michigan. Pennsylvania, the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania.
Florida?
And then there's also your county
Libertarian Party of
So
Florida.
you want to get active there.
Yep.
And now it differs state by state. But ultimately,
Weld
if you
who,
want to
Joey?
join your state party,
Who is
you want to
Weld?
show up to your state party
We've
convention,
dropped him so
whenever that
long
might
ago.
be, and get elected. But
Fine,
this is why
fine,
you've gotta
fine.
go to
Who else can we throw
takehumanaction.com,
in that
because if you go to
trade?
that, we have 230 organizers
gotta be
around
someone.
the country. And
Yeah,
and
take
if you
Sarwark. We'll also throw
sign
in
up
Sarwark,
on the email
Craig,
list on there.
Henchman.
Not
No,
only do you join
no,
our
no.
email
We got to
list,
keep
but you
Sarwark
get-
around.
You get hooked up with
No,
our
he got
organizers.
blocked. He's
We'll
done.
bring you
He's
in.
out.
There's a
He's
whole
our
network.
scapegoat.
They
He's
can
out.
help you become a delegate.
Nah.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Scapegoat. Who's less
And that's how
cringy?
you're going to get everybody to start taking over the party and changing the
give 'em
world or
garments.
whatever.
Trying
it
to
is.
think
Yeah,
who else.
come on,
Change your
man.
town.
Look, dude.
Change a town.
Yes.
Even I know you've said it like a bunch before, and it's part of the reason. And I understand we're all in this position of like, look, man, like I don't know
There
what
we
the
go.
best option is to
I'm
do
putting
this or
that on
that. But
screen
you've talked
as soon
about
as I
like,
can
look, the
grab it.
Democrats are a nightmare.
There
90%
Joey's
of the
right.
Republicans are
He
a
really
nightmare.
is.
There's a few good ones here or there. And you're
The libertarians who run as Republicans is their only way in. That's what it is.
well, right. But then you just look at this and you go, man, I don't care what's happened over the last 16 months or even the last 20 years. This is the United States of America, and we deserve better than that. These two parties have basically committed, in effect, treason against the American people.
Yeah.
They have sold us out for their own interests, many times foreign interests. Okay? In effect, they've committed treason against their own people. What are we supposed to do? Keep choosing between these two parties on which type of treason we want to deal with? Why the American people, the United States of America, deserves better than that? Let's give it to them.
When we talk about press secretary,
Sounds very presidential.
We're talking about in a presidential campaign, but I'd like you to imagine an actual press secretary in an administration walking up to the podium in the White House and then calling on journalists and schooling them better. Like it's Kayleigh McEnany times 100. You know what I mean?
Just mocking them ruthlessly and then giving them a history lesson.
I actually have another.
Can you imagine how good Michael Malice's press secretary will be? I have to do this just for him.
I have another link on the Malice.
I'm disappointed
tip,
that I
actually.
put him on.
Malice at one
for
point said that if the
instead
party
in
would
the
do it,
shirt.
that he would take the
It's okay.
keys to the Twitter.
Just
if
make
the party
another
would do
one.
it. The party ain't gonna do
Sell
it.
both.
But
Oh,
if
no,
you
I already
wanna
have
make
the
it-
Smith
well,
Foray
you
shirts
can,
ready. I'm just waiting
like
for that
me and you
announcement
were
to
saying,
happen.
we got to put public pressure
No,
on
you
these,
sell them
these
now,
executions and the
and
mandates.
then you come out with
can go to
another one
Malice for
after and be like,
LPtwitter.com
these were the
and sign the
OGs.
petition. And then we
Ooh,
can
you
go
made
and
a
say,
good
hey, there's
point there,
10,000
Tim.
people.
I might
It's like,
need to
hey,
put
at
out the
party.
shirts.
Malice for
Yeah.
LP Twitter.
Yeah,
.com. No, that is legit. Like getting an actual, getting someone of that talent to run the Twitter account would be PR gold.
Make sure it says "run by Michael Malice" in the description, so people can go to his personal page too and know what's going on.
And I also wanted to add another point about like what you were saying about with the Republican Party. In 2012, when Ron was running, there was Rasmussen polls showing that the only Republican candidate that was winning in the polls against Obama was Ron Paul.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Ron Paul was
and
cheated out of the presidency.
They went with Mitt Romney.
It's definitely cheated out of Iowa.
Never let them live that down.
I mean, listen, I'm not saying I understand it's 2021.
Republicans
it's not 2020. It's not
fucking
2012.
Mitt
and I gotta,
Romney
like,
more than
move
the
on from
Democrats
that.
do.
But
Anytime the
for all
Republicans want to
right-wingers
talk
who
shit about us, point out the
understandably
fact
are
they
just
could have
furious at
they
everything
could have
that the
given
left
Ron
wing has done
Paul
to
the
the country.
nomination,
You
and they
do
went
have
with
to
Mitt
understand
fucking
that
Romney.
you had an option in 2012 to vote for
If they ever want to
literally
talk shit
Thomas
about us.
Jefferson, a better
Yeah.
version of Thomas Jefferson in Ron Paul, and you chose Mitt freaking Romney.
Well, making your point for
I mean, like,
there we go. Thank you,
grapple with that. If you're young, if you're like 20 and you didn't vote in that election, okay, I'll let you off the hook. But if you are a right winger who supported Mitt Romney over Ron Paul, then you just like
Mitch.
You don't get to complain about anything. You had your chance.
Forget the politics for a second. We've spent a lot of time talking about how this whole thing is a cultural battle that's manifesting itself through politics, right? So, and we also talked about how we're going to have to capture the counterculture. Forget the politics. You're telling me the Republican Party, is that going to be the counterculture? They've been getting their ass kicked culturally for 60 years.
Yeah,
you know?
You're right.
So, like,
You're
I think
right.
in some ways, I think because it's a cultural battle is why we have to go through the LP, because we can actually build our own culture, build our own narrative, build our own stories, whereas the Republican Party culturally is hated by half the country.
That's right. No, that's true. Even as bad as the Democrats are, you look at the polling. Like, I go to civics. The Republicans are disfavorable more. You know why? Because
Mitch McConnell.
No, because Republicans are sick of them.
Yeah.
So with the Democrats, it's Republicans and independents who are like, "Bleh." And the Democrats are like, yeah. The Republican Party is Republicans and independents being like, "Ugh." Is this what we get?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
All right, this is the last one. Angela McArdle
That's
again
wrong.
saying, "I will give Malice those
I want my
keys."
money back.
Very much so.
Angela.
So if Angela is chair of the party, then she has the authority to give
Guys,
the
we're
keys.
gonna hear
So
about
everybody
this in
heard right there. You want
2022.
Michael Malice to have the keys to the
Guys,
Libertarian
we have
Twitter
to vote
handle?
for this
All you got to do
shitty
is get
Craig
Angela McArdle voted
instead of
in
Angela
as
McArdle,
get
guys.
her
She's
elected
gonna give
as
Michael
chair of the
Malice the
party.
Twitter
If you want to
keys.
understand why, if you're not familiar, we've had Michael on the show several times. You got to follow him on Twitter, and then you'll start to bask in the glory that is the perfect trolling of Twitter and the just. It's glorious watching him go after these journalists and all that good stuff.
He's a brilliant writer too. A brilliant
Mitch is the
writer
artist,
that
so he can
was
make that
born in
happen.
the Soviet Union and
one?
saw like government's gone too far from a very early age. So when he talks about anarchy, he's really doing it from an erudite place.
And he's also he's an excellent writer, not just in the fact that he's like a super smart guy and he knows a lot about history and makes really good arguments, but just his like prose and his technical writing is just very enjoyable to read. It's something I really admire. As a very crappy writer, I really admire very good writers, and he's an excellent writer.
He's got great range because you can go on Twitter and see and laugh at him trolling people, and it's glorious. But then you can like watch, say, for example, the Lex Friedman interview when he's talking about what his grandma had to go through and started crying.
No, he's got like incredible range and all of that stuff, and like I said, a great writer. By the way, if I ever write a book and it's well written, Michael Malice wrote that book. Just so you know, I did not write that one. I did not.
All right, everybody. It's been a blast hanging out with all of you on Friday night. Smash that like button. Subscribe to timcast.com. We've got the vlog is picking up steam. So we actually had a midweek episode. We went to a rock store and bought crazy fossils and giant quartz crystals, and it was a whole lot of fun. So go to youtube.com/castcastle. You know why we're doing the vlog? Because we've talked about how we can't just keep making content that is like, oh, the news is bad, the news is bad. So we were like, let's make something good and fun with chickens and the dogs running around and the trampolines, and we're having a good time riding motorcycles. Just trying to make something that can like lift your spirits and show you some pretty trees and stuff.
We had
we got a couple more shows, so we're doing some rehearsals and screenings for the new mystery show. We got a D&D show.
I think we gotta wait until like after 9:20
to make culture.
I think that's the sweet spot.
To make it so that people aren't just watching nothing but negativity. We're taking that revenue from all the
tried, Tim. We tried.
Right back.
There were a lot of
high
dollar
so that
ones,
you can
though.
watch it and enjoy it. So thanks for all of that. You can follow us at Timcast, Timcast IRL basically everywhere. You can follow me at Timcast. Do you guys want to shout out social medias?
Oh yeah, at Comic Dave Smith on Twitter, The Problem Dave Smith on Instagram, and Part of the Problem is my podcast. So go check that out.
So for me, it's I'm not the biggest Twitter user, but
No, he's not.
at Mises Chair on Twitter.
I'm not either.
We also have got the Facebook group.
Fuck Twitter.
Libertarian Party Mises Caucus.
Mine's is better.
And then the big thing is join that email list, get in touch with your organizers, takehumanaction.com, and help us decentralize the state.
Right on.
I'm also that's awesome. That's a good one. Decentralized. Hey. My name's Ian Crossland, and you can follow me at IanCrossland.net. I just want to show you this is quartz crystal.
So cool.
This is one of the pieces that Tim procured.
That's what I'm talking about, Nibiru.
We got
that's very
quartz
nice.
because it's
This thing's incredible.
what's it called? Piezoelectric or something?
I can't judge too much,
Piezoelectric.
no.
It means that when it vibrates, it produces an electrical charge.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how the watches
that's
work.
pretty
They
cool.
just
Yeah.
use the quartz
It's going to be
really.
Yeah,
it'll
crazy.
be like the future of electrical generation in a lot of ways. Is piezoelectricity when you can tap into the vibration of the vacuum itself.
We're going to get back to how we made the pyramids finally.
Oh,
Yeah, there might be something to that. They were giant batteries.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. They're just
Cool.
it's what people could
Aliens.
figure out how to build. Let's stack up a bunch of rocks.
They put gold on the very top, which is a
Yeah.
superconductor.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
Oh, I would
I
love
do
to talk
find
to
all of
Ian
that stuff
about
very
Nibiru.
interesting.
Right on.
Let's talk about the megaliths of Russia.
No, I won't be here. Sorry.
No, but in the new show, definitely. Right.
That'd be fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
super awesome. I'm also here. Thank you guys all so much for tuning into the first episode of the Michael Malice Fan Hour IRL. I hope that you guys will tune in on Monday. I'm not sure how much of a Michael Malice Fan Hour IRL it will be that day, but it's going to be awesome then as well. You guys may please follow me on Twitter at Sour Patch Lids because I am approaching Sour Patch Kids and followers. I'm excited.
And we got Steve Bannon next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we wanted to follow up because he made some predictions about schools and what the parents were going to do.
Look, it's Tim.
And I think
He's
he
on our
was
stream.
correct.
He's on our stream, guys.
So we're going to follow up with that, and then we'll obviously follow up with some other.
This could actually be deceptive,
political issues,
too.
But that's going to be in the members podcast because
Guys,
YouTube would ban us if we talked
Clip
about
this
those
and
issues.
put it as a thumbnail.
But
please.
we'll
put it on Twitter.
We'll see how it rolls
Tag
out.
him.
And,
Thanks for
thanks
coming on
hanging
our
out. We'll see you all then.
podcast, Tim.
There we go.
We won the day, boys. That was
Oh
great.
my god, that was fun.
All right. So we got a lot of stuff going on. First, we have to address some introductions because you boys were gone. Mara says he's not drinking right now, so he's making up
Boo.
with interest. And as long as he is
Oh.
not drinking, interest compounds.
I gotta figure it out because campus is just no alcohol, period, not alcohol if you're of age. So I gotta go find somewhere quiet.
Well,
Sounds like he's going to
you
be
know-
casting over here.
How often do they inspect your room? I mean, like they say you're not supposed to smoke cigarettes at school, but people do that all the time.
Yeah, they normally just go out into like the corridor.
Well,
Right.
here's the deal. So the rule
Stairs.
is, it's just no alcohol, period. But also, my fucking roommate is a narc, so I can't. I'm not-
yeah.
Oh, you
had-
have one of those? Oh, damn, dude, that sucks.
We're gonna get there, Pat. We're gonna get there.
What I'm pretty sure what happened.
honestly
The room
feel bad.
across from us is trying to be like the social room, right? They've got the TV, the Xbox. No, Joey, I'm not even kidding. It's just no. Because also, hold on. Let me give you guys some context. We're in a hotel.
You go to
Um,
wait. You're in college.
wait,
and your
wait.
dorm room is a fucking hotel.
Slow down. Let me. Jeez. So they're doing renovations because there's asbestos in one of the dorm buildings, and I just happen to have one of the later housing applications. I'm only going to be here for probably a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
So
I'm
4 or
not
5
spending my
shows of-
college career.
Listen. 4 or 5 shows of compounding interest. That's a lot of drinks you're gonna be drinking.
Oh God.
All right.
All right, Josh.
You're
What are
gonna
you drinking?
die.
Yeah, Josh. I'll
Um,
probably end up coming to your house.
Probably. So I had about 3 Yinglings and a Budweiser while I was at my annual meeting, but now I'm
Can
moving
confirm.
on to the Coke. I have witnesses. I'm
What
on
are you
film.
drinking? What are you drinking now? I missed it.
Just
Is that
the
a Coke?
It is a
I thought
Coke, and you
Coke.
know
Spice it
there
up.
it is.
You know what? We're about to
You got
spice
an
it
underweight
up.
Undertaker wine still?
I do, but we're not doing that tonight.
Understood. Fair enough.
We're not doing that tonight, boys. Hold
The
on.
anticipation is killing me. What the fuck do you got?
You should. I don't got a glass for it.
Right,
Oh
Joey.
well, we'll just pour.
Hurry up. I still want to get to that failed vegan socialist utopia.
We're good. Yeah, that's on our list. but there's-
Captain Morgan private stock.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some other stuff. So how much of the podcast did you guys catch with Timcast and Michael Michael Heise and Dave Smith? Did you guys catch a lot of it? Probably not.
No, I caught the amount that I was actually on for.
Yeah. So
Love
I
that.
don't know. Would have liked to hear more from Mike, but Dave did well, carried us through. Throughout that, though, we were talking about how in a libertarian society, communes would be allowed to exist. but in a socialist society, capitalism wouldn't be. And this reminded Mitch of some sort of vegan commie farm. So
yeah, Tim often talks about this a lot, how socialism could work on like a small scale kind of thing. And there's so many like examples throughout the late 1800s, especially in America, when communism and socialism were first rising up in the United States, of just these failed utopias. It's like every time someone got learned about socialism, like, man, let's go start a farm, and it always fails. But there was one in particular that I cannot remember the name of, but it's like the most crazy one that you could see the story of. I'm trying to find the name. I was trying to find the name throughout the podcast, but I couldn't. I think it's one of these three: the Octagon City, Shalimon Colony, or Ruskin Colony. I want to say it's the Ruskin Colony of the late 1800s, but I could be wrong. Anyways, basically these dudes founded this like vegetarian, I guess you could say what by now standards, vegan socialist colony, where they wouldn't, like, they could only plant certain crops to not disrupt the earthworms in the soil. And they didn't use animals for like farming at all, and it just failed miserably. And it ended with like all these disenchanted socialists just like trying to eat bugs to survive, and finally a bunch of them said fuck it and just abandoned the farm.
Get in the pod, eat the fucking bugs, farm the fucking socialist camp. Fuck you all.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. I want to say it's the Ruskin Colony. I could be wrong, but like it's there's a ton of these like failed socialist utopias in the late 1800s, especially.
Yeah, I don't know. So there was some other stuff that came up throughout the conversation that I have written down here. So we want to get Michael Heise on as soon as possible, and our next available show is the 17th. It's either going to be him or Jose Galison, because he was in here earlier. But I think Mike would actually be better, because like a preview to the shows that we have coming up. Next week, we've got Jeffrey Hahn to come on. We're going to talk about COVID and stuff as usual. And then on the 3rd, we've got Hector to come on to talk about DeSantis running for or running against DeSantis, whether or not we should run a candidate, what that might look like. And then on September 10th, we've got Eric Cordova coming on mainly to talk about whether the LP should be more focused on running candidates or spreading a message. And then, so I think the next person to have on after those two big conversations would be Michael Heise and the Mises Caucus. We could kind of pick his brain about those things too. So lots of pressure on Mitch and Robert to make that happen. But
well, Michael Heise?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rich just messaged us saying that in our group chat that he's gonna pressure Michael at the Solutionary Summit. So there we go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, you can't.
Rich Perez. He's gonna do it in person.
You can't deny our token brown person when he's in your face. Okay. So yeah, we were talking about something came up. I don't remember what exactly prompted it, but we were talking about Trump 2024. Do you think it's actually going to happen? Do you think Trump's actually going to win or not win?
Yeah.
Run. He's actually going to run.
Hell yeah, he's going to run.
You think so?
He'd be retarded not to. He'd be fucking stupid not to.
Well, that's the thing. He could run again, or he could sort of quote unquote pass the torch, maybe go around and do campaigns for we'll say Trump endorsed person, quote Ron DeSantis.
No, his ego is way too crazy big to do that. He's gonna sit back in Mar-a-Lago and have all these fucking politicians come over there and kiss his ass and come out there on media and wave at the cameras with him, and they're gonna vie for his fucking endorsement, and at the last minute when they least expect it, he's gonna jump in the race, fuck them all over, and while he's at it, he's gonna go, look at all these assholes who kissed my ass for the last couple months trying to get my endorsement because they were that desperate, because they know they need me because I'm fucking Donald Trump. Like, if he was smart, that was what I would do, at least. Like, he knows the kind of power he has, the kind of political capital he has. Why he wouldn't run for a second, like, why he wouldn't run again after he got the second most amount of overall votes in the popular election of any fucking candidate in American presidential history is fucking stupid. You obviously go back again for the go around. Just because you lost doesn't mean anything. But the reality is that he's going up against Kamala Harris next time, and that's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, going up against Officer Harris seems like a good move on his end. Also, with everything going on right now, has the perfect opportunity to be like, all right, look how bad things have gotten. Would not be like this under me.
Yeah.
Be totally different. Be totally
I don't know.
better.
I go back and forth on it. We were talking about this during the stream, but I go back and forth on this because like there are times where I see him doing things where he's giving these press conferences about the border crisis or whatever it is, and he's like doing the things you would expect somebody to do. He's still hosting rallies, he's still doing all of this stuff, but he's not like a main topic of discussion anymore, mainly because he's banned everywhere. But you know, he's just not really front and center like somebody like DeSantis is, and like DeSantis is like going straight after the Biden administration. Trump kind of just seems to be in the background more or less, and whether that's an effective censorship or that's like what he's doing now, I go back and forth on it. I can see it go either way. I think if he runs again, I mean, it could go either way. I don't know.
I really wish I could say I like Trump more than I do. Like if he had pardoned Assange and Snowden, I would be out of the LP and I would have never looked back.
Dude, if
like I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking.
If campaign Trump would have been the actual Trump, it would have been a lot different story.
If campaign Trump was actual Trump, we would somehow have spent more than 4 years of Bernie and still have cleared the national debt. The campaign Trump was not something that was possible to happen.
I don't know. He was talking about a lot of great things, and then he just did the opposite. Like,
well, yeah, every candidate talks.
I
about
wanted
great
Hillary
things.
for prison. What the hell?
Yeah.
I don't care.
What candidate doesn't say great? Okay, Joe Jorgensen. Of course, she's going to talk about we need to end the Federal Reserve. What can she actually do?
I don't even think she talked about that.
If you asked her about it, because I was at her Milwaukee rally, if you asked about it, she would say end the Fed, but it was not one of her forefront issues. I don't even think she had a plank in her platform.
If I'm just being real, Joe Jorgensen was a failure of a candidate because you had people in my family who didn't like Trump or Biden and were on her side at first, and then she was such a non-entity throughout the whole election. Spike was more of an entity than she was. That she just lost all these people who would have voted for her because they saw her. Well, they didn't see her lack of seeing her. She didn't do anything. Yeah. And the few times she did pop up, she went on, I think it was Eric Weinstein or Brett Weinstein, and was like unnecessarily hostile to them.
Yeah.
Like whichever one it was.
I don't know.
Like
the same way we laugh at the Republican Party for choosing Mitt Romney over Ron Paul, I still laugh at the LP for choosing fucking Gary Johnson over Austin Peterson, but hey, what do I know?
In 2020, we could have had Jacob Hornberger.
We could have had Hornberger.
This way.
Had Hornberger.
We could have had Vermin.
That's why I made the vaporwave memes that now I'm going to post relentlessly on all of our social media.
There you go.
we could have
had the Revolution 2.0.
So between our last show and this show, the biggest story has definitely been Afghanistan.
Yes.
Yeah, that's huge.
Thoughts. I feel like I see a lot of Republicans who are like, boo, we need to go back in there and fuck these Taliban guys.
Yep.
And first of all, shitty foreign policy, but foreign policy never changes in between administrations. More so, the people who say this they would not be saying it if Trump said it, because a lot of those people were cheering when Trump said we need to end the wars in Afghanistan or in the Middle East. And second, they pretend like Trump played no part in this. Let's recall the original date. Trump set the date at May 1st. Now, it would be shameful of me to not say he very specifically put it into the next term so that if he lost, Biden wouldn't have to deal with this. Right, and then that political capital falls on the loss of political capital falls onto the Democrats, specifically the Biden administration. But to pretend like Trump was not just talking about this, but he was actively working towards it, actively in quotes because
I mean,
they're all slaves to the military-industrial complex anyway.
this is
but
just my theory, given the situation, given Afghanistan and the way Trump is and everything. I think he set it for May, that way it would fall before the winter, so that he wouldn't have to deal with this, or whoever would have to deal with this when the fighting season begins.
Yeah.
Theoretically speaking, that would give us more time to give shitloads of money to our propped up government to make sure that the Taliban doesn't take it down. just saying that's just from their perspective. I think that's more so what you would see.
Yeah, and then I mean also just the sheer holy crap, all the things we left behind. See, I get it. It's literally cheaper for us to make new guns than to bring them back from Afghanistan. It's cheaper for us to make these new helicopters, new planes, than to bring them back. But at what point do you realize, hey, maybe we should be trying to pay, if we're really in favor of like not helping the Taliban, who we've just been feeding recruitment drives for 20 years, yes, we would be going the extra mile to actually bring our shit back, to not let them have it. But also, again, it's just the atrocities of millions of dollars of, let's just put vehicles aside, millions of dollars of just general equipment, rifles, ammunition in this fucking market. Other base stuff, fucking washing machines. We put it on a silver platter. Here you go, Taliban guys. Have at it. Sponsored by your old friend, the United fucking States. We just gave it to them.
Thermite.
So we did like the word. That's the worst thing we could have done when we did leave.
Me and Mitch were talking about this during the show when they were talking about Afghanistan. So 2 points about this. First of all, we don't think that, or you guys tell me if you disagree, but I don't think that Trump would have left the weapons and stuff there. He would have either taken them or destroyed them. He definitely wouldn't have left them behind the way that they were left behind. And then the second point about this is it's awfully suspicious that they would do something so stupid. And so, if you want to put the tinfoil hat on for a second, like they left that shit there on purpose so that the Taliban could come in and then they can have all this media coverage that they have right now to say, look at the humanitarian crisis. We have to go back.
I had another theory about this the other night too, that I didn't bring up on the stream, but what if this is a situation where it's like, okay, we know you're going to take over the government and you're going to take all of our stuff. Now, listen, we have this other country, China, that's been a big problem, and they're right next door to you.
Right.
Is this kind of one of those Eurasia's now the enemy? Eurasia's always been the enemy. East Asia is our ally. They've always been our ally.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in Hanlon's razor, which is just don't attribute anything to malice if it can be properly attributed to sheer incompetence. I've loved that since I found out about it about 2 weeks ago. I originally thought that this was just like the administration being thoroughly incompetent, so dumb that they didn't even plan any logistics to bringing gear back. But no, when you put it, when you lay it out like that, it seems right. Because I've always seen something was fishy. Because Biden's one of his big donors was the military-industrial complex. The second highest person in the chain of command for the military, the Secretary of Defense, is actively on the board of directors for Raytheon, the weapons developer. Guess what? That I really doubt that Biden was just going to unilaterally pull out and then sink the profits of Boeing and Raytheon and Northrop and Lockheed.
Mara, are you saying that you have a problem with a person of color being in that kind of position?
Fuck, damn it. You're right. I think, we need to spend trillions and trillions of dollars on the military because blah, blah, blah. It's going to benefit people of color. I'm not going to explain how, but it's going to help them, guys. We need to stand up for women's rights in Afghanistan.
Yeah. So I kind of want to start to wrap up a little bit, but I want to say, Joey, your notes from last show were taken into account, and we will not end the shows early when we run out or when we have more stuff to talk about. So if anybody has any other news stories that we want to cover, let's get to them now. Otherwise, let's do some plugs.
You guys see Lawrence of Kabul?
Wait, what?
I was saying, you guys seen the story of Lawrence of Kabul?
British
mad
lad.
I've
seen Lawrence of Kabul.
Okay.
That dude's fucking awesome.
You say mad lad, I know who you're talking about.
Oh, the bloody mad lad.
You say this other crap, I have no idea.
Lawrence, because Lawrence of Arabia. But so I guess this guy planned this trip back in May, but went to Afghanistan anyway, and ended up getting trapped over there. And he was just had like this such like optimistic take throughout the whole time. I watched an interview with him later on, and I guess he thought he was going to die the whole time. So he thought like, well, shit, if my family's watching, I might as well look like I'm happy and in good spirits. But the whole thing was just kind of like, there was almost like this dark humor to the whole thing.
Oh God, guys, Mom is in the chat. Celicia's here. Shit.
Oh yeah. That's all right. We're gonna wrap it up here soon.
Right.
Yeah, you guys want to do any kind of plugs? I mean, I'll plug the shows that we have coming up. You guys go for it.
MikeVermont2022.com. Sign up for the airboat tour September 4th. $145. I'm going to be there. Spike's going to be there. And also, we're telling Spike that there's going to be scuba diving in the Everglades. And I'm bringing my scuba gear just to sell it.
Mitch?
Secret's out now.
Check out the Libertarian Frontier on TeePublic and the Proud Libertarian for tons of awesome libertarian merch. And you can also find me on Twitter at CypherPunkScribe.
Didn't you just do a show earlier today that you didn't even plug?
I did. Oh yeah. Sorry, we've been drinking so much here. I did my first amateur deep dive. I don't think it was that great, but you got to start off somewhere. Where basically I gave a new theory on the internet mystery of Cicada 3301 that I haven't seen any YouTuber put out there. So if you're into crazy internet mysteries and all that crazy shit, yeah, I'm doing all that there. CypherPunkScribe as well on YouTube.
Josh, what do you got coming up?
Well, Mara kind of stole my thunder with the Mike Vermont airboat ride, but that gives me the opportunity to lead into September 3rd. We're going to be having the Mike and Spike dinner event at the Tamarack Moose Lodge. Get your tickets, MikeVermont2022.com/dinner, or it might be / I don't know. I work in sales, not fucking IT, so I couldn't tell you. But show up, come to the dinner, come hang out. Tickets will be sold at the door the day of the event, but they do not include dinner. So if you want dinner, come with that. Otherwise, if you want to follow me on Twitter, at Halafka for Liberty, that's HLAV as in Victor, KA for Florida. Done.
Oh, you should check your Twitter. I set you up for Slam Dunk.
Speaking of Twitter, Rob's here. Speaking of Twitter, our Twitter is blowing the fuck up right now. So
Rob's been popping in incrementally.
Hold on,
I couldn't hear you guys through Tim Pool's podcast, so I was like, I gotta hop out. I couldn't hear the conversation. It was bad.
Did that go on there? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna promote our next show's coming up, and we're gonna close this one out. So thanks for joining us for the SwampCast watch party. Hopefully we can do more of these in the future when our boys get on big name shows like this. Coming up next, our next week episode, we've got Jeffrey Hahn coming on. Who is Jeffrey Hahn, Mitch?
Jeffrey Hahn is a writer for a website called The Journalistic Revolution. He has been really great in regards to COVID, lockdowns, and all that stuff. And also, he recently became a citizen of the glorious nation of Sealand.
There we go. So we're going to talk to him about COVID and his great coverage on it and how he can fight back, all that kind of stuff. And then the next week after that, we've got our boy Hector Bruce coming on. We're going to be talking about whether or not the Libertarian Party of Florida should run a candidate against Ron DeSantis. There are people on both sides of that argument here in this chat, so it's going to be a great discussion between all of us. And then the week after that, we've got Eric Cordova coming on. He is the chair of the Queens Libertarian Party in New York. Vice chair, sorry. The main topic of discussion for him is going to be whether the LP should be more focused on messaging or running candidates. And so those are all going to be some great shows. If you want to be a guest on the sorry, I'm trying to close this while I'm talking. If you want to be a guest on the Swamp Creatures podcast, just get in contact with us on Twitter at Real SwampCast. Links and all that stuff are in all the descriptions. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be here next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you.
Peace.
Have a great night, everybody.